Only Amelia by Jennifer L. Holm. Let me show you the picture. From my mother and father and my grandfather, Michael Hearn, who taught me to follow my heart. Acknowledgements. It feels weird to read acknowledgements. I don't know why it always does. And here's the map. If you don't go, you can't return. Finnish proverb. Our only male Amelia. Chapter 1. My brother Wilbert tells me. My brother Wilbert tells me that I was first ever girl born in Nasal and that I was a miracle. He tells me this as we stand at the edge of the water of the Nasal River, watching it rush by crazily. He is trying to cheer me up. Wilbert has found me here on the baby island where I've run away on account of Papa being awful to me. Even Wilbert says it is terrible that Papa was awful to me today on my own birthday. Wilbert is 13 and my favorite brother, which is something indeed, since I have so many brothers, more than any girl should have. My secret birthday wish is to get a sister, but I don't know how likely that is. These are my brothers. Maddie is 18. Carlo is 17 and 1/2, and is really our cousin, but I guess he's sort of a brother. Isaiah is 16, Wendell is 15, Alvin is 14. Ivan is 14 too, he is Alvin's twin, and they look alike as two blackberries. Only Wilbert and I can tell them apart. Even Mama has trouble. Wilbert is 13, May Amelia Jackson is 12, that is me. We live on the Nasal in the state of Washington. It is 1899. Papa is always yelling at me, "Don't get into mischief, May Amelia," when all I'm ever doing is what some other boy has done first. He says that I am a girl, and because I'm a girl cannot be doing what boys are doing, that there is danger everywhere. Wilbert tells me that Papa has had a hard life, that you can see the hardness in his lines in his face, and that what's coming all the way to Washington after being pressed into the Finnish Navy and leaving Finland. That's why he's hard on me, but Wilbert's wrong. Papa doesn't like little girls very much in general, and me in particular. Mama has a baby in her belly, and Papa said, "Children, I sure hope your Mama gives us another boy, because I don't think I can stand another May Amelia." He said this in front of all the boys, after hollering at me for going up to Ben Armstrong's logging camp by myself. I said, "But Ivan and Alvin go up by themselves," and he said, "May Amelia, I will not abide any arguments." "But Papa," I said, that he hollered so loud I'm sure they heard him all over the Peterson farm. "That logging camp's a dangerous place for a young girl," he hollered. "I don't want you running around there, do you hear me?" Then his eyebrows got all fierce looking and met in the middle, and he shook his finger at me, and that was that. I hate it when he scolds me, so I ran away. I took the little rowboat onto Nasal, and went to Baby Island and hid in the old sorcerer tree until Wilbert came to fetch me home. He's the only one who knows about the sorcerer tree. It's all hollow-like and fits a small child like me just fine. I say, "Wilbert, I reckon I would like to be buried in the sorcerer tree when I die," and he says, "Fine, May, but you're not likely to die anyways. You're only 12 and you have to be old enough to die. Didn't you know that?" I say I did, but I was just a-planning. And now Wilbert is fooling around with Bosie, trying to get Bosie to jump into the water and chase after the little fishies. Bosie's a scruffy dog. His hair is missing in places from where it's been lost in fights and the mean raccoon who lives behind the milking barn. It is starting to get hot, but it nearly being June, and here on the Nasal the breeze is hiding and the mosquitoes are trying to bite me the way Bosie is trying to bite the little fishies in the water. Bosie is a strong swimmer, but the Nasal is rough, and the water is dragging him downstream. "Wilbert," I say, "fetch Bosie out before he washes into the Saltwater Bay." Nasal runs into the Shoalwater Bay, farther downstream and then into the wide ocean. To the south overland is the mighty Columbia River, and on the other side of the Columbia is Oregon and Astoria. Astoria is the only real city in these parts, and so it's a wicked place full of Shanghaiers and seamen and all sorts of fancy folks. Not like out here in the Nasal where the only fancy thing is a new pair of shoes. At least that's what Wilbert tells me. I have never been there myself. Our Aunt Alice lives there. She is very fancy indeed. She's coming to visit on account of my birthday, and so are my Aunt Feeny and Uncle Henry. I am turned 12 this very day, and I've spent most of it hiding in a tree. Wilbert whistles for Bosie. Bosie is not a very good fisher dog. He has caught one fish only, and a small one at that. Not even enough for a small child's supper. When he gets out of the water, he shakes his scruffy fur and gets Wilbert all wet. "Stop it, Bosie," Wilbert yells. Wilbert scowls fiercely, and the scar crinkles under his eye from where Carlo decked him in a fight. "Let us try and fish," I say. "We can get some salmon and surprise Mama. Now that Mama has a baby in her belly, she is worn out all the time, so I have to help her a lot around the house with the cooking and just about everything. That is why I hope the new baby will be a girl. Then all the hard work will be worth it. Not to mention, I am tired of being the only girl around here." The baby island is a very small island in the middle of the Nasal River down from our farm. When I was a small child, I used to believe it was where all the babies came from on account of its name. It's a good place for fishing, even though it is where the Chinooks bury their dead. I have never seen a dead Indian here, but I expect they keep him hid. Those Indians sure are clever. Wilbert swears to me that the baby island is cursed on account of the Chinook spirits. They wander there, but I think he is only just scared, and he calls things names when he is scared of them. He tells me our teacher, Miss McEwing, is a witch, and she is the most loveliest woman I have ever seen. When she is sweet and nice and kind to us children, not all like old Mr. Barton, who used to whip our hands with pine branches. No, indeed, Miss McEwing even lets us take off our wet clothes and sit by the pot-bellied stove to dry off when the weather is bad, which is almost always, it seems. Wilbert doesn't like the studies and cannot speak English very well, only Finnish. And Miss McEwing is always correcting him, saying, "Speak English, Wilbert Jackson." Mama says all us children must learn to speak English, or else we will always have trouble, even though she and Papa speak mostly Finnish. Near about everyone around here speaks Finnish. Our real last name is Juntila, but when Papa came over from Finland, they said it would be better for him if he had an American name, and that is why we are Jacksons. Wilbert has a hard time with English, and one time he peeked at my answer sheet when Miss McEwing was clear across the room looking the other way. "No wandering eyes, Wilbert Jackson," she said. Ever since then, Wilbert has been convinced Miss McEwing is a witch. Even though Wilbert gets scared, it is okay because he is only afraid of Miss McEwing and the Chinook spirits on the baby island. Nothing else scares him. Not even Papa's belt. He has come all the way to Baby Island, which he thinks is cursed to find me, Amelia, a no good girl. I have plenty of brothers, but only one Wilbert. We go to the part of the island where the water is slow and the fishes are fat and lazy. The breeze blows gently here, and I think it is not a bad thing after all to be spending my birthday fishing with Wilbert. There is nothing I like better. My line is in the water, and right away it seems I feel a tug. The line tugs hard, and I tug back. A salmon's silky fin slip-slides in the water. "I got one, Wilbert," I yell. "Hold on, May," he says, and drops his own line and runs over. He helps grab the pole. But the salmon is strong. It's pulling hard, and Bosie's barking and barking, and then all of a sudden Bosie jumps into the water and bites my fish. "Bosie, let go," Wilbert and I say together. But dumb old Bosie caught only the hook. The fish, who is smarter than our dog, has gotten away. Bosie's yelping and whining on account of the hook that's stuck in his cheek. Wilbert dives right into the nasal, clothes and all, and brings Bosie back to shore. He is a sad dog indeed by the time Wilbert drops him on the bank. "Hold him down, May," Wilbert says. "I gotta take the hook out of his cheek." Bosie's plenty mad. The hook must hurt him terribly, but still I hold him down. Wilbert just sticks his hand right into Bosie's mouth and pries the hook out of Bosie's bleeding, but he's happy to have the hook out of his mouth. He yelps and licks Wilbert's face. "You sure are a dumb dog, Bosie," Wilbert says. We live in a valley in a homestead along the Nasal. Our land snakes from high upriver near Ben Armstrong's logging camp right down to a bay by our house, where we have a small dock so that a body can tie up a rowboat, which is very handy indeed. There are big fat mountains to the north, full of tall pine trees and all sorts of Chinook secrets. Our farm has cows and sheep and pigs and a fat barn cat named Buttons. We make milk and sell it, and the cream too, to the Sunshine Mill down river. Aunt Alice is at the house when we get home. She has come all the way from Astoria on account of my birthday. It is a long journey, and she hardly ever visits because of the distance, but she always comes on my birthday. You are my only niece, May Amelia, and that is cause for celebration any day, Aunt Alice always says. Aunt Alice is Mama's sister's from Boston, and she has got a husband that still looks just fine to me. I may not have a husband if I can live like Aunt Alice in her lovely house in Astoria. Wilbert says that he has a flower garden in the back, and real photographs of folks on the walls, and always smells like a lady, not like a cow. Mama looks real tired when we come in. Her dark hair is drooping out of the bun, and her shoulders are sagging. She is rubbing the place on her belly where the new baby is growing. Mama takes one look at Wilbert and me and Bosie standing there dripping wet and says, "I sure hope you children caught some fish if you took a dunk at the Nasal." "Yeah," says Carlo nastily, "you were gone long enough." "Sure you weren't up at Ben Armstrong's camp, May Amelia?" he says, trying to get me into trouble. "Shut up, Carlo," I say. "Don't be mean to May," Wayndale says. It's her birthday. Wendell is such a good brother. He is always sticking up for me. What did you catch, May? Maddie asks gently. Did you catch salmon? Ivan and Alvin say together. Hush, boys, Mama says. Did you catch any fish at all, May? I shrug. No, Wilbert says with a grin, but we caught a dog. Alice shoos Wilbert and all the boys out of the kitchen and says, May, why don't you and I fix supper and let your poor sweet Mama rest a while before she drops that babe of hers right here on the rug? Aunt Alice is wearing a fine rose-colored silk dress with real shell buttons, and her hair is shiny and golden and tied up in a fancy bob with ribbons. I don't think I've ever seen Mama in a dress as pretty as Aunt Alice's. She most often wears a black cotton skirt with a white blouse, and since Aunt Alice looks so pretty and Mama is sitting down drinking the cider that Alice has brought, I go about fixing supper real quiet-like so they can talk and tell secrets. Aunt Alice treats me as if I'm all grown up and not only 12, which is fine by me because I mostly feel as if I am practically 100 years old. Aunt Alice says to Mama, Dear Alma, why, you've had some child in that stomach of yours forever, it seems. Haven't you had enough? I thought you weren't going to have any more. Mama just sits there and says, Alice, are you here to help or hinder? Because I ain't abiding any hinderers right now. I'm a helper, Mama, I say. You sure are a darling. Thank God for May. Alice, I swear all these boys put together wouldn't know how to butter a slice of bread if there weren't a woman in the room. That's just their nature, Alma, says Alice, smoothing down her fine skirt. After 7 boys, I would have thought you'd be used to them by now. I hope you have a girl, Mama, I say. We can call her Little Alice after Aunt Alice. Aunt Alice smiles at me. Why, May Amelia, you really are a dear, she says. Who would have thought there would be such a lady way out here in the middle of nowhere? Nasel is truly in the middle of nowhere. Why, there's nothing here but land and trees and elk and sheep and bears and boys. Mostly boys, though. There haven't been any girls born out here since me, and I am the only young girl in the island schoolhouse. Sometimes I see Chinook Indian girls when I am in the woods, but the closest finished girls my age are near Napton, too far for playing. The front door opens and Uncle Henry and Aunt Freeney come in carrying a box with a yellow bow. Aunt Feeney is Papa's sister, and she is married to Uncle Henry, and they are my favorite relations after Aunt Ellis because they are so nice to Wilbert and me. Uncle Henry is much older than Aunt Feeney, and Papa says Feeney married him for his riches, although I cannot imagine what Papa means because they have no more money than us and do not have hardly at all. Mama says Papa is a stubborn old Finn who doesn't like foreigners and not to mind him. Uncle Henry is Scottish, not Finnish like everybody else around here, but I don't think it matters one bit because he is the smartest person I have ever met. Why, he can speak 5 languages on account of being a famous sea captain. His real name is Neil McNeil, and Mama says that he changed his name when he came to America because of some trouble that he had back in Scotland. Now he is just Henry Smith, which is very American indeed. He has a room in his house filled with nothing but books. We don't have enough books to fill even one shelf. Papa says they were run for books because they could not have a baby on account of Uncle Henry always being away at sea. Well, if it isn't my favorite niece, Uncle Henry says with a smile, swooping me into his arms for a bear hug. He even looks like a bear with his bushy red beard and broad chest and big belly. I am all sticky and my braid come undone and my shirt has got mud on it from the donkey and the nasal. I do not look like a birthday girl. And in Wilbert's old torn dungarees, I don't think I look much like a girl at all. Uncle Henry eyes me and shakes his head. Hey, Amelia, you look like you've been shanghaied. Uncle Henry roars with a laugh. Aunt Feeney hands me a box. This is for you, May. Happy birthday, my dear. Uncle Henry wanders off the porch where Papa is smoking his pipe, and I tear open the box. It is a baby doll. She is the most beautiful baby doll I have ever seen, with a real china face and a white silk dress. Truly, it is the loveliest thing I have ever owned. Do you like her, May? Aunt Feeney asks anxiously. Aunt Feeney is not as pretty as Aunt Alice, but she has a kind heart. Her eyes are gray as a gull's wing, and have sad pull to them. I think she wishes she had a child. It's a fine doll, Mama says. Wilbert, Wendell, Ivan, Alvin, Carlo, and Isaiah crowd around me. It sure is pretty, May Amelia, Wendell says. I reckon I could help you make another dress for it. What are you going to call her, May? Wilbert says. Baby Feeney, I say, looking at my aunt, and Feeney smiles. A minute later, my big brother Matty comes in carrying a wooden crate. He sets it down in front of me with a grunt. It's from all us boys, May Amelia, Matty says. Happy birthday. I take the lid off the crate, and inside is a fine, sturdy-looking carved wooden pirate ship attached to a long string. It's for Susanna. Alvin says, Susanna is my rag doll. So that she can search for treasure, Isaiah suggests, and go out on the nasal, Ivan says. And when you can't, May Amelia, Wilbert says, and everybody laughs. Even Carlo. Wilbert and I go out on the porch where Uncle Henry is sitting with Papa. Uncle Henry is a famous sea captain and has traveled everywhere. Why, he has been to Sandwich Islands and the East Indies even. He always has stories about sailors being shanghaied all the way to the Orient. He says that fall asleep in their beds and wake up on a bunk of the rolling waves. You can take me to China any time, I always tell Uncle Henry. I'd do anything to get away from Nasal. I'd be happy to get shanghaied or even wake up in the old China Sea. Uncle Henry leans forward and puffs on his ivory pipe. I was just telling your father here about the time I sailed around Cape Horn up to San Francisco and toward the Shoalwater Bay. I very nearly didn't make it that time. When we reached Cape Disappointment, our ship got caught in an awful storm and nearly crashed into the cliff rocks, he says. I guess that's why the old sailors call it Cape Disappointment, Uncle Henry, I say. He says, I guess so, Miss May Amelia. And wasn't I nearly the fool to pay no mind to the salty old dogs? At supper, Mama tells the children that Aunt Feeny is going to stay with us for a spell on account of Uncle Henry's sailing trip. Where are you off to now, Henry? Aunt Alice asks. Heading to San Francisco, Alice, Uncle Henry says between bites. Fine stew you got here, Alma. Aunt Feeny says she'll be right lonely, with Henry being gone, and has decided to get a cooking job with Nora Twilla at Ben Armstrong's logging camp, which is situated a few miles away up the Nasal from our farm. The forest heading up to Ben Armstrong's is too thick for roads, so the loggers use the Nasal to get the logs down. We live at the bay of the Nasal, and that's where all the logs from Armstrong's logging camp eventually float down to. We'll be happy to have you here, Feeny, won't we, May Amelia? Mama says with a wink at me. The boys will sort you out of bed. I'm so excited I can hardly contain my own self just imagining Aunt Feeny living with us. It will only be until Uncle Henry gets back from sea and she tells me, but I say fine, that's plenty long. It's almost as nice a gift as the baby doll. When everyone is in bed, I whisper to Wilbert. Wilbert and I share a room at the back of the house near the barn, and sometimes I can hear the cows lowing. I wish we could live with Uncle Henry and Aunt Feeny in Astoria, I say. We can't, May, Wilbert whispers back. How come? Because we just can't, he says. We have to help mind the farm. I know this too, but I wish we didn't have to always mind the farm. I am busy with chores and whatnot nearly all the time now since Mama has got the baby coming. There's hardly ever any time for tricks and adventures these days. We are up at the crack of dawn in bed later and later every night. The door creaks open and Wendell creeps in and sits on our bed. Wendell is my second favorite brother after Wilbert. Wendell wears eyeglasses on account of being blind as a bat, and he squints at the candlelight. Papa had to go all the way to Astoria to fetch glasses for him. Carlo's snoring is too loud, he says. I won't get a wink. I'm sleeping in here. Shove on over, Wilbert. Wilbert moves over, and now there are 3 children in a bed meant for 2. I've been telling Wilbert here that I want to leave the farm, I say. I want to leave the farm too, May Amelia. I'll never learn to be a doctor in these parts, Wendell says. Wendell has always wanted to be a real doctor, and I suspect that one day he will if he ever gets off the farm. Wendell is always saying that I can do whatever I want to do, and that the best thing for me would be to get off the farm and go out into the wide world. He always tells me that I have sisu, which is Finnish for guts, and that I can do anything. It always makes me feel better when he tells me this. Outside the window, the sky is black, and the stars are winking at me. I watch the fireflies dancing in the field and realize my birthday is nearly over, and I haven't made my secret birthday wish yet. Mama says that a wish made on a birthday always comes true. I don't know about that, though. Last year I wished for Carlo to stop being so mean to me all the time, but he's still the same mean old Carlo. Still, it can't hurt to try. I think it's hard, but an early wish. Easy wish. I can't tell anyone, not even Wilbert, and he is my very best brother. I can't tell him because he'll never understand what it is like to be me, May Amelia Jackson, the only Jackson girl, and the only girl in Nasal. I squeeze my eyes tight and wish hard with my heart that Mama has a little baby girl, so that I can have a sister. I just made a birthday wish, a whisper. But Wilbert and Wendell aren't listening to me. They're too busy snoring. Chapter 2. There ain't no gentleman on the Nasal. When Aunt Alice leaves in the morning, she asks Mama if the twins Ivan and Alvin can go to Astoria to help mend her roof. We are in the kitchen discussing it when Alvin and Ivan come begging down the stairs. Their hair is all messed up from sleeping funny, and it's sticking straight up in places. The twins squint sleepily at us. It'll be nice to have gentlemen around, Aunt Alice says, skeptically eyeing the twins. Mama just sighs. Since Aunt Alice has no man of her own, she has to borrow my brother's, which is just fine by me. I do not mind one bit lending them out from time to time. I'll send them along to you tomorrow, Mama says. May, you and Wilbert can go too. I need you to shop for me while the boys tend to Alice's roof. We need just about everything. I can barely stand the whole rest of the day. I can't wait to go to Astoria, and for the whole weekend, I have never been to Astoria. and I've only heard about it from the boys. Papa always says it is too rough and wild for a young girl like me. Aunt Feeny comes down, and I tell her the good news. I'm going to Astoria, I say. Good for you, May. I'll look after your mama while you are gone. I know how much work you've been doing around here lately, but I'm here now, and I'll lend a hand while I can. I'm the first one up in the morning and finish the chores as quick as I can be. Papa comes down the stairs and says suspiciously, "What are you doing up so early, May Amelia?" He knows I am not fond of getting up early. Papa always calls me May Amelia when I am in trouble. We're going to Astoria, I say. Papa frowns and says, "I don't know if that's such a good idea." Mama walks in and gets Papa on the shoulder and says, "I need May to do some shopping for me. It's too far for me to travel with the baby on the way, and I can't spare anyone else right now. Let her go, Jalmer. The boys will keep an eye on her." Papa just looks at me long and hard, so hard his shaggy eyebrows meet, and finally he says, "You best not get into mischief," and stumps out the kitchen. Mama says, "Be careful, children. May Amelia is sure to mind your brothers and be back by supper on Sunday. Out here in Washington there are no roads, but we have the nasal. We use the nasal to go everywhere, even to the school. It is the only way to get around. I learned how to navigate on the nasal when I was only 5. Wilbert taught me, and I think I'm good, but Wilbert is the only one of the boys who will let me steer the boat. Our schoolhouse is on the Smith Island, which is in the middle of the nasal. We are close enough to the Pacific Ocean that sometimes we cannot go to school if the tides are not with us. You also have to be careful of all the snags in the water, but with the logging men and sending lumber downstream. Sometimes they pile up the beaver houses and the boat gets stuck. Me and Wilbert and Alvin and Ivan must go to Napton, where we will catch the boat to Astoria. We can take the little rowboat part ways, but then we will have to tie it up and walk the rest of the way to Napton, which is quite far indeed. One time Papa had his tonsils taken out by a doctor in Astoria, where the St. Mary's Hospital, with no ether or anything, and then he took the boat from Astoria to Napton and then ran all the way back home. After the boys heard that story, Alvin and Ivan ran the whole way back to Napton to our house, never once stopping, only just to prove that they were as strong as Papa. I'm sure I could run that far myself, even though Carlo says that girls can't run for spit, but he forgets that I can spit right well. The sunny sun is out a-shining, which it barely ever does. On the nasal is calm and smooth as the inside of a clamshell. We pass by the Peterson farm, and our friend Lonnie Peterson waves to us and runs down the side of the water. The Petersons are the only Finnish family on this part of the nasal that have a savusana, a smoke sauna, and so folks are always stopping by to enjoy it. Papa helped Mr. Peterson build the sauna, which resembles a small cabin. They used cedar wood, so it smells real fine and sets right on the nasal, so a body can have a dip when it gets too hot from the rock furnace, which it most often does. All the Finns love the sauna, including me, especially in the winter. We undress down to our drawers and sit in the hot sauna till our bones feel like they're melting. That's when it gets too hot, we run out and jump into the nasal and cool off till our skin tingles all over. It's heaps more fun than taking a bath, and you get just as clean. Mama says that back in Finland, the doctors wouldn't see a body unless they'd been in the sauna first. "Hi, Lonnie," I say. "Where are you going, May?" Lonnie says. Lonnie is a little snow and has trouble understanding things. He has a terrible hard time speaking English at school. Me and Lonnie always speak in Finnish when we are not at school, even though Mama says I am not helping him one bit. "We're going to Astoria to see my Aunt Alice. Can I come?" "No, Lonnie," I say, "not this time." He shakes his head sadly. Lonnie is a big boy, wide and strong, but in his mind he is like a small boy's on account of an accident he had when he was small. You have to explain everything to him. "How come?" he says. "Just because, Lonnie. We'll see you when we come home," I call. "Bye, May. Bye, Wilbur. Bye, Alvin. Bye, Ivan," he yells, waving. And as we turn the bend in the nasal, Lonnie is still there, waving to us from the shore. Alvin and Ivan are rowing the boat, and Wilbert's cleaning his gun. These brothers of mine are always cleaning their guns. You would think we were in the middle of a war right now. They are always talking about wars and Confederates and Union men and such. They go near stories from Jacob Clayton on the next farm over, who fought the southern side and lost 3 fingers on his left hand. He has only his thumb and forefinger. And when he points, it looks as if his hand is a small gun, which is the shape it makes. Mr. Clayton is always telling my brothers about the battles and the ambushes and the men he saw killed. He talks about having the dysentery all through one winter, no shoes to speak of, nothing to eat but dried out rotten venison, and how he deserted the army after he got his finger shot off by a boy no more than 12. He says he had to crawl over piles of dead bodies to get off the battlefield, and that when he got off, he passed out for the pain and woke up in a farmhouse with all the other wounded and the surgeon going out to saw off his hand. Then he saw the surgeon with a saw blade, and he pulled out his knife and put it to the surgeon's throat and told him that he would gut the man sooner than let him cut off his hand. After that, he ran away, joined up with a group of homesteaders who were heading west, and now he is our closest neighbor, 2 miles over on the nasal. I am always amazed that he traded all that excitement just to be a farmer. The barrel of Wilbert's gun is glinting in the sun, and I say, "Let me see your gun there, Wilbert." Wilbert hands me his gun, and I look down the long barrel. "I want to learn how to shoot," I say. Alvin and Ivan look at each other at the same time, and Ivan shakes his tiny blonde head. All my brothers have fine blonde, finished hair, except Wilbert, whose hair is white. When Wilbert goes hunting with Wildcat Clark, he puts mud in his hair so he blends in with the pine trees, which I think is a very good idea. Me, I don't have any finished blonde hair. Mine's brown as the bottom of the nasal. I don't think Papa likes me because I haven't got blonde hair like the rest of the boys. Mama says that I stand out like a brown elk in a blonde herd. It makes me lonely sometimes, being the only one that's different. It makes me wish even harder for our little sister. "Papa will kill us for sure if we let you shoot that gun," Alvin says. "Shotgun shells are very expensive indeed. They are so expensive that when the boys go hunting, Papa tells them that if they do not kill two geese with exactly every shot, then we are losing money." "But what if I'm by myself and a cougar attacks me, or a bear even?" I say. "There are black bears everywhere, and they are very fierce. Carlo and Matty got chased nearly all the way home by a bear one time. Why, the bit of the nasal by Jacob Clayton's farm is called Bear Bend on account of the bears always fishing there. Mama always says no swimming at Bear Bend." Wilbert is on my side. "Yeah, May ought to know how to shoot," he says. "She's a girl," Alvin and Ivan say together. "But she's 12 now," Wilbert says, exasperated. Alvin and Ivan exchange a look. Sometimes I wonder if they read each other's thoughts because they are twins. Mama says that when Alvin and Ivan were born it was like a miracle. Imagine having two whole babes, where there were only supposed to be one. "Well," I say, "can I?" They both nod reluctantly. "I want to learn right now," I say, excited. "But Aunt Alice is expecting us in this afternoon," Ivan says. Ivan and Alvin seem like they're always minding everybody, 'cause they never get into trouble like me. But Wilbert tells me that they are really mischievous and that they never get into trouble on account of being so sneaky and sly. "She won't mind if we're a little late," I say. "We'll be here all weekend. We are not far from Olaf's Kula farm." "Let's tie the boat up over by the stone," Wilbert says. Alvin and Ivan paddle us to the shore. "Is it safe to stop here?" Alvin says. "Everybody knows that Olaf Kula has been crazy ever since the nasal flooded his farmland. It is now mostly marshy tidelands, but Olaf Kula won't leave, and he survives by boarding local gillnetters. Olaf Kula claims that his hand is haunted by ghosts that followed him over from the Jyväskylä, Finland. Papa says Olaf Kula has been in the bottle ever since the flood and sees strange things on account of it." "Sure," Wilbert says, not sounding very sure at all. We walk a little bit to the tidelands where no one is likely to see us. Alvin ties a cattail around a tree with a brown furry piece in the front. "You're gonna aim at this here," Alvin says, waving the cat. Wilbert puts his gun in my arms and shows me how to hold it. It's big and nearly as heavy as Bosie. "When you fire, it's gonna hit your shoulder," Wilbert says. "You have to look down the barrel to aim." I take a deep breath and hold the gun. It is my only chance. I just know if I miss, the boys won't let me try again, and I know I am just as good as any boy. Wilbert is staring at me hard, a stare that says you can do it. Time's a-wasting. I pull the trigger and the gun explodes. It jerks out of my arm and fires into the air, and I land flat on my back. "Are you all right, May?" Wilbert says. "Did I miss?" I ask. All of a sudden there is a gunshot in the marsh, and a flock of ducks go flying into the sky. A wild-looking man appears riding an old shaggy mare. The mare and the man resemble each other. They are both so scruffy-looking. The man is waving a rifle in the air and shaking his fist at us. "It's Olaf Kula." "Where's Alvin and Ivan?" I say, looking around, but they are nowhere to be seen. "Come on, May," Wilbert says, pulling at me. "Hurry!" Olaf Kula is riding fast toward us on his mare. "You ghosts, get out of here before I tan your backsides," he hollers, taking aim at us. "We ain't ghosts," I shout out, but Wilbert grabs my arm and he says, "He's crazy, May, run." But Olaf Kula is gaining on us and he fires a shot, just missing. "Faster, May," Wilbert shouts. All of a sudden, Alvin pops up in the middle of the marsh. "You crazy old man," Alvin yells. Olaf Kula whirls around and takes a shot at Alvin. Alvin ducks down quick as can be. I hear him moan like he is shot. "Got you good, you trespassing ghost. That'll teach ya," Olaf Kula yells shakily. "Alvin's shot," I say. "He's faking," says Wilbert. "Let's go." Olaf Kula turns his attention back on us, and we duck down into the grass. Just then, on the other side of the marsh, Ivan pops his head up. He is an exact picture of Alvin. "You crazy old man," Ivan hollers, repeating Alvin's words like he is a ghost. Olaf Kula looks at Ivan and then back over to where he fired at Alvin. "I just shot you," Olaf Kula says, confused now. "You're haunting me, you ghosts," Alvin pops up and the twins say in unison. "We surely are, and we'll keep on haunting you as long as you keep shooting at us," Alvin shouts. "Get off of my farm," Olaf Kula moans, sounding scared. "He really thinks they're ghosts," I say. "He's drunk as a skunk in May," Wilbert says. Olaf Kula peers at Alvin and Ivan and moans some more. "Hurry," Wilbert calls to Ivan and Alvin, and they run quickly toward us. We jump into the rowboat and start rowing as fast as we can. Olaf Kulov rides his horse along the bank. He takes aim and fires at us. We all duck down. The shot clips our boat and splinters go flying. "Stay off of my farm, you blasted goats. Go back to Yavaskala," he hollers, shaking his fist. The fast-moving Nasal rescues us, and when we look back, he's just a speck on the shore. Wilbur eyes the spot where Olaf Kula got the boat. "Papa's going to kill us," he says with certainty. That's the truth for sure. By the time we reach Astoria nearly 4 hours later, the long walk and the boat ride, we are exhausted for sure. But as we pull to the harbor, my eyes widen at the very sight of this town. It is not like anything I've ever seen. This is Astoria, a seaman's village, with houses perched on the cliffs overlooking the bay like eggs on hay, waiting to teeter off. The houses are fancy, nothing at all like the farmhouses of Nasal. Astorian houses have scallops of gingerbread trim around all the porches and roofs and doors, and some of them are painted so pretty that they look just like cakes waiting to be eaten by a hungry giant. The docks are crowded with boats and sailors and Chinooks and Gilnetters and salmon fishermen. Gilnetters have their own special boat called a bateau, which has sails that look like the delicate wings of a bat. Uncle Henry says that the bateau resemble boats from China called junks, and that sometimes when he looks down at the bay crowded with bateaux, he thinks he is back in the Orient. Papa says that when Astoria is a wild, roughneck town full of lawless rough riders and swindlers and harlots, but it looks pretty tame to me. In the teeming crowds I notice strange-looking men with slender eyes and long black pigtails. They are all wearing loose-fitting trousers and long tops that resemble nightshirts. They aren't Chinooks, but what could they be? Wilbert catches me seeing through the strange-looking men and says, "Why, they're Chinamen, May. Haven't you ever seen a Chinaman?" "No, Wilbur," I say, exasperated. "I have never been out of Nasal. How do you expect I would never have seen a real-life Chinaman?" "I've never heard of the Orient and the Chinaman from Uncle Henry, but this is the first time I have seen one in person." "Whew," Wilbert says, crinkling his nose. "It's stinkier than a cow stall." And he's right. Between all the smells of fresh fish and ripe sailors, it's pretty smelly down there at the docks. There's a salmon cannery setting right on the docks, and it appears that they are just throwing all the fish guts right back into the water, and that is no doubt because of the fierce smell. As we make our way up the winding road to Aunt Alice's house at the top of the hill, the salty ocean air breezes across my face. It is quite a climb to where Aunt Alice lives, and it is getting dark. Wilbur tugs on my arm and says, "Look around there, will you, May?" I turn around and see the most glorious sunset on the bay. It is as if the very sun is sinking into the water, bleeding every color pink as it goes down. "Red at night, seaman's delight. Bloody in the morning, sailor takes warning," Ivan says. That's what Uncle Henry always says. I wonder when Uncle Henry will be back from his voyages. "Soon, I imagine, May Amelia," says Alvin. He was only going to San Francisco, not very far at all. When we reach Aunt Alice's house, she is sitting on her pretty porch on a rocking chair with a glass of something in her hand. Wilbert says it is wine. She is so very beautiful, my aunt, with her shiny bright hair twisted high on her head like a lady, not like Mama, with her knot all falling apart. She is wearing a dress the color of a robin's egg, and for the way it shines I know it is silken. There are tiny polished buttons from the top to the bottom. She looks like a real-live princess. "I was worried about you, gentlemen," Aunt Alice says. "Did you have a late start?" Wilbert says. "Well, you see," Ivan cuts Wilbert off and says, "Papa wanted us to help bring in the sheeps. They were in an ornery mood." I can see what Wilbert means about Ivan and Alvin being so sneaky. It's not a bad lie. "Yeah," Alvin says, "we had to dig them out of the muck in the swamp." "Oh my," she says, "it sounds like a real adventure." Alvin and Ivan and Wilbert roll their eyes and give me a look that says only Aunt Alice would think that sheep mucking is an adventure. "May, what a cunning little dress that is on your doll. Did your Mama make that for you?" Aunt Alice says. "Wendell made it," I say, with a gunny sack. "Wendell made it?" "Well, that's not something you hear about gentlemen doing every day," she says, arching her eyebrow. "I have been practicing my sewing and mending on Susanna, my doll. She's a rag doll with a cotton face and button eyes and not fancy like the baby doll Aunt Feeny gave me. I don't play with the baby doll for fear of it breaking. My brother Wendell, who is very clever at mending and sewing things, has been teaching me how to draw dress patterns and stitch them up. He even made Susanna some hair out of yarn he had saved. So now Wendell and I are making Susanna a whole new wardrobe out of gunny sack and flour sack. I tell him that he will be a very good doctor indeed if he can sew up folks half as good as he sews for Susanna. She is a lucky doll. Well, Aunt Alice says, "I am simply thrilled that you are at my humble house. So please, dears, do come inside and let's retire to the dining room. I've prepared all your favorites, baked salmon, clam chowder, Yorkshire pudding, and roasted potatoes, I believe," she says, sticking off her fingers. I look at the table and she is spread out and says, "All of this for our children?" There is so much food I cannot remember when I ever did see so much food. It has been a bad year on the farm, so account of our 2 milking cows getting stuck in the tidelands and dying. She says, "Of course, may Amelia. Go on, child. Eat before you faint from hunger. You could use some meat on your bones. It is a feast. I eat and eat. There is so much food I eat almost as much as Wilbur and Ivan and Alvin, but they cannot eat more because they are boys and have much bigger stomachs. The food is not like what we usually have at the farm. At home we most often have finished dishes. Why, even the gravy Aunt Alice serves us with the salmon is made with real cream, and it is white and delicious, not all gristly looking like what I am used to, especially when I am doing the cooking. This is nice food, I say. I'm glad you like it, dear. It's English food. Aunt Alice has not kept the Finnish ways. She almost always speaks English, and now she is cooking English food. She is good at being American. After supper we sit on the front porch, looking down at the whole town of Astoria, sparkling below. There is a bright full moon, and the boats in the harbor are lit up and dancing in the inky water. Aunt Alice gives us big bowls of blackberries with fresh whipped cream for dessert. Both Ivan and Alvin love fresh cream. They gulp down theirs first. "Can I have some more?" Ivan says. "Me too," Alvin says. "And me," says Wilbur. "I want some too," I say, holding out my bowl. And Alice shakes her head and says, "I don't know how much cream is left." "Well, I asked first," Alvin says. "I want some too," I say. "You're such a hog, Ivan." "Children, behave," Aunt Alice says. "Ivan and Alvin, why don't you go into the kitchen and make up bowls for everyone?" Ivan and Alvin gather up their bowls and disappear into the kitchen. They come back with big bowls of berries and cream on top. Ivan gives me the bowl with the most cream. And Alice smiles approvingly. "Well done, Ivan. A gentleman always looked after the ladies. See, I'm not the hog this time, May Amelia," he says. "Thank you kindly," I say. "What nice manners you have, May Amelia," Aunt Alice says. All of a sudden there is a huge noise from far below the docks. It is the sound of a dozen guns firing, and there are sparks throwing off light. I can hear laughter and clapping. "What's going on?" Wilbur says, leaping up to look down at the commotion. "That's the Chinamen and their firecrackers," Aunt Alice says. "They must be celebrating something. Lord knows they have little enough to celebrate." "What are firecrackers?" I say. "They are things that crackle and pop. All the Chinamen love firecrackers. They're very festive, kind of like a shivaree. A Finnish shivaree is when a bunch of folks get together and bang pots and pans and make a lot of noise to celebrate. They usually do shivarees at weddings and birthdays. I want to get me some of those firecrackers, I think. I sure do miss living back east in Boston. It was such a fine place to live." And Alice sighs, staring into the fire. I look around her porch and think of her fancy house, and it seems pretty fine to me. Why, there are real crystal lamps and woven rugs from India and everything a body could want. "Aunt Alice," I say, "how come you got so much money and no husband?" Aunt Alice just laughs and says, "You are such a dear thing, May Amelia. I have a gentleman friend, and he provides me with money and such." Wilbur gives me a wink. I wonder why. I take a big bite of my blackberries and cream. My face scrunches all up, and Ivan and Alvin start laughing. They didn't put cream on my berries. They put leftover cream gravy from dinner. "It is something wrong with the berries, May?" Aunt Alice says. I shake my head. Mama always says, "Mind your manners." Alvin whispers into Wilbert's ear, and he starts laughing too at my predicament. I fix all the boys with a look. "Why, I would sure like one of them gentlemen friends, Aunt Alice," I say. "There ain't no gentleman on the nasal, just a bunch of no-good brothers, and that's the truth for sure." Chapter 3. There are miracles and there are sheeps. The preacher's sermon today was all about miracles. I usually sleep during the sermon on account of it being so boring, but this time I paid attention. As everyone is always telling me that I am a miracle, I suspect that there are other sorts of miracles besides no good girls. After the service, Wilbert and me and Ivan and Alvin and Maddie are walking, and I say, "It certainly was a miracle that Papa didn't tan our hides for getting the boat all shot up." Alvin says, "Yes, indeed, it was a miracle." Ivan says, "Yep, it was a miracle." Wilbert says, "That's for sure." Maddie laughs at us and says, "It will be a real miracle if we can manage to stay out of trouble for more than a day, May Amelia." When we get back to the farm, Papa has a stern look on his face. "I want all you children to tend to the sheep today," he says. "Round 'em up, count 'em, and mend 'em." "But Papa," I say, "me and Wilbert were set on going to Baby Island and fishing. It's Sunday. May, I'm only telling you once. I want you to go out with your brother Isaiah and help him with the sheep. The fish will be there another day," Papa says with a scowl. Tending to the sheeps, a more trying thing I cannot think of doing, because all about our land and hedges of evergreen blackberry vines with prickly thorns, the sheep get stuck on thorns and mew like cats until they rip themselves free, and then they are hurt real bad. There's wool all over the blackberry bushes. Isaiah says that it looks as if the Jackson family is raising wool bushes, not sheep. My brother Isaiah loves the sheep better than us children. I sometimes think it is his job to mind them most of the time, and Mama calls him her patient shepherd. Isaiah has a soft voice and a gentle touch, and the sheep don't startle when he is near. He spends so much time tending to the sheep that he most often smells like one. Isaiah's blonde hair has a curl to it, and Wilbert says it looks like woolly like the sheep's. Isaiah says the sheep look more like people than animals, and he gives them names after all our neighbors. There's Jacob Clayton, who lives across the way, and he has a long face, and there's widow Katja Holm, who always has a sad look about her, and then there's Miss Peterson, Lonnie's ma, who lives out by the south field across the swamp. Maybe Isaiah is a little crazy naming all the sheep after folks, but sometimes I think he has a point. Wilbert tells me they are practically as stupid as people, the way they are always getting tangled up in the blackberry brambles. Me and Wilbert and Ivan and Alvin and Carlo and Wendell and Isaiah walk out in the black pasture where the sheep are grazing. Isaiah has built all the fences around the pasture where the sheep graze, and they are fine fences. They never fall apart like the other folks. Isaiah is the best builder for the boys, always on hand to do something besides tending the sheep. Isaiah loves carpentering. He made my dresser and the stand in the kitchen. He is so good with wood and all that. I suspect that he will someday make his mark with wooden things. Carlo grouses. Those sheep were a lousy investment, he says. Old Mr. Crower tricked your pa into buying them. Carlo is almost always in a bad mood, and there is nothing he hates more than tending to the sheep. Isaiah looks hurt. You're wrong, Carlo. The sheep are good, he says. Carlo laughs, but not in a nice way. He thinks Isaiah has spent too much time with the sheep that he thinks like one. Good? The wool's no good, 'cause it ends up in the darn bushes, and they ain't even good at tasting animals. Isaiah goes all pale. He hates it more than anything when Papa has to slaughter a sheep. He never eats mutton, and when I cook it for supper, he says he'd rather starve. Hush up, Carlo, Wilbert says, eyeing Isaiah. The sheep are no trouble at all. I think Wilbert should be a judge or a lawman when he is big, the way he is always trying to keep the peace between us children. We spend all day rounding up the 29 sheeps and checking to see if they've cut themselves on the brambles, and it's no fun for sure. It's hot as can be now, and it's July, and the sheep are in a real ornery mood. One of the sheep has got some bad cuts, and Ivan and Alvin must lather some flaxseed poultice on it so it doesn't get infected. But this sheep is cranky and bad-tempered, and when Alvin tries to slather on the medicine, it takes a bite of his hand. Dumb sheep, Alvin says with a grimace, shaking his hand. It got me good. Ivan swats the sheep's back end and hollers, Bad sheep, no biting. Isaiah goes running over the hollers. Don't yell at the sheeps. There he goes, Carlo says, rolling his eyes, acting all crazy. The sheep smell real bad, worse than horses and cows put together. I remember the sermon. Boy, these sheep aren't miracles, I say. It'll be a miracle if we finish tending to them before bedtime, Carlo mutters. I smell like a sheep, I say. You smell fine to me, May, Isaiah says. He would say that, seeing as he smells like a sheep himself. You're the smelliest girl in the nasal, Wilbert teases. I am the only girl in the nasal, I say, and that's the truth for sure. After we have finished and we are washing up for supper, Isaiah comes running home. Jacob Clayton is by and helping Papa into the barn. Isaiah opens the door and yells, Hurry, Mr. Peterson has broken her back out of the south field. He runs back off toward the field, and Mr. Clayton and Papa drop what they are doing, and Papa says, Go on, Wilbert, go fetch Lonnie and tell him to head out to the field. His ma's hurt. So Wilbert takes off, and Mr. Clayton and Papa and I run out to the south field, and sure enough we see Lonnie Peterson and Wilbert running toward us, and there is Isaiah in the middle of the field in the tall grass waving his arms. We get there, and Isaiah is petting a sheep lying on its side. Papa's out of breath, and Mr. Clayton too. Lonnie says, Where's my ma, Isaiah? Isaiah looks at us and starts to blush. Papa's looking around now and says, Yes, Isaiah, where's Miss Peterson at? She's lying right here, Pa. You mean that sheep lying there? Yeah, Pa, that's why I call this here sheep. And her back is surely broken. Wilbert starts laughing, and soon enough we're all laughing, and Papa laughing at the sight indeed, because his white eyebrows scrunch up. Papa hardly ever laughs. Isaiah, we thought you meant Miss Peterson. Lonnie's ma, I say. Yeah, says Lonnie. I'm sure glad it ain't, but you ain't right, Isaiah. That sheep does bear a resemblance to my ma, but don't tell her I said so. Papa had to shoot Miss Peterson the sheep, because we could do nothing for her, and I suspect we will be having mutton stew for supper. I am the one who ended up cooking Miss Peterson for supper. Aunt Feeny is most often late for dinner on account of her having to feed all the men at the logging camp. I thought she would be around the house more, but she is gone before I get up in the morning and real tired by the time she gets home at night. She says it is a lot of work to cook for 25 men. I am still knee-deep in chores, at least until Mama has the baby. There have been a lot of accidents lately at the camp, Aunt Feeny says at supper. I notice that Isaiah is having none of the mutton stew, only vegetables. Every few minutes he gives me a hurt look, a look that says, How can you eat Miss Peterson? Like what? Papa asks. Aunt Feeny lowers her voice like she is telling a secret. Well, she says in a confiding tone, all the logging men have been saying that the woods are cursed by the Indians, and there is a strange accident and all. Anja Prince's son, Oscar, had a tree fall on his leg today and was hurt real bad, and it gave all the men a chill. They had to take him up river to Dr. Gray, and he might lose a leg. Everything at the table gasps. I cannot think of a worse thing. Dr. Gray is not even a real doctor, but there isn't anybody else who knows medicine in these parts. And the nearest real doctor is all the way down in Astoria, but Dr. Gray just peddles fake tonics and pretends at being a doctor, Wendell says. Wendell's right, Mama says. I wouldn't send Bosie to Dr. Gray. He's not learning, and all sells stick folks his hope. They're Indian woods, Papa says. I warned Ben Armstrong when he told me he intended to set up logging camp, and so did Jacob Clayton. We've been here a lot longer than young Ben. I know this area a sound sight better than him, all green like he is, coming from New York. I had a bad feeling over those woods where Ben's a-logging. Maddie says there's for sure certain burial woods. Papa grunts and nods his head in agreement. Papa respects Maddie because he is so responsible and because he is the oldest. Wilbert says, Papa, I've seen the Indians burying on the baby island. Papa shakes his head like a cranky bear. That may be, but Ben Armstrong's woods are where the Indians used to bury the dead ones before we got here. There's bad blood in the very ground. Guarantee my words. I once found an elk all gutted up and no heart at all. No eyes either, and its blood was drawn all over the trees. No wolf or bear can paint blood on trees. You children stay away from those woods. The stars are so high in the sky that I imagine the angels themselves are holding them up, and that this must be a miracle. There is a big owl hooting right outside our window. The Chinooks say that when an owl hoots, it means that some spirit is wandering, and I suspect that they are right, but I sure do wish this owl would stop hooting so we could sleep. Wilbert, I say, I wonder if our sheep are safe out in the pasture when this accursed Indian spirit is wandering around. Oh, mate, Wilbert says, our sheep smell so nasty that if I was a cursed Indian spirit, I wouldn't go near them. Then we're safe too, I say, taking a whiff of my own sheep-smelling self. Wilbert laughs, at least until we get our bath, he says. Isaiah tells me that because I was such a help with the sheep, he will take me fishing on the baby island. I'd rather go with you, Wilbert, I say. You have to go, May, Wilbert says. It's not every day that Isaiah prefers your company to the sheep's. Wilbert speaks the truth. Isaiah is still not talking to Ivan and Alvin on account of Ivan hollering at the sick sheep. We row out to Baby Island, and Isaiah takes me to the side of it where I know the fishes do not bite. I want to say something, but don't. Isaiah puts his rod in the water, and there is no worm on it. Sometimes Isaiah is very strange indeed. We are sitting there not catching any fish when all of a sudden we hear singing. What's that? I say. It's Indians, Isaiah whispers. Get down. We peek around a boulder, and sure enough there is a whole tribe of Chinooks, and they are burying a dead Indian, a mama Indian and her baby. It just about makes my own heart break looking at that tiny little baby swallowed up with its mama. It gives me a real chill. Isaiah whispers that they're Chinooks from Deep River Way. An Indian funeral? I say. I know how much you like adventures, May Amelia, Isaiah says. Jane told me there was going to be a funeral, so I thought I'd bring you here. Jane is the Chinook wife of one of our neighbors. It is something indeed that Isaiah has gone to all this trouble for me, May Amelia, and I am not even a sheep. I have no doubt this is a real miracle. This is more exciting than fishing, I say. There must be about 10 Indians, and they are all big and strong-looking. One of them is wearing oyster shell necklaces and a white blanket with a black stripe. It seems very sad indeed, and he is crying over the poor dead mama and a baby. They have the mama Indian all laid out like she's supper or something, and what with flowers and baskets of fruits and trinkets and cooking pots all around her. She's wrapped in a blanket and lying in a big hollowed-out canoe with the baby cradled in her arms, and my, sure is a tiny baby. I say, Isaiah, I sure hope they don't eat the lady, them being savages and all, and he says, don't be ignorant, May. They're just honoring the dead with the fancy layout. They aren't fixing to eat her. See, she gets to take all those things with her to heaven, which they're going to set up in the trees in the canoe. Why, I say, so that she can paddle the canoe right to the center of the earth where heaven is. That's the Chinook way. And sure enough, they put the canoe on the wooden platform high above the ground, next to another platform that looks to have somebody on it, too. Jane says this place is called Memaloose Schwalpe. Isaiah says, Chinook Indian Tree Cemetery. Why are there holes in the canoes, I say. Jane says they put holes in the canoe for the rain to drain so that no one will steal it. Isaiah says, I want a closer look at all this, and wouldn't you know I was set right into one of the mean old Carlos traps. Carlo was always setting traps all about the homestead, and even here on Baby Island. One time Wilbur and I found a fox who had nearly chewed off its foot trying to work itself free of one of Carlo's traps. When I step on the trap, I let out a yelp that can be heard clear to Astoria, and all the Chinooks, well, they hear too, and come running to see me sitting on the ground crying, trying to get the trap off my leg. It hurts real bad, and it's only a small trap, really, and I'm bleeding, and Isaiah's trying to calm me down like I'm one of his sheep, saying, May, don't you worry none. May, I'm gonna get you out of here safe and sound. You just calm down and hear me. You just calm down. Ba, ba, ba. Isaiah is standing over me, waving his fishing pole like he is a sheriff or rough rider or wildcat, Clark, or I don't know what. I can't get the trap open, and I scream, Isaiah, get us off of me, but he tries and can't. One of the Indians, The crying Indian with all the necklaces moves Isaiah away and opens the trap, and I'm free. It feels like a real miracle. I now know for sure what it feels like to be a rabbit or a beaver or whatever, and I will never eat anything caught in Carlos' evil traps again. I do not care if I starve. The crying Indian tears off a piece of his blanket and ties it around my ankle, and then picks me up and carries me into a long canoe tied up at the shore. I say to the crying Indian, "What about your wife and the little baby that died?" But he just shakes his head. I don't think he understands Finnish, so I make as if I am cradling a baby in my arms and point back to the island, and the crying Indian nods sadly. Yes, surely we're his. Isaiah points out our homestead at the nasal. The Indians paddle smoothly, and the sleek canoe is like a bird. It feels like it is gliding across the water, just skimming at the top. I think about how hard it is to row our little boat, and I know that these Indians are strong men indeed to make this long canoe go so fast. Why, they make it look like it is no trouble at all. Jane told me about these boats. She said they are called dunking canoes on account of them being so hard to handle. A person most often ends up getting dunked in the water. I see our house in the little dock, and I can just about make out Wilbert and Bosie. When we reach the bank, Isaiah shouts, "May's been hurt, come quick! Mama and Papa and Ivan and Alvin and Maddie and Wilbert and Wendell come racing the nasal." Their eyes pop open when they see who is carrying me to shore but this big Indian. "What have you gone and gotten into, May Amelia?" Papa asks with a heavy sigh. Papa goes up, crying Indian, and holds out his arms, and crying Indian puts me right into them. "Thank you kindly," Papa says, "for taking care of my girl here. She's a pack of trouble, but she's the only May we've got." Papa smooths the hair out of my face. The crying Indian just nods and takes off one of his oyster shell necklaces and puts it on my neck. And then he gets back into the canoe, and they paddle away down the nasal. Isaiah says that the necklace means that I am an Indian princess, and maybe I am. When I am better, I intend to go back to the baby island and put flowers on the grave of the mama and Indian and the baby Indian, or on their tree anyways. I am sure tired of sitting here in bed waiting for my ankle to heal up. Mama says I cannot play because it's likely to get infected. I am going right crazy with nothing to do. Mama says it is a miracle that the spikes did not break my bones and only cut me. She's been slathering one of her healing medicines on my ankle, spruce gum, pitch, and bear grease, and it smells something awful. Mama has a way with healing. She's midwives for a mile around, going away for days at a time to catch a baby. She says that babies come when they are least expected, and so it is not unusual for some poor man to be at our door in the middle of the storm on account of his baby deciding to get born without consulting the mama. When Mama is not here, I must do all of the cooking for the boys and Papa, breakfast, lunch, and supper, and that is no fun at all. Wilbert and Ivan and Alvin and Maddie and Wendell and even Carlo come in to admire my leg. "That's a wicked-looking wound, May," Wilbert says, envious. "Yeah," Alvin says, "it looks like a real wound." Ivan finishes. "Isaiah told me you were very brave," Maddie says, patting my head. "It's awful, though," I say. "It's pink and nasty looking, and it's starting to itch, and it still hurts. It'll heal up fine, May," Wendell says, sounding like a doctor. He peers at it through his glasses. "I know something we can put on it to make it stop itching," he says, and runs out of the room. "I hope it will be okay." "May," Carlo says anxiously. "He is no doubt feeling guilty, since it was his mean old trap that got me, and that is why he is being kind. It would be a miracle indeed for Carlo to be nice for me for no reason at all." "You should be proud to have such a scar on your leg. You look like a real soldier," Wilbert says. "I suspect these brothers of mine have been listening to too many of Jacob Clayton's tales, and their brains are addled." Isaiah comes in with a wooden box and says, "I'm really sorry you forgot your foot hurt, May. I intended the trip to be an adventure, and it turned out to be a disaster. That's okay. It's not your fault." He trusts the box out to me and says, "Here." I look in the box and cannot believe it. Buttons, the barn cat, has had a new litter of kittens. They are tiny, small as a child's fists, and their eyes aren't even open yet. The kittens are so soft and sweet, and they are all sorts of colors. They're all crowded around Buttons, angling to get at her milk. Buttons gazes up at me contentedly. She is a proud mama. Mama says, "Those kittens have to stay in that barn, but you can give them some milk every day. But Bosie's allowed to sleep inside with Maddie, and why can't kittens?" I say. Mama says, "May Amelia, that cat of yours is just full of fleas, and I suspect those kittens will be flea-ridden pretty soon, too. I've just put fresh hay and duck feathers in all our mattresses ticking, and I am not about to let these animals in and have them drop flea eggs everywhere, and that's all there is to it." She says, "In the barn, and those kittens, too. They'll be plenty warm with all that hay to snuggle in." "But Mama," I say. Mama ignores my whining and says, "Isaiah Jackson, get those animals out of here right this minute." Isaiah takes the box out, and when he returns, he shuts the door and reaches into his pocket. He pulls out a tiny kitten. Its eyes are closed, and it fits into my 2 hands and is that small. It's got calico markings, and it nuzzles against my hand. "I'm going to call him Little Chief on account of the Indians I saw yesterday," I say. "That's a fine name," Isaiah says. "He's a real miracle," I say, snuggling the kitten. "Yes," Isaiah agrees with me with a smile. "Well," I say, "there are miracles, and then there are sheeps," and we both laugh. Chapter 4. No Kind of Brother. There's no accounting for luck, especially luck in getting brothers. It is nearly the middle of August by the time my foot heals, and I am in the back pasture helping Wilbert when a girl comes stomping across our field. All the older girls in the country like my handsome eldest brother, Matty. They come from miles around from Deep River in the rain, sometimes all dressed up with ribbons in their hair. They are trying to snag him for a husband. This girl here is from pretty far away. I don't even know her, and she tries it smiling at me. "Hi, May, where's your brother Matty?" she says, tossing her curls in my direction. I know she doesn't like me because I am too young for not 17 like her. These girls won't even talk to me unless I tell where he is, which I usually don't. She taps her shoe, which has got manure on it from tromping in our fields, and says, "Well, May, where is he?" I lie and I say, "I believe Matty has gone up the Nasal and sailed away with my Uncle Henry Smith, the sailing captain. Haven't you heard?" But she knows that I am lying and ignores me and searches around the front pasture until she finds him. I hate these girls. I could hit them. Wilbert says, "Ignore her, May. She must be desperate if she's chasing after Matty like a cat in heat. Matty is Papa's favorite because he looks like Papa when he was a boy. My brother Matty is big and strong, and his hair is blonde as straw, and he has smiling gray eyes and looks the way a real Finn should. He doesn't tease me like Carlo and is always telling Papa that he shouldn't be so hard on me when I get into mischief. Matty is so nice, and sometimes I wish he weren't quite so nice because then these girls wouldn't stop coming around and bothering me about them. I tell him so, too. When the girl is left, I find him. I say, "Matty, I don't believe one of the girls who has come calling is a real lady because Aunt Alice says real ladies let the men call on them, which makes good sense when you think on it." Matty just laughs and says, "You are right, May Amelia, and I'll tell you something else. I don't like these girls much either. I already have a sweetheart, but it is a secret and you mustn't tell anyone." "But why? Is she ugly or has she got the pox or something?" "No, she is beautiful, but Papa wouldn't like her because she's not a Finn. I have to keep it a secret. You understand, May Amelia, don't you?" "Sure I do, Matty," I say. She's not a Finn. What is she?" "She's Irish," he whispers. Now I know why Matty has not told Papa about this girl. Papa thinks that the Irish are nothing but trouble, always coming around and taking some Finn's job. He says that when some of the Gillenetters are now Irish, Papa says the Irish are like locusts. And now Matty fancies one? That's bad luck, I say. May Amelia, I'm pretty sure that she'll be nothing but good luck for me, Matty says with a grin. At supper, Papa says, "Your brother Matty is going to live with Uncle Henry in Astoria for a spell and work on his ship. He'll be leaving in a week with Finny." When Carlo hears the news, his face gets all stormy, and slam, he's out of the front door. Carlo has wanted to live and work in Astoria forever, it seems, and now Matty's going, and not him. I wish Carlo was going away instead of Matty, I say to Wilbert. Carlo has never gotten a good brother, or never been a good brother, maybe because he is really a cousin fostered over to us. Mama is always saying Carlo may be our cousin, but love him like a brother. Well, that may be, but Carlo is hard to love. He is always sullen and angry at everyone. He is not handsome like my brothers, because he is always frowning. Carlo is forever teasing me and saying I am nothing but a pest. Wilbert says it's on account of the time I put tar on Carlo's pillow, which I wouldn't have done if I hadn't gone and dunked my pigtails in the inkwell in the schoolhouse. Papa will have to let go of Carlo someday. It's natural for a boy to want to go away and find his fortune, Wilbert says. Maybe Papa will let him and find his fortune real soon. Maybe he'll go to Alaska or wherever and get himself eaten by a grizzly bear, I say. After I finish my chores the next day, I watch Matty as he and Carlo fix the fence around the pen where the pigs live. Matty sees me and gives me a big smile. His eyes light up and he says, "Come and give us a hand, May." Carlo grunts when he sees me coming over. "Here, hold this down," Matty says, handing me a board. "Like this?" I say, balancing the board between two posts. "Exactly, May," Matty says. Matty is such a good brother. He is always helping me and teaching me things. He is teaching me spelling in English because he says mine is wretched. And do I want to spend my whole life being able to write only in Finnish? Matt uses both hands and a heavy mallet to hammer in his side of the beam. "Your turn, Carlo," Matty says, wiping his brow. "This is thirsty work, and I'll go get us something to drink. You stay here and help Carlo, May." "Okay, Matty." Carlo fixes me with an eye and says, "Hold it steady, May Amelia." Inside the pen, the piglets are squealing. They think it's feeding time. Maybe I will play a little trick on Carlo. Carlo lifts his hammer back, and when he brings it forward, I drop the board, and it swings away. Carlo hammers right through the hair, and the weight of his swing hurls him into the pig pen. Face first in the muck. I feel glad my trick on mean old Carlo went so well, but he is up in a flash, and he has me by my hair and is shaking me like a sack of flour. "You did that on purpose," he says, spitting out mud. "I did not. You weren't paying attention, girl. It slipped," I say. "Well," Carlo says, wiping the mud off his cheek, "I guess I'm going to slip too." He picks me up and tosses me into the piggery, where I land face first in the muck. Matty appears as I am pulling myself up. "Matty, I will." Matty sets down the refreshments and rushes over to the pen. "What happened, Carlo?" he says, taking in Carlo's muddy front. Carlo glares at Matty. and says I don't have to answer to you, and stomps away, trailing mud. Carlo threw me and Matty, I say. Matty raises an eyebrow. Matty always takes my side. He is a nice brother, not mean like old Carlo. You look like one of the piglets, May Amelia. I swipe at the mud at my face. Come on out of there, he says, and let's get you cleaned up before Papa sees you like this, or there will be trouble for sure. I stand next to the pump and he pours buckets of water over my head. May, you gotta stop baiting, Carlo. I'm gonna be gone soon, and he'll be the biggest one, so you'll have to mind him. I cannot imagine minding Carlo. But he's never nice to me, I say. Well, sometimes you aren't too nice to him either. But he's not even my brother, I say loudly. Matty looks at me with disappointed eyes. And he's not likely to forget that he's not a brother with you constantly reminding him, May. Carlo is Papa's sister Allie's boy. When Aunt Ailey and her husband Asmus came west, they had a real hard time with 5 children and a baby, and when they got out to San Francisco, they had to sell their luggage because they didn't have enough money to get a railway ticket for the baby, who didn't even need a seat when you think about it, because he rested on his mom's lap. But they had to buy one anyways. The family headed north, and when they got to Astoria, they borrowed some money from Papa to pay for the boat fare and on to Vancouver, but they didn't have enough to car Carlo. Since Carlo was 10 and the oldest, they left him with us, where he has been to this very day. Wilbert tells me that Aunt Ailey is always writing letters to Carlo about how wonderful it will be when they send for him. But they never do, and that's why Carlo is always in such a bad mood. Carlo's folks must be real poor because he's 17 now, and we're still stuck with him. It is sad indeed, but I suspect Carlo would be ill-tempered even if Aunt Ailey had fetched him back long ago. Maybe they really left him with us because of his spiteful nature. He's not nice to anyone, not me, nor Wilbert, nor Ivan, or Alvin, or Wendell, or Isaiah. Why, he's not even nice to Matty, who everyone knows is the kindest Jackson boy. Carlo is really mad now and won't abide me to be near for even 1 second of the day. He still teases me and says that I am uglier than any boy he's met, even though he was the ugly one with the slop all over his face. He is so mean, almost as mean as Papa. But I don't let him see me cry as I go out into the hay loft in the barn and cry there. Wilbert says just ignore him, May. A few days later, Wilbert, Wendell, Carlo, and I have to go help out Uncle Arno with his nets. Mama says this isn't a convenient time for me to be lending you out right now, May Amelia, and be sure to help your Uncle Arno and then hurry on home. Mama can do less and less around the house. Her back is always paining her, and Papa says she's not to do any more lifting. The baby tires her out now because he's been so long since she had one in her belly. Wendell says that she should rest, which leaves me with all the work. Uncle Arno is the gill netter. He catches the salmon that swim in the Columbia. He uses special nets to tangle the salmon by the gills. Us children are to mend the nets and tan them so they will last longer in the water. Uncle Arno lives down the Nasal, past Smith Island. That is where he keeps his bateau, the boat he uses for catching the salmon. He also runs the mail boat, which is called the General Custer, up and down these parts when he is not gill netting. It is always a good day when he gets a piece of mail from some relative right away. I wonder how the letters travel all the way to get to our farm. When we arrive, Uncle Arno is on his veranda with some knitted flax nets, and I can tell from the smell that he is boiling tan bark on his stove. Uncle Arno's house is very big and has only a full round veranda in the valley. He bought the house after Ano Sjöblom killed himself. That's why Ano just hanged himself right there in the veranda. Uncle Arno says that he sometimes hears the ghost of poor old Ano swinging from the veranda by his rope, and when it is still at night, it gives me a chill to think of him swinging in the wind. Uncle Arno told Wilbert that Ano Sjöblom was in love with a Chinook woman, and she wouldn't have anything to do with him, and so he killed himself. A sadder story I've never heard. Ano Sjöblom was famous around these parts because he was the first man to bring a real iron cook stove. Wilbert tells me that he carried the cook stove for 10 miles on his back. Hello, children, says Uncle Arno, looking up from his nets and smiling. He is untangling his nets in the yard. Uncle Arno looks just like Papa, only older and kinder, even though he's really younger. He has light hair and laughing eyes. He has no children of his own since his wife Sarah died in childbirth years back. Hello, Uncle Arno, Wendell says as we're knitting and dipping nets today. Everyone knows that Wendell has a good hand at knitting and mending the nets. He looks at us children and says, "Why, boys, that is certainly what we are going to do. Are you going to be helping me, Amelia?" I say, "Yes, I am, Uncle Arno. I can dip nets as good as any boy, just you see." "What about your dolly there? Is she going to help dip too? It's messy work, you know." "No, Susanna is going to sit on your veranda and watch us." Carla tries to scare me. He says, "Tell your Susanna to watch out for old Ano swinging from the porch. That's what she should be looking at, not us." Wendell says, "Don't speak ill of the dead, Carlo." "Yeah, Carlo, don't speak ill, or his ghost will surely come and haunt you," I say, being clever. "He'll see your ugly face first and be so scared he'll run away," Carlo taunts. All right, children, Uncle Arno says, enough of that talk. There's work to be done, and it sure ain't gonna get done by itself. Uncle Arno shows us how to take the nets and dip them carefully, bit by bit, into the boiled tan bark. The tan bark sets the flax so the nets last longer in the water and are tougher. It sure is hard work, 'cause the nets are really long and get tangled easily. The tan bark smells something awful, and no matter how hard I try, I end up getting more of it on me than the nets. We spread the nets out to dry on the ground next to the house. At lunchtime, Uncle Arno brings out some oyster fritters and the hatalepa, finished quick bread. We sit on the veranda and eat. So may Amelia, Wendell says, pushing his glasses up his nose. What are we going to sew for Susanna next? Wendell is smart and clever and so good at sewing that he will surely be a doctor. Wendell says that there are schools back east where a person can learn doctoring. I think he should go away to learn doctoring, but I think it will be very sad to see him go. Wendell is my favorite brother after Wilbert. He is good at knowing my mind. I reckon a pirate suit, I say. Is your dolly going to be a pirate? Asks Uncle Arno. Why not a princess or a bride or something more ladylike? That's boring, Uncle Arno. Ladies and princesses don't get to have adventures because they get left behind. Susanna has got the taste for adventure like Uncle Henry. She wants to go to the East Indies and Sandwich Islands, too. Your Uncle Henry's no pirate, May Amelia, except maybe the Englishman, Uncle Arno says. A sea life isn't as exciting as you imagine. Nothing good to eat for weeks at a time, and only smelly sailors for company. May'll fit in just fine then, Carlo says with a smirk. She's about as smelly as they come. Shut up, Carlo, I say. But Uncle Arno, Wilbert says, sailors get to see the whole world. They can go near about anywhere. Me and May are setting out to be sailors when we get old enough. Uncle Arno laughs and says, I suspect it'll be a cold day indeed when Alma gets her girl go sailing around the world, but you never know, children. It sure enough seems like the devil's land here on the old Nasal, when the winter is big, biting through your socks. You never know when your bateau is going to freeze up now, do you? You just never know. Uncle Arno has had an exciting life, although he says that all the excitement darn near killed him. He stowed away on a ship called the Whistler, bound to America from Finland. The Whistler wrecked off San Francisco, and he was one of the only 2 men who survived. He headed up to Nasal, where Papa lent him some money and started killing netting. What with salmon being so popular and the cannery in Astoria being built right around that time. I liked his wife Sarah. I was real sorry when she died having the baby. Mama says they did everything they could for her, but nothing would stop all the bleeding, not cobwebs or teas or nothing. When Sarah died, Uncle Arno was real sad and lonely. Papa says that the old house is full of bad luck on account of Ano's Solblom. I think he must be right. Maybe old Ano's ghost doesn't want anyone else who lives in his house to be happy with a wife when he couldn't. We work hard all day and are cleaning up when the dark storm clouds roll in. It starts to thunder and rain something fierce-like. I guess you children will have to spend the night here, Uncle Arno says. Your mother would have my hide if I sent you home in weather like this. The house is huge and dark. It hasn't seen a woman's touch in a long time, and it looks it. There's dust everywhere. Where am I sleeping, I say? You take the back bedroom. May and one of you boys can bunk in with me, and the other 2 can have the beds in the middle room. The stairs are made from carved mahogany. My bedroom is the very most back of the house, at the end of a long hallway. It has a cold-looking iron bed with a dusty spread. It doesn't look like he's cleaned since Aunt Sarah died, I say. At least you have a good view of the Nasal, Wilbert says. Uncle Arno hollers for us to come on down for supper. He has a huge pot of mojaka, fish chowder bubbling. He ladles it out, and we all sit down at the table. He gives us bisque glasses of clabbered milk and pours himself some home brew. You sure are a good cook, Uncle Arno, Wendell says. Mama often says that Wendell is the only one of us children with a speck of manners. He always knows just what to say. Do you ever get lonely out here by yourself? I ask. Nope, Uncle Arno says. Where did Ano Solblom sleep? Carlo asks rudely. Aye, Carlo. I am wondering if he has something up his sleeve. In May's room, Uncle Arno says, chewing carefully. My room, I say. I can't take another bite, even though the mojaka is so creamy and so good. In my room? I am not going to sleep a wink. Uncle Arno nods his head, and it's the same way that Papa nods. I turn to Wilbert. Maybe you can stay in my room tonight, I say. Are you scared, May? Carlo taunts. I ain't scared, I say. Maybe you're scared of old Eno Solblom's ghost getting you, Carlo says, digging at me. I said I'm not scared. Then why does Wilbert have to sleep in your room? He doesn't. I can sleep all by myself. Well, be sure not to have nightmares, Carlo says, smirking. I want to punch him. You can't scare me, Carlo. Leave her alone, Carlo, Wilbert says. Yes, and mind your manners, Carlo, Wendell says. I am lucky that I have real brothers who stick up for me. Carlo takes a bite of chowder and ignores me for the rest of the meal, which is the bestest thing he's done all evening. I am sound asleep when I hear the creaking. At first I think it is part of my dream. Outside the wind is howling and the rain is falling in sheets. Then over the wind and rain, I hear the creak. I don't recognize the sound, but I hold my breath, and there it is. Creak, swish, creak. Wide awake, I pull my overalls on over my nightshirt and slip into my shoes and creep out to investigate. It's not coming from the other rooms. The only sounds out of them are snoring. As I walk down the stairs, I can hear the creaking getting louder and louder. The shadows of the trees are dancing against the windows and look like ghosts. I wish Susanna were here with me. Creak, creak. Someone there? I say. I'm scared now, but no one's answering me, just the creaking, and it's coming from the veranda. I slip out the side door into the rain and wind. The creaking is getting louder now. I'm almost on top of it. I leap around the corner of the house, around the veranda, and there is something swinging in the way in the dark wind. It's old Ado Solblom swinging for the roof of the veranda. Ugh! I scream. I run back into the house and up the stairs so fast my feet will carry me to Wilbert, who is no ghost. I burst into his room with a pounding heart, yell, "Wilbert, wake up, wake up!" I shake him hard. He squints sleepily at me. "What's the matter, May?" he asks. I'm soaked straight through and must look a real fright. "Wilbert, Wilbert, Ado Solblom swinging on the front veranda. I just saw him." Wilbert jumps up and we fly downstairs. Carlo is already there and he's untying old dead Ado Solblom. He takes a look at me, clutching Wilbert's hand, and starts cackling. Then a clump of hay from Ado Solblom's hand falls to the floor. But it's not Ado Solblom at all, it's just a scarecrow. "Carlo!" Wilbert growls. Carlo is laughing so hard he is doubled over. "Not scared of anything, huh, May Amelia?" Carlo says, gasping for breath. "I hate you, Carlo," I say, and stomp all the way back to bed. He is no kind of a brother, that's for sure. The next night, me and the boys are back at our house. It is Maddie's last night before he goes to Astoria and Aunt Feeny. I fix lox slota, sliced potatoes and salmon baked in milk sauce. It's very tasty. It is Maddie's favorite dish. Uncle Arno gave me some royal Chinook salmon, which is the best kind. Everyone knows that salmon are the sure sign of good fishermen, and it is rare that Uncle Arno has a bad day and catches plain old steelheads. His neighbor, who is an old woman, will call out to him, "Chasing steelhead, cleaning steelheads again, Mr. Jackson?" And when he does, but yesterday he caught some salmon so I could cook us a special dinner for Maddie. Everyone is at the table now. I'm just setting out the food when Carlo says a bunch of boys are leaving for Alaska on account of the gold rush, and I'd like to try my luck. Papa just keeps eating, doesn't pay him any attention at all. The boys keep quiet, and Mama just sits there, looking strained. I don't know if I should keep on filling up the plate or if I should stay where I'm at. I decide it's best to stay out of the way, even though I want to say what I think it's a fine idea for him to leave. "It's a good opportunity," Carlo says belligerently. "And besides, Maddie's getting in to go to Astoria." Papa bangs his fist on the table. "Carlo, that gold rush is for fools with no sense. Can't you see that we're barely making ends meet? Isn't it enough that the new baby to feed you? Might as well just shoot your poor mother. It'll be the same thing as letting her lose a son to some foolishness." "She's not my mother," Carlo says coldly. "My real mother's in Vancouver." "Carlo," Aunt Feeny says with a gasp, "Alma has practically raised you. How can you say such a cruel thing?" Mama bends her head, and her hair falls over her slender neck as a waterfall on the nasal, hiding her face. Why isn't she defending herself? Mama never lets anyone talk to her that way. "I don't care," Carlo says fiercely. "Don't speak in that tone," Papa says. His face is gone all stormy. I look over at Wilbert, and he shakes his head, a shake that says, "Keep quiet." Aunt Feeny says gently, "Now, Carlo, don't be like that. You know Alma loves you. Don't be mean and say such unkind things." "Well, it's the truth," Carlo says, standing up. He points at Mama. "She's not my ma, and you're not my pa, and I don't have to listen to you." "You do so," Papa shouts. "We're the only kin you have left in this world." A hush falls over the room, and the color drains from Carlo's face. Papa puts his face in his hands. Mama is weeping now, soft hiccupy sobs. "What do you mean?" Carlo whispers, like he doesn't want to know. "Ailey's dead," Papa says, his voice breaking. The room goes dead quiet. It is so silent that all I can hear is the sound of Wilbert's stomach growling. Finally, Carlo asks in a stunned voice, "My ma's dead? And your pa and the children, too? Dead? All the kids?" "They're all dead. They got the fever. Nearly half the town is dead." "When?" Carlo says, his voice trembling. His face is white and he is shaking. 6 months ago." "Why didn't you tell me?" Carlo's voice is so raw with anger that I did not even recognize it. "We did what we thought was right," Papa says, and he picks up his fork and starts eating again. Mama is sitting real still, and there is a tear running down her face. Carlo looks full of rage and sadness and suddenly pushes back his chair and runs out of the room as if a demon is on his tail. Papa looks around at all of us. We're all still, even Posey. "You children leave him be, you hear me? Carlo hasn't been home all week. We should have told him before," Mama says, worried. "What did we thought was right?" Papa says. "I'm sure he's fine, Alma. He's not a boy anymore. I asked Wilbert what he thinks Carlo has gone off to." "He could have gone anywhere, May. He could be halfway to Alaska by now," Wilbert says. "Now I'm thinking I was pretty mean to him, that maybe he ran away because he thought he wasn't wanted or something, on account of me always saying he was no kind of a brother." The boys are feeling bad, too. Ivan and Alvin are convinced it's their fault for playing pranks on him. Maddie is debating whether or not he should go away to Astoria and believes that the whole situation is his fault. Wilbert thinks he should have been kinder to Carlo. Isaiah is avoiding all of his children and is staying with his sheeps. Wendell says there's no mending a torn heart, but he wishes he could. It is a bad time indeed to be a Jackson child. Finally, Aunt Feeny must return to Astoria. I miss Henry, she says. He's been back in port nearly a week now, and he'll be wondering where I am. But Maddie doesn't want to go until Carlo's been found. Papa says firmly, Maddie, don't let it stop you from going with your aunt. He'll turn up, you'll see. Papa wants Maddie to be successful. I help Maggie pat his trunk. He's just tossing clothes in, not folding anything at all. Maddie, I wish you weren't going, I say. It's not very far, May, just Astoria. I'll never see you. Don't get all mopey, Maddie says. I pick up one of the shirts that he's bundled in a knot and fold it properly. All of a sudden I can't take it. First Carlo and now Maddie. Please don't go, I say, hugging him and starting to cry. I promise I'll be a good sister. I won't get into any more mischief. You'll see. Please don't leave me here. I can't bear it if you go too. Oh, little May, Maddie says, hugging me back tight and smoothing down my hair. You got a pack of brothers to look after you here. You won't even have time to miss me. Yes, I will, I say with a sniffle. You're my only Maddie. Maddie laughs. Just remember one thing, May, Maddie says, rubbing away my tears. What? He gives me a bright grin and ruffles my hair. You're my only May Amelia. Jacob Clayton comes by our house after supper a few days later and visits a spell with Papa. When he leaves, he says, May Amelia, why don't you give me a hand carrying these pies your ma made for me back home? Mama has made 3 blackberry pies with berries Ivan and Alvin picked and given to Jacob on account of him having no woman to cook for him. Sure, Mr. Clayton, I say, I'll help you carry these pies if I get a slice. On the way back to Mr. Clayton's farm, I tell him about Carlo running away and how bad I feel about it. Where do you think he went? I ask. Who could say, May Amelia? Sometimes a body needs time to sort things out for himself. When I open the door to Mr. Clayton's house, Carlo is right there, piling up wood by the fireplace. I cannot believe it. Carlo has been right here, next door, all this time. Come on, you two. Let's sit down and eat that pie your ma made for us, Mr. Clayton says, as if Carlo snacking wood by the fireplace was an everyday occurrence. Mr. Clayton carves Carlo and me a huge piece of blackberry pie. Carlo won't look at me, but digs right into his pie. I'm so nervous I don't know what to do with my very own self. I try to take a bite of pie, but the words spill out of me. Carlo, won't you come home? Carlo just stares at me, looking grim. I know I was mean to you, and I'm sorry, I say. I hang my head like Bosie when he's been whooped. I ain't been any kind of sister to you, I say. Still, Carlo doesn't say anything. He's never going to say anything. He's never going to come home, even though we are his only kin, and it's all my fault. I'm remembering every mean thing I have ever done to him, and when I get to the time I lie in his bathwater, I stop. It is too long a list. I get up and say, thank you, Mr. Clayton. I guess I'll head home now. I have nearly reached the front door when I hear Carlo's voice. Wait a moment, May Amelia, Carlo says. It's dark out. I'll walk you home. He gives me a ghost of a smile. Thanks, I say. I feel safer having a brother walk me home. Okay, I don't know if it's ever going to focus. Okay, alright. Chapter 5. Grandmother Tries Our Patience. Everybody knows that I was the first girl to be born here on the Nasal. All the other mammas had boys, including my own mamma, who had 6 of them. Mamma says, I swear to you, May Amelia, there is something in the very water that breeds boys. You are simply a miracle. My grandmother does not think that I am a miracle. That is Papa's mother, Grandmother Patience. At breakfast, Papa says your Grandmother Patience will be coming to live with us on account of her getting on in years. I swear I don't rightly understand why Papa's letting her live with us. She's fit as can be, I said to Wilbert. None of us children likes Grandmother Patience because she's real mean and doesn't care for children. I don't know why she even had Papa and Aunt Feeny and Uncle Arno and Aunt Allie. She always says children are nothing but devils and demons. She is a silver-tipped cane that she uses to walk, and one time she whacked Wendell so hard that he had a bruise on his cheek for a whole week, and all he'd done was talk back to her. I haven't seen a sight of her since I was 8 years old, even though she only lives in Astoria. That time she yelled at Mama, and she was so kind of a wife to my papa, didn't know how to do anything right, let alone raise 7 boys and 1 scrawny girl, and she took Mama's favorite dish which Papa had brought all the way from Finland and threw it at her and smashed it against the wall. After that, Grandmother and Papa had a real big fight, and Grandmother Patience hasn't come back until now. Wilbert tells me Grandmother Patience was poorly named. When Grandmother Patience arrives, she looks at Mama real hard, from the top of her head to her big belly, looks her up and down, like she's looking at a cow. Grandmother Patience says, "Alma, it falls to you to care for me in my declining years, even though you have got yourself a child again, I see." Mama sighs and says, "Well, Mother Patience, you'll be staying in the sewing room. May Amelia and the boys have fixed it up real nice for you, and I sure do hope you'll be comfortable. My Mama is a real strong woman. She had to be to have homesteaded here with my Papa, when it was still a wilderness and there weren't any other families at all, but I don't understand why she lets Grandmother Patience have at her." Wilbert says she overheard Papa say to Mattie that the oldest child must always look after the parents, and that is what his bad luck was, to be the oldest. Grandmother Patience walks back to the sewing room, all slow with her wicked cane, and looks into the room. Wilbert and I picked fresh flowers and put them on top of the dresser, and a drawing I did in school of a cat hanging on the wall. It is a good and decent drawing, even Miss McEwing said so. Mama has put fresh linens on the bed and stuffed dried lavender under the mattress. It is a lovely room, smells real fine, and has a window view of the nasal. We all hold our breath as Grandmother Patience looks around. "This room won't do at all. I'll take the one on the far end of the hall," she says, like she is the queen. Wilbert and I look at each other, and he says, "Grandmother, that's me and May's room. Don't you like this one none?" Grandmother looks at Wilbert and says, "I think it is a scandal that these two share the same room. Boys and girls should not sleep together. From now on I shall sleep in the end of the room with May Amelia. Now that Mattie is gone, Wilbert can have his place, and Carlo and Windows will." I look at Mama, and sure enough, she knows that my life will be a living misery if I have to stay with Grandmother Patience, and besides, Mama knows that Wilbert is my favorite and that I love him best of all. Finally, Mama says evenly, "Well, Mother Patience, I suppose you can have the far room, but the children will share the sewing room. I don't fancy May Amelia sleeping unprotected, being a young girl like she is, and I've already told her how I want her brother Wilbert to keep an eye on her to see that she's don't go letting herself into mischief, and he won't be able to do that very well now if he isn't sleeping with her." Grandmother Patience goes humph and stalks off. Mama looks at Wilbert and me and sighs. "Well, children," she says, "I suspect we're in for a real storm. My poor brothers are going to be carting and carrying for the rest of their days. Grandmother Patience is insisting that they bring all her good furniture to our house, and so they have to go down to Astoria and cart the furniture 1/2 mile from her house to the boat, sail back to Knapton, cart it on a wagon and then onto the rowboat, and then finally carry it all the way into me and Wilbert's old bedroom. She's making them bring her heavy old rug, which looks like rats have been chewing on it, her own china, a big old bureau, a mirror, a night table, a washstand, pictures of her and her grandfather, and a small chair that she calls her settee. Grandmother keeps saying that Mama's furniture is no good, and that if she's going to live in the wilderness, she wants to have nice things around her. All her furniture is musty smelling and dark looking, nothing like the furniture Isaiah makes. I honestly don't know how you live like this, Jalmer, Grandmother Patience says to Papa at supper. Papa just grunts and keeps eating the fish head stew, which is his favorite fish food. It tastes okay, I guess, but I mostly try to avoid the eyes. "And your daughter is just like a hellion," says Grandmother Patience, fixing me with her evil eye. "Why wouldn't you wouldn't even know there's a girl under that dirt? She's filthy." Grandmother looks me up and down. "And she's wearing trousers. It's scandalous," she says. "That's because I've been mucking around the barn," I want to say, but Wilbert kicks me hard under the table, a warning kick. There's no arguing with Grandmother Patience. I bite my tongue. "Jalmer, you should send this child to Our Lady's School to learn how to behave." All us children gasp, even Carlo. "Mother Patience," Mama says. "The old ladies' school in Astoria is run by mean nuns. Every child knows that the nuns beat the children with switches and make them sleep in cold beds and eat only gruel." Papa raises an eyebrow and says, "It's a Catholic school, Mother. I'm not sending my daughters to a Catholic school when we are Lutherans, and besides, even if I wanted to, we can't afford the fees." "Well, I see that you don't listen to good sense, and I suppose that I must take it upon myself to school May Amelia on how to behave," Grandmother Patience says ominously. I do so know how to behave," I say. "You are an ill-mannered, slovenly girl, and you dress like a street urchin," Grandmother Patience says. "Well, you're a mean old witch," I shout before Wilbert can stop me. "Enough," Papa says, banging his fist on the table. "I work hard all day, and I want to eat my supper in peace. Not another word out of anyone." Grandmother Patience curls her lip meanly at me, and I just know that I am going to pay for what I said. Wilbert and I lie in bed and listen to Mama and Papa fighting about Grandmother Patience. Grandmother GD at Jalmer, I do not want that woman in my house, Mama says. Well, she's here and we have to make the best of it. That woman has been here 2 days only, and she's already turned everything upside down. She's no help at all, just one work. And another mouth to feed. She's my mother and she's staying, and that's final, Papa says. Mama says, your mother is nothing but trouble. And then they lower their voices and we can't hear them anymore. Do you think Papa will send Grandmother away? I whisper to Wilbert. Nah, he whispers back. She's stuck here like a cow in the tidelands. And we're the fly on her back, I think. Grandmother Patience is the devil. I am convinced. Grandmother Patience whacked me so hard on the shoulder with her cane that when I undressed for bed there is blood all over my undershirt, and under the blood a big old bruise the size of a hen's egg. Wilbert says, good Lord, May, Amelia, what the heck happened to you? I say, don't you go cursing at me, Wilbert Jackson. I don't want to hear it. I am tired of being yelled at all the time now. Grandmother Patience says that I am no good. The girls are nothing but trouble. I don't know if she means all girls or me in particular. She says I am wicked girl, and that I have spiteful eyes. I know in the Bible it says that it is a sin to wish for someone's death, but I cannot help but wish Grandmother Patience would simply go ahead and die and leave us all in peace. I surely must have done something mighty awful to deserve her. But for the life of me, I can't imagine what. Wilbert says, come on, May, what happened? Let me see your shoulder. Good Lord, did some boy beat you up? Tell me who did this to you, May, and I'll whoop 'em up good, and the boys will get 'em, I swear. I say, Wilbert, you ain't gonna be whooping nobody, 'cause that mark is from the witch sleeping in our room. Grandmother Patience? Wilbert sits back down and shakes his head. His hair is all ghostly in the candlelight. What happened? I was in the kitchen by myself getting supper started when she came in and began saying she had some mending she needed done. I said I couldn't do it. The boys were due home any time, and I have to supper on the table. Then she just whacked me, said girls are meant to obey, and that she'd whack me again the next time I talked back to her. He says, I cannot believe Ma and Pa let her live here and treat you the way she does. It ain't right. I know we're supposed to respect our elders, but she doesn't deserve a speck of respect. That mean old witch. Well, I'm going to do something about it. Wilbert sneaks upstairs in the still of the night and steals Grandmother Patience's cane while she is sleeping, gives it to Bosie, who I'm sure has hid it somewhere beneath this house, and she will never find it. For every evil God sends to me, he sends an angel, and I know for certain that Wilbert is my guardian angel. A few days later, Wendell and Wilbert, and Ivan and Alvin, and Isaiah and Carlo and me are downstairs minding ourselves. It is late after supper, and Mama and Papa have gone over to visit Lonnie's parents for a spell. The boys and me are well worn out from the hard day in bringing in the hay. We always bring in the hay in September, and this year is no different. It is very hard work indeed, because we have to wait for a day without rain. If the hay is wet, it will be no good and will rot. When we woke up today, the sun was shining, so Papa yelled at all the children to get a move out onto the fields. We even borrowed Lonnie and Jacob Clayton to help, and we'll get some hay in the return. Even so, we still have a lot more to bring in tomorrow. Wendell is helping me sew a new dress for my China baby doll, the one Aunt Feeny gave me. The doll is sitting in the rocking chair. We are trying to make Indian dress, but it is quite tricky, and I suspect that we'll have to ask Jane for some help. Ivan and Alvin and Carlo are reading quietly. I've sewn together the pages of the finished newspaper, the American Somatar, so that it will not fall apart being passed around. It is the only finished newspaper we can get out here, and it is fine indeed, even though it is often 2 weeks late, on account of how far it must travel to get our farm. Isaiah is snoring on the counter. He is all tuckered out at bringing the hay and then checking out on the steeps. He works harder than all of his children some days. Wilbert is trying to mend a shoe that Bosie got a hold of and chewed. It is a real mess, though there is no saving it, I think. Bosie whines at Wilbert like he knows he did something wrong. Bosie, you sure are a dumb dog, Wilbert says. Wilbert, I say, you can't leave anything lying around. That was a good pair of shoes. Now I'll have to borrow an old smelly pair of Carlo's. Wilbert grouses. Carlo looks up for the paper and gives Wilbert the eye, but even he's too tired to start a fight. Grandmother Patience comes stomping down the stairs. She sits heavily on a chair and says, May Amelia, go on and fetch me some tea. She is fingering her new cane, a twisted, rough-hewn stick. Where'd she get that? I go on out and make up some tea for her. Here's your tea, I say. She takes a quick sip and frowns. It's not even hot, she says. Make me a new cup. This one's too good. It is so hot I've nearly burned my fingers. I want to say no, but Wilbert fixes me a look that says, just do what she says, and so I go back into the kitchen anyway and make another cup. It is steaming hot this time, with a little trail of smoke. It is hot, I say, handling her hot cup. She takes a sip and purses her dried-up lips in a nasty smile. Didn't you put any honey in at all, girl? It's not a bit sweet. Can't you do anything right? Take it away and bring me another, she says meanly. I swear you are the most useless child in the entire house. The boys are watching us. Ivan and Alvin have stopped reading the paper. Wendell has put down his needle, and Isaiah is awake now and observing quietly from the corner. Wilbert is watching every word that comes out of Grandmother Patience's horrible mouth, and I think that even Carlo feels sorry for me. I wish Mattie was here. He would never have let her do this to me. My blood is boiling like the tea water. I want to throw the cup in her face, but Wilbert gives me a wink that says, "Pay her no mind." I swear I don't know what I'd do without Wilbert. I go back to the kitchen and pour 3 whole spoonfuls of honey into the tea, the very last bit of honey in the jar. Mama says that Grandmother Patience has eaten up every sweet thing in this house. Grandmother Patience takes the cup from me and sips it so slowly we all hold our breaths. 1, 2, 3. She licks her lips and looks around at us children. "This is terrible tea," she says. "It's not sweet enough, and it's cold. Make me a fresh cup immediately." I just stand there. She bangs the floor with her cane. "But I've had all I can take. There isn't any more honey, you greedy old witch," I shout. She stands up to her full height and shakes her cane at me. She is bigger than I thought, and she is full of fury. Her mouth was twisted in an evil snarl. "How dare you defy me, you little brat," she says. "Go and make me a cup of tea." "I won't," I say. Wilbert and Wendell stand up at the same time like they are going to do something, but this seems to infuriate her more. "Fine," she says. "Have it your way, you evil child," and this time seems to stand still as she raises her wicked new cane in the air at me. And I flinch away, but she swings it with all her might and brings it down hard, not on me, but on my beautiful china baby doll sitting in the rocker, smashing her into a million pieces. I cry myself to sleep. When I wake up, it is dark and I am cold and my teeth are chattering. I am cold every night. It seems now that summer is gone, no matter how many flannels I put on me or on the bed. Wilbert complained this morning at breakfast that my chattering teeth kept him up half the night. Mama has said she is making a new quilt for us on account of ours being threadbare, but it would be spring before she was finished. She can't get a stitch sewn with the baby kicking at her all the time. The wind is whistling in the room. I think of my poor broken baby doll and whimper. I am so cold and sad. Wilbert whispers, "It will be all right, May." I don't think it will ever be all right again. I roll over and shiver some more. I am the saddest, coldest, sorriest girl ever. I wish I'd never been born. And just when I think my bones have frozen into place, Papa comes in. I am afraid I am in trouble and that Grandmother Patience has blamed me for a broken baby doll somehow. I cannot bear it and pretend to be asleep. Papa sits down on the bed and brushes the hair back from my cheeks. He sighs heavily and says, "I sure am sorry about your baby doll, May Amelia." I just lie there, still as a mouse. And then I shiver. Papa leaves the room, and a moment later he is back. He lays his good tweed coat on me, the warmest coat ever. It smells so fine, like an open field, or the breeze blowing off the nasal. "This'll keep you warm, little May," he says. "After all, you're the only May we've got. And wouldn't you know, I am as warm as any of Button's kittens. That big old tweed coat of my Papa's keeps me warm as a summer day, and I say, I believe you are right, Papa. I believe I am the only May you've got." Chapter 6. How to be a proper young lady. It seems like everyone is conspiring to make me a proper young lady. Our teacher, Miss McEwing, who is young and nice and always had a kind word, has even started on me. She is not a Finn and doesn't know much of Finnish at all. She has come all the way from Pennsylvania to teach us children. I cannot imagine why she wants to be here on the nasal, but Mama says we are lucky to have anyone at all. Wendell says she is sweet on Ben Armstrong on account of her always visiting him and bringing him pies and such. Now that it is October and the harvest is in, we are back at the schoolhouse. Why, all the Jackson children are here. This is certainly a miracle, Miss McEwing says. Miss McEwing is forever saying that the Jackson children are the tardiest in the valley. We often miss school because of the farm. That and the boys not liking school very much at all except Wendell. Wilbert has the hardest time and is always getting into fights with the other boys at the schoolhouse on account of them teasing him about his white hair. They are real mean to him and call him Whitey Wilbert. Papa says that Wilbert must go to school to learn and not to fight. We finally got the hay in, Wilbert says. Well, now that you are all here, let's move on. What do you children want to be when you grow up? I want to be a sailor, I say. A sailor, Miss McEwing exclaims. She seems shocked. Yes, indeed, I am going to travel with my Uncle Henry. He is a great sailor. Did you know? I suspect I will travel to faraway places like China and whatnot. Well, that's quite exciting, May, but do you think your family is going to want a young lady like you traipsing all over the world? Why don't you stay here in Nasal and be a teacher like me?" "Why would I want to stay here in Nasal? I don't want to be stuck here forever. You know I've been reading from there sure a lot of places I'd like to go in the world, but May Amelia, Miss McEwing says, proper young ladies don't go gallivanting around the world on ships. Well, I sure ain't no proper young lady, Miss McEwing. You can ask any of my brothers here." And every child starts laughing, and Wilbert laughs so hard he falls off his chair. Miss McEwing tries to look serious, but finally her eyes twinkle merrily, and she laughs too. No matter what Miss McEwing says, I do not think being a proper young lady sounds like any fun at all. Why, everyone knows that young ladies must stay home all the time and do embroidery and keep clean. I think I would have the hardest time with the keeping clean part. I get dirty quick like the boys. Boys have more fun, there's no two ways about it. Why, Wilbert says that he has gone work upriver at Ben Armstrong's logging camp, and I cannot think of a better thing. He is going to help out on a splash dam. The logging men make a dam across the river and pulled the cedar logs they intended to get downstream behind the dam. The Armstrong Dam is a big one. Wilbert says it's 14 feet high and 40 feet at the base. When it's time for the splash dam to be released, a whistle sounds and the dam is opened. The water floods out and the logs with it. It can be real treacherous. The Nasal is real rough and wild high up near the logging camp, and so when the splash dam is opened, the logs pop clear into the air and shoot down the Nasal, flying dangerously downstream until they end up at the bay by our house. Then the logs are rafted downriver to the boom, where they are sorted and stored before going on to the sunshine mill. They must sag the Nasal after the splash dam is released. Sagging is when the men clean up all the logs that get stuck in the banks or on folks' farms. Usually some boy must run down the Nasal and warn all the families that they are sending down the logs, otherwise you never know. Somebody might be doing their washing in the Nasal or setting a line to fish or taking a bath when they look up and here come all these logs barreling downstream. Sometimes Ben Armstrong hires Ivan or Alvin to be the boy who runs down to warn everybody. When I was a small child, Lonnie Peterson was playing in the Nasal and his mom didn't know he was there, and they opened a splash dam and the logs came down and he was swept down the Nasal and banged up by the logs. He was hurt real bad and Mama says he almost didn't make it. Papa says he reckons that's why Lonnie hasn't been right in the head since. Papa says, May Amelia, you listen for the boy who tells you that the logs are coming down the Nasal. You don't want to end up slow in the head like Lonnie now, do you? Wilbert was going to be Whistle Punk, the boy who gives the whistle that it is time to open the dam. It's a very exciting job. I wish I could be a Whistle Punk like Wilbert. They never let you, Wilbert says, on account of you being a young lady and all. It's not fair, I say. Mama overhears me and says, May Amelia, you are not supposed to be working the splash dams with the men. Proper young ladies simply don't do such things. Lord knows there's nothing more dangerous than that logging camp. Between the accidents and the fires, it's a miracle they get any work done. I wonder about Mama sometimes. Mama is a lady, but not the usual kind. She is very strong, I know, on account of helping Papa run the farm all these years and organizing the boys. She has a mind of her own and doesn't hesitate one bit to give you her opinion. Wilbert says she is as tough as Papa, but just a kinder way of showing it. I look at Mama's belly and something is pushing in the front. She lets me touch her belly. The little baby's kicking and it feels like kittens tumbling. Mama, I say, that little baby's in your tummy wrestling like Evan and Elvin. She says, May Amelia, I believe you are right. Grandmother Patience comes clomping into the kitchen and gives me a mean look. She won't talk to me anymore, not since Mama yelled at her for smashing my baby doll. Mama says that Grandmother Patient went too far, and that if she was going to stay in our house, she'd have to abide by Mama's rules, and that was that. Hello, Mother Patience, Grandmother says. Grandmother Patience caresses her wicked cane and eyes me like she wants to take a swing. Mama looks between the two of us and just sighs. She knows there's going to be trouble for sure. Cut my hair, Wilbert, I say. Have you gone crazy, May? He says. Cut off my hair the way I can get a job with you and Ben Armstrong's. If I wear my overalls, I'll look just like another boy. But you're a young lady, May. You heard Mama. Don't you start too, Wilbert. I'll never get to have any fun like all you boys. It's not fair. I don't know, May, Wilbert says, shaking his head. If you don't help me, I'll do it myself. Fine, May, Wilbert says. I'll cut it off. And snip, snip, my long brown hair is gone. I go up to Ben Armstrong's camp. I have to sneak out of the house to Mama, and Grandmother Patience won't see my hair. The men are getting ready to send a load of logs down the Nasal. It's a dangerous work indeed, and so they have brought in Lars and Swede to tell them how to do it properly, to show them how to construct the splash dam. Lars the Swede is an old man, but he is a real expert. He was a bridge maker in Sweden until he married a Finnish girl and came to America. He has the fiercest eyes with pointy brows and great white beard that Wilbert says he got from scaring children. Lars says, Hello, you Amelia. What are you doing up here? We don't usually get young ladies a-calling. I want a job, I say. Well, I don't know about that. We have plenty of help right now with the cooking, with Nora Fuller and Miss Peterson lending a hand since your Aunt Feeny left. Not cooking, I say, exasperated. I have to do that at home. Maybe I can be a whistle punk, I suggest. A whistle punk, Lars says, looking puzzled. Yes, like Wilbert. I don't think you'll probably be too happy about that, May. We don't generally hire on young ladies as whistle punks. But there's got to be something, I say. Lars scratches his head thoughtfully. I suppose you could be the child that runs on down the nasal and sends the warning, he says. I say, sure, fine. I can run fast as any boy. Just watch me. Lars laughs and says, you look like a boy with that hair of yours. I believe you can run, May Amelia. I've seen you run away from those brothers of yours when you've gotten into mischief. How much will I get paid, I ask. Lars rubs his beard like he is thinking seriously. 1 penny seems fair, he says. Fine, I say. All right, Lars says, get it going, May Amelia. Go run on down and let the good folks know that the logs are coming so that we won't send logs crashing into their Sunday washing. And so I run down the nasal, down past the widow Catchacron's farm and Jacob Clayton's. It is a long stretch along the nasal, and in the distance I can tell that they have released the splash dam, that the logs are racing down the nasal with me, and are almost catching up. The dam is open, logs coming. I holler as I run past every person, but I don't stop and I keep going because the logs are simply shooting down the river. I reach the Peterson farm and Lonnie is in the field and he gives me a wave. Hi, Carlo, he hollers at me, and I stumble, realizing that Lonnie has mistaken me for Carlo on account of my short brown hair. I get up and keep on going. I run until I am near about out of breath, and then I am back at our house, and Bosie is jumping and yapping at my feet, wanting to play. Bosie, go lie down, I say. No tricks today. I am all worn out. He's more fun not being a proper young lady. Tonight is the dance at the finished hall for all the young ladies and gentlemen. There is a dance every fall after the harvesting is done, but I am not allowed to go and have to stay home with Mama and Papa and Grandmother Patience and Bosie and Buttons, while all the brothers get to go. Even Isaiah, Papa is making him take a bath so he doesn't smell like a sheep. But I'm a young lady, I say to Mama. Everybody's been telling me so. Why can't I go? Young ladies don't look for work at logging camps and cut off their hair, Mama says. Mama is real upset with me. But when your hair is up in a knot, it looks short too. What does it matter, I say. You don't look like any young lady I've ever seen, Grandmother Patience says meanly. You look like Fright. Mother Patience, Mama says, exasperated. I say it's not fair. Wilbert's going, and he's no gentleman neither, and are the rest of boys. Mama shakes her head and says, just be patient, May Amelia. There's time enough for boys. I say I'm not interested in boys. I just want to go to the dance. No, May, Mama says firmly, and goes back to crocheting a blanket for the new baby with bare-bone hooks. It is clear that I am going to have to sit at home with animals and grown-ups and have no fun at all. The front window is open, and all of a sudden a seagull flies in through it, flaps madly around, and then flies out with a loud squawk. We all freeze. Every Finn knows that it is bad luck for a bird to fly into your house and die. It means that someone in the family will die. Finally, I break the silence. It surely was alive when it left, I say. Yes, indeed, Mama says, relief in her voice. The girl's right, Grandmother Patience agrees. We all laugh nervously. It's just superstition anyway, Papa says. It may be superstition, Mama says shakily, but it certainly gave me a scare. She pats her round belly, looks over at me, and sighs. The boys had to milk the cows and then walk all the way to Finish Hall for the dance on account of the nasal being plumb full of logs. The hall is a long walk past the Tidelands on the way to Napton. There is always a lively time to be had at the hall, and it is where all the wedding feasts and the parties are held. Papa said all the boys had to be back by dawn for milking time, or there'll be the devil to pay. And sure enough, those brothers of mine barely found their way home by the time the sun is peeping out of the valley. I am downstairs in the kitchen when they sneak in. All the boys are real cranky on account of getting no sleep at all, especially Carlo. I see you are home just in time for the milking, I say. Carlo fixes me with a sour look and says, go away, May Amelia. You're a sorry sight after your night of dancing with Tinny Hunko. Bosie's nicer looking than that horrible Tinny Hunko, I say. At least she's a real lady, not like you, May Amelia, with that hair of yours. You don't even look like a girl no more. You're no kind of young lady. Even me old Carlo wants me to be a young lady. Well, you're no gentleman, I say. Papa comes out and says, that's enough, stop bickering and get to your chores. And that is that. Later in the morning, Lonnie comes by, and his eyes go all wide. What's happened to your hair, May? He says. Wilbert cut it off. Oh, he says, my cousin Time seems help harvesting the cranberries. Do you and Wilbert want to come? Lonnie's cousin Time has cranberry bogs, and he sells cranberries back east where they are very popular. He lets us children pick the cranberries, and we get a pity bucket. Some of the boys called Timmy One-Eye on account of the mean old bull goring out one of his eyes. Not me, though. Timmy is mighty big and has a real fierce temper, and I stay out of his way. It's quiet now that the hay's been brought in, but I have to be back to fix supper. Mama's been feeling bad all morning. Sure, Lonnie, I say. I'll round up some of the boys. Isaiah won't leave his sheep, and Wendell is collecting herbs, and no one can tell for sure where Ivan and Alvin have gone off to, so Wilbert, me, and Carlo and Lonnie head out to Timay's cranberry box. It's a fierce autumn day, the kind that lets you know that winter is just around the corner. It is wet and cold and all misty-like. The bogs are on the Nasal upriver, maybe 3 miles away. Carlo is skipper. Carlo says, "This weather is awful. I can't see a thing on the river." Logging makes the Nasal real hard to navigate sometimes, with logs and broken branches still pile up overnight, and there will be snags where there weren't any before, and that's the end of your boat. We round a bend, and Wilbert says, "We're not too far now." Carlo is not right about the much, but he is right about this weather. It is certainly awful that the closer we seem to be the bogs, farther away they seem to get. It is all foggy and thick, but real quiet. The only sounds are water lapping and scraps hitting our boat. Wilbert and Carlo start fighting over who gets to be skipper on the way back home. Wilbert says, "You always get to be skipper, Carlo. It's not fair." "I'm older," Carlo says. "Well, if I'm going to be sailing captain, I need to practice at navigating." "But it's only the Nasal," says Carlo, "not even the Shoalwater Bay or the Columbia." I take Wilbert's side and say, "Wilbert's got to practice, Carlo. Even Uncle Henry says so." Carlo says, "Shut up, May Amelia. What do you know about anything anyway? You're just a girl, not even a proper young lady. Besides, you always take Wilbert's side." We tie up the boat and have a walk for about 1.5 miles, and the fields are soggy. When we reach the small stream that leads to Timay's bogs, we see that it is a rushing river on account of the rain. There's no way we can cross it on the log bridge. It's been washed clear away. We'll have to go up and take the swing bridge, Wilbert says, and then loop around the back down. Everywhere in the Nasal Valley, along the rocky, steep areas where the boats cannot go, and the waters are too rough, and there are swing bridges. The swing bridges are made of thick rope and in rough planks and are suspended over the water. They are ever so helpful on account of the fact that the log bridges can be awful slippery when it is wet, and many a child, including me, has slipped off a log and into the cold water below. We walk all the way up until we reach the swing bridge. It is a specially long bridge, with Timay put in some years back, and some of the planks are rotted out in places. The fog is so heavy that we can't even see across to the other side. "That fog's as thick as soup," Wilbert says. "I'll go first," Lonnie says. "I know the bridge." "Hold on to the ropes, May. Those planks aren't so good," Wilbert says. Lonnie creeps out onto the bridge, and me right behind him. The ropes are slippery as my hands. Wilbert's right behind me, and Carlo behind him. It's pretty windy, and the bridge hanging high over the water below is swinging and swaying. "Don't slip on the bridge, May," Wilbert says, looking at the raging water below. "Otherwise we'll be fishing for girls." I hold tight to the ropes. We are nearly halfway across the bridge when Lonnie, who has been quiet the whole way, says, "I hear a baby crying." Everyone knows that Lonnie isn't quite right in the head, so Carly says skeptically, "A baby all the way out here? Hush, Carlo." Wilbert says, "Listen." Sure enough, through the rain and fog comes the clear, tinkly sound of a baby crying from the other end of the bridge. "Well, I'll be," says Carlo. "It surely is a baby. Come on, let's keep moving." "Maybe someone abandoned it," says Wilbert as we creep along. "What's a baby doing out here?" I say. "Why would anyone bring a baby out on a—" "Will you shut up, May? How can anyone get a thought with you chattering?" says Carlo. "We need to fetch it," says Lonnie, his voice lost in a swirl of wind. Lonnie has always had a soft heart. One time he nursed back to health a sparrow that had broken its wing. "Yeah," says Wilbert, "it'll die for sure if it's left out in this cold rain. The baby's crying is getting louder and louder." "Why would a baby be all this way out here?" I say. "There ain't any folks around here, and it's sure for certain doesn't belong to May." "Be quiet, May," Carlo says. "You're just a girl. What do you know about anything anyway?" "No, wait, listen," I say. "Remember what Wildcat Clark told us how—" But Lonnie is moving closer to the other side, and the baby's cries are right in front of us. A fierce wind comes up and swooshes the fog, and we can finally see not a baby at all, nothing lying there but small and pink like little Moses in the rush cradle. No, not that at all. We freeze where we stand, still as deer at the sight on that bank. And it comes to the boys at once, what I was trying to tell them, what Wildcat Clark had told us. Wildcat Clark, the legend of the valley, the greatest hunter who'd caught and trapped the best Chinook trackers, who kept a tanned wolf as his hound, who'd seen an elk the color of snow high on the mountains. They remembered what he told us late one night last winter when we sat around the kitchen after he had taken the boys hunting. "I once heard a cougar cry like a baby calling for its mother." 'Cause standing on the bank was no baby. It's a cougar. Nobody moves. We are trapped in the middle of the bridge. The cougar starts growling low in its throat. No more baby crying sounds. No, he looks mean and thin and hungry. And I imagine we look like supper. "Run!" I shout, and we all turn around and start to run back across the bridge. Ahead of me, Carlo and Wilbert are moving as fast as they can, as fast as the wind will let them, and so am I. I am nearly halfway across when I hear Lonnie calling me, saying, "May, don't go! May, don't leave me, May!" I look around, and Lonnie is right where I left him. He has not moved an inch. He is frozen with fear, staring at the cougar. I run back, and sure enough, he is frightened to death. Big old tears are rolling down his cheeks, and so I push him hard in front of me, and say, "Go, Lonnie!" Lonnie starts rushing across the bridge. The cougar is still growling on the bank. Any minute and it will be on the bridge, and it will still be goodbye, May Amelia, hello supper, unless I do something. I pushed Lonnie forward. Carlo and Wilbert had made it to the other side, and they are hollering, hurry, May, hurry. I push Lonnie as hard as I can ahead of me, but all of a sudden the bridge gets the best of me. My foot breaks a weak plank, and I go tumbling through. I grab the ropes. Lonnie, I scream. Lonnie turns around and sees me dangling for the rope, and the mean cougar growling at us, and he picks me up and tosses me over his shoulder like a sack of flour. Barreling across the bridge, the cougar lets out a roar like nothing I've ever heard, worse than Papa and Grandmother Patience put together, and gathers itself to leap at us. Come on, Lonnie, I holler. And the mean old cougar leaps at us, and it lands right on the broken part of the bridge, its big old paws just about on the broken planks. It hesitates for a minute, sensing trouble. I get an idea. Roar! I roar at the cougar. The cougar's eyes narrow, and it pounces forward, intent on making a meal of me. But it is too heavy, and the rotted-out planks break, collapse, and the cougar goes tumbling down with the loose planks into the raging water below. When it hits the water, it lets out a roar. I wouldn't like to be the fisherman who catches that cat in his nets. Lonnie plops me down on the ground. I cannot catch my breath. That was close, Wilbert says, shaking his head at me. Maybe next time you'll listen to me when I'm right, I say, glaring at Carlo, even if I'm not a proper young lady. Carlo eyes me and says, you're not right about much, May Amelia, and I have to agree, but you sure don't look like any kind of proper young lady I've seen. I've lost a shoe in the river from my fall, and my sleeve is all ripped. I'm wet as can be, and I'm a real fright. Well, then, I say, I reckon it's a darn good thing that I'm not a proper young lady, or you'd be that cougar's supper right about now. Carlo starts laughing real hard. Yeah, May Amelia, I reckon you are right about that. Chapter 7, Bad Days Indeed. Wilbert says there are some days that are so bad there's no mending them. I am thinking this one of those days. What with having forgotten my dinner pail and my lessons, I went hungry at noon and got scolded by Miss McEwing. Ivan and Alvin and Wilbert and Wendell and Carlo and me are in the little boat. Isaiah stayed home from school today on account of one of the sheeps having a bad leg. Carlo has fetched us home from the schoolhouse, and he is in a terrible mood, but I am ignoring him and telling Wilbert my troubles. I say, Wilbert, this has been a bad day. We are on the Nasal near the bend by Lonnie's farm, and I say, Wilbert, why am I having this bad luck? Carlo, who is in a mean mood, says, Hush up, May Amelia, I'm tired of you always chattering. Can't you ever be quiet, girl? Carlo is always in a mood, and it seems, since Maddie left, a bad one. I say, I hate you, Carlo, you're always awful to me, and Carlo says, Shut up, May Amelia, or I'm going to put you on that snag over there and leave you for the monsters. It is a terrible snag on the Nasal, made up of scary-looking brambles and shiny green wood and all sorts of muck. Wilbert sticks up for me and says, Yeah, Carlo, stop being mean to May Amelia. She ain't done nothing wrong. Yeah, Carlo, Wendell says, Leave May alone. Leave me alone, Ivan and Alvin say together, which is strange because they usually don't take anybody's side except each other. Shut up, all of you, Carlo Pelters. Wilbert says, You're just a temper because Tiny Hunka won't talk to you no more. Carlo's eyes go all dark and stormy, and he lets fly at Wilbert. No fighting between brothers, I say, but they didn't pay me no mind, me being only his sister and all. The boys are always fighting, and it seems, and today is no different. Even Mama says it's what they do best. They bang and push around the boat and shove me, and sure enough, I fall right into the Nasal. The Nasal is ever so cold in November. I cannot tell you how cold. It is not a good time to take a dip. It seems to take forever for us to get home, and by the time we get home, I am frozen straight through and shivering so hard that I think for sure my teeth will fall right out. Wilbert carries me into the house. Papa is in the kitchen with Mama, and he takes a long, hard look at us and says, Have you children been wrestling in the boat again? How many times have I told you? No wrestling on the Nasal. Just look at May Amelia, soaked straight through. How did this happen? Grandmother Patience eyes me with distaste and says, That daughter of yours is nothing but walking disaster. Just look at her. Papa ignores her and says, Well, what happened? It was an accident, says Wilbert real quick, and fixes Carlo with an eye. Ivan says, Yeah, Pa, it was an accident. Boat wasn't balanced near proper enough, and we hit a snag around the bend, and May Amelia went tumbling in, Alvin finishes. Those twins sure are sneaky. Well, how about that? Papa says skeptically. Imagine a mean old snag getting the best of May Amelia Jackson. Yeah, says Ivan, it must be May's snag. And now all the boys are calling that snag by Lonnie's farm May's snag, and Wendell has drawn up a map on the nasal and put May's snag on it, and brought it to me where I am in bed, on account of the dunking I got in the nasal. Mama has put a mustard plaster on my chest because I am coughing so much. She says I need to rest and get better, and that my cough sounds real bad. Papa comes by, and I ask him if I can take the boat out when I am better, and he says no. It's not fair, I say. The boys get to take the boat out. That's why they get to take the boat out, May Amelia, Papa says, because they are boys. Do you want to end up on the bottom of the nasal? We're living in the wilderness, and it's a dangerous place, May Amelia, and you, a girl, have got a nose for trouble. Papa stomps away. Papa is always so unfair to me, on account of being a girl. Maybe if there's another girl around, he wouldn't be this way. I hope for the 100th time that I get a baby sister. I sure do hope my luck gets better. But things do not get better. They just get worse. Wilbert says that the Jackson family has no kind of luck. A few days later, when I am up and feeling better, the General Cluster, the main mail boat, is tied up on our dock when we get home from the schoolhouse. We only get mail a few times a month in these parts, usually depending on Uncle Arno's mood. Uncle Arno just brought the mail out a few days ago. Wilbert says, what he's doing back here. Uncle Arno is sitting at the kitchen table with Mama and Papa and Grandmother Patience. Hi, Uncle Arno, I say, excited to see him. Hello there, May Amelia, Uncle Arno says, but there is no laugh in his voice, and he is not in a joking mood, and like he usually is with us children. Even his mustache appears to be drooping. What's going on, Pa? Wilbert says. You're full of a brother. Matty was at Maria's tavern last night in Astoria, and now he's gone missing. Shanghaied. Arno believes he is on a ship right now intended for the Orient. Shanghaied? Ivan and Alvin say in disbelief. Our Matty? I say, that's certainly one way to travel the world, Wendell says, shaking his head. You're sure, Uncle Arno? Carlos says skeptically. That's what I'm thinking, Uncle Arno says, tugging at his beard. The boy was just plumb disappeared. What are you going to do, Uncle Arno? Are you going to track him down, I say? Can't track down that nobody's seen, he says sadly. I cannot believe what Matty has gotten himself shanghaied, I tell Wilbert. He's too smart for our brother Matty. Wilbert says, you sure don't know much about boys, May Amelia. I know plenty, I say. There are enough of them around here. You sure don't know about girls, then? I bet the widow Maria herself had something to do with it. She can be sweeter than maple syrup when she puts her mind to it, smart or not, Wilbert says. The widow Maria is real notorious in these parts because she's the only woman who owns a tavern. She's not long white hair that she wears in a braid, and it nearly reaches the back of her knees. Best of all, she smokes a pipe that keeps her money and her stocking high on her leg, and thinks nothing of hiking up her skirt and pulling down the stocking for a coin. She's famous for shanghaiing men who drink in her tavern. Wilbert tells me she'll slip something into their glass and knocks them out, and then let them down a ladder in a rowboat waiting below where they're rowed out to a ship. When they wake up, they're far out at sea. The trouble started when Maria had her own husband shanghaied for $10. Rumor is that when she slipped him down the ladder into the rowboat, he fell into the water and sank to the bottom of the bay and drowned, and she told everyone he was killed by pirates. Uncle Henry says that all the folks in town know the truth, but it doesn't stop them from going to her tavern because the fritters are so good. The next day, Wilbert and I are trying to cheer up Bosie in the yard. Bosie is a good dog, but he's not very smart, and he's real stubborn, too. He usually listens to our brother Matty. Otherwise, he just does as he pleases. Wilbert tells me Bosie thinks he's a person. Matty was his favorite, and he has been a sad dog indeed since he left. Matty used to say Bosie scraps every supper, and sometimes breakfast, too. Now Bosie is moping around to the table and whining real sorry-like, and Papa has banished him from the house until he learns to behave like a normal dog, but he still howls through the door. He is feeling very sorry for himself. I know that Mama and Papa are worried something fierce about Matty. I worry, too, but mostly I just miss him. We are passing a ball back and forth, but Bosie is in no mood for tricks, and instead takes a bite out of Wilbert's overalls and runs off with it. I suspect he intends to hide it under the house with the rest of his treasures. Bosie got you good, Wilbert, I say, laughing at Wilbert's overalls. All of a sudden, Bosie runs back, and he's yelping and barking real excited-like, and there is Lonnie's ma, running and crying and stumbling down the trail through the woods that leads up to the logging camp. She is hysterical for sure, and her hair is falling all around her head, and she is saying, May Amelia, fetch your mama. May Amelia, fetch Alma. Oh, my Lord. Mama is in the kitchen, making biscuits, and has flour all over her apron. Mama, Ma, hurry. Something's the matter with Lonnie and Ma, I say. When we go outside, Wilbert is sitting next to Miss Peterson with his arm around her, patting her back, but Miss Peterson is crying her very heart right out. Calm yourself, Ida. What's the matter, for goodness sake? Mama says, wiping her hands on her apron. Nora's dead, Miss Peterson wails. Nora Foolish dead? Good heavens. What happened? She's been murdered, split right open like a slaughtered animal. You cannot believe the sight. Oh, my Lord, Alma. The blood everywhere. Look at me. I have blood all over my apron. I got Nora's blood all over me. We gotta sew her up. She ain't got no kin around here. We gotta put her together. We can't leave her like that, all falling out of herself. Miss Peterson cries and cries, and Mama clutches her big belly and looks real white. She says, Wilbert, take Miss Peterson home and put her straight into bed. May Amelia go fetch her pa and the boys and tell them to get home quick. I said so. Wilbert helps Miss Peterson up and then leads her down the path of her house. Mama says, go on, May, do as I say. And so I run as fast as I could to round up all the boys, and first to Papa out of the south field, and then to Isaiah in the back pasture with the sheeps, and then to Ivan and Alvin and Wendell down by the tidelands, and finally on to Carlo and the Jacob Clayton's back pasture. By the time I get back, all the boys are standing around the table listening to Mama tell Papa. Who did it to her, Papa says. No one knows for sure. They suspect it was logging man, Micah Anderson. He's gone missing. Ida says that Micah fancied her after Nora. She wouldn't have a thing to do with him. I'm not surprised she sent it up like this, Grandmother Patience says nastily. Mother Patience, Mama says. What did she expect working up at a logging camp with a bunch of wild men? A real lady wouldn't have set foot in that camp, she says, giving me the evil eye. Papa just looks hard at Grandmother Patience and says, Come on, boys, we have got to fetch Nora and bring her back here and let your ma tend to her. Her kin's in Nova Scotia and she ain't got no one else to speak for her. So my papa and the boys go back to fetch Nora. Nora, Fuller's body, is in our front parlor at this very minute and is just lying on the couch waiting for Isaiah to finish building a box to hold it. I didn't know Nora very well, but my, she looks real terrible. I cannot say how very terrible. David's our dead people do not look very happy at all. Mama and Miss Peterson are sewing her up with a big thick needle and Papa's black fishing twine. Miss Peterson keeps leaving and throwing up until finally Mama says, Ida, I'm the one with a babe on the way, and I cannot stand being around sickness more than once a day, so kindly leave me to finish here. You aren't a speck of help in the state you are in. This girl needs putting back together, and it's never going to happen with you hovering and retching. Mama says, May Amelia, fetch your brother Wendell for me. He has a good hand with the needle and thread. Which is the truth for sure, but the last time I saw him sew it was to make a new dress for Susanna. Who would have thought he'd be stitching up Nora Fuller? Papa is worried about Micah Anderson being out and around, and he says, May Amelia, don't you go out in the pastures till Micah's been found. You understand me? Take a hard look at that poor woman lying in our parlor. You don't want to end up like her now, do you? And no sassing me about wanting to take out the boat on the Nasal. You're not going anywhere unless you got one of the boys with you. Wilbert, be sure to find May Amelia. See that she doesn't go wandering off dreaming like she does. So now Wilbert is stuck to me, like my very own shadow, and all the boys must carry their guns. I wonder where Micah Anderson has gone to, I say to Wilbert. The sheriff from Astoria and the men from Ben Armstrong's camp are looking for them, he says. They'll never catch Micah. These woods are too big. Nobody knows them except dead men and Indians. It's easy to disappear. Jacob Clayton comes by and shakes his head. First Mattie and now this. My, we sure are living in some bad times when a man will do such a thing, he says. Papa says, yes, indeed, Jacob, times sure have changed. These are bad days indeed. The luck just gets worse. Bosie has been whining every night since Mattie left, and finally his enemy, the big mean raccoon who lives behind the milking barn, hears him going at it, and they get into terrible fight. The raccoon bites Bosie real good, and when we go down for breakfast, it's clear he is a beaten dog. His cuts are bloody and nasty looking, and his eyes are glazed. Bosie looks bad at Wilbert. I say, Mama says, I don't have medicine for animals. You best take that dog of yours over to Jane. Maybe she can mend him. Jane is a Chinook princess, and she is old man Welland's wife. Everyone knows that the Chinooks have a way of healing. Why, when Wildcat Clark was just a young man, he shot himself in the leg while cleaning his gun, and the Chinooks found him and nursed him through the whole winter. Wildcat Clark always says that the Chinooks are the best neighbors a fellow can have, and they sure keep warm houses and smell real fine. He means the split cedar lodges, the kind that Jane has. Wilbert bundles Bosie into a sling, and we carry him over to the Whelan homestead. Wilbert and me go around the back where Jane lives. Old man Whelan says he can't tolerate having a woman in the house, and that's why he built on the other house for his wife. Wilbert says that old man Whelan is just plain crazy. Jane seems pretty content to me in her own house, which is what Chinook-style lodge of a split cedar logs. There are woven rush mats on the floors and a warm fire in the center of the room. Her place is clean and has a nice smell to it. Jane is pretty with long black hair parted down the middle and braids and big brown eyes. Jane speaks real good Finnish. She's been trying to teach me the Chinook jargon, but I am not a good pupil. She is busy weaving a basket when we knock on the door. Jane, maybe she can mend him. Jane is a Chinook princess, and she is old man Wyland's wife. Everyone knows that when the Sheenuks have the way of healing, why when Wildcat Clark was just a young man who shot himself in the leg while cleaning his gun, and the Sheenuks found him and nursed him through all the whole winter. Wildcat Clark always says that Sheenuks are best neighbors that a fella can have, and they sure keep warm houses that smell real fine. He means the split cedar lodges, the kinds that Jane has. Wilbert bundles Bosie into a sling, and we carry him over to the Wyland homestead. Wilbert had me go around with Jane leaves. Old man Wyland says he can't tolerate having a woman in the house, and that's why he built on the older house for his wife. Wilbert says the old man Wyland is just plain crazy, but Jane seems pretty content to leave me in their own house, which is a Chinook-style lodge with split cedar logs. There are woven rush mats on the floors, a warm fire in the center of the room. Her place is clean and a nice smell to it. Jane is very pretty with long black hair parted down the middle of big braids and big eyes. Jane speaks good Finnish. She's been trying to teach me the Chinook jargon, but I am not very good pupil. She's very busy weaving a basket, and we walk in the door. Hi, Jane. Hello, May, Amelia, Wilbert, Rosie, she says, nodding her head. That's what I like about Jane. She even says hello to our mangy dog. The raccoon got him, Wilbert says. He certainly did, Jane agrees, expecting Bosie. Jane is always kind to animals. She says the Chinook believe the souls come back at birds and beasts. You must always treat them with kindness and respect. Can you fix him? I say. Bosie looks pretty bad. Why don't you leave Bosie here with me, and I'll see what I can do. Will he be okay? I say. Will you just let Jane have a look? Wilbert says, making me sit down and brush the mat so that Jane can tend to Bosie. Did you hear our brother's Maddie's been shanghaied? I say. That's terrible, May. What bad luck. Yeah, nobody knows where he is. I suspect he is in the Orient. Bosie gives me a low, sad whine. Is Bosie going to be okay, Jane? Has he been a bad way ever since Maddie left? Maddie was his favorite person. Jane shakes her head sadly. An animal has to will to live, she says. And looking at Bosie and knowing that he's missing Maddie, I'm not real sure that he does. I sit on the stairs and listen to Jacob Clayton talk with Mama and Papa. Any word about Maddie? Mr. Clayton asks. Arno hasn't heard hide nor hair of him, Papa says. A real shame, because Clayton says he'll turn up. Don't lose hope. Papa just says, humph, at least he's not dead. Mr. Clayton says, the old Casey girl, May, from the downriver, has gone missing. The Irish family, Mama says. They think she might have drowned in the Nasal. She took a boat out by herself a week ago and hasn't been here since. The poor parents, Mama says. She was with her only girl, too, can't imagine. Well, her parents were real anxious to find her body and give it a honest burial, so tell the boys to keep an eye on the river. They have gathered around the Gillinetters in the valley of the Nasal, and they are dragging the river from the Saint Island with their nets to see if Mary O'Casey's body turns up. Carlo and Ivan and Alvin are out with the Gillinetters, lending a hand. I sit on the dock by our house and watch them. The Nasal usually so clean and clear. It looks dark and cloudy from the dredging, and I cannot imagine being on the bottom like Mary O'Casey. On the bottom where it's black forever. I toss a stick into the water, and the strong current sucks it swiftly away. I remember how Maddie would toss a stick into the river, and Bosie would jump and fetch it for him. Bosie wouldn't do that for anyone else. He'd just sit there and look as if you go in and can fetch it yourself, and now Maddie is gone. I can't believe old Bosie is sick and might die, and Maddie's never coming back, and I'm the saddest girl in Nasal. There's got to be some way to learn the bad luck around. Wilbert, I say, won't we try and catch Micah Anderson? Have you gone plumb crazy like Olaf Kula? Wilbert says, we know these woods real well, I say. May, Amelia, get that full idea out of your head right now. Micah Anderson is a wanted man, and he already sliced up one woman, but Wilbert, no, May, I mean it. Papa's right about this one. I can't believe Wilbert deciding with Papa and him being my best brother and all. I discussed the situation with Buttons in the barn. What do you think about Buttons? Do you think I can catch that mean old Micah Anderson? But Buttons isn't much interested in what I'm saying. He just wants to have her ears scratched. It's clear as can be that I'm going to have to do it alone. I sneak out of the house early in the morning before anyone else is up for the chores. It's Saturday and there's no for school. And we take Wilbert's gun. Even if he misses it, I know he won't tell on me, not Wilbert. I take the trail and ends up to Ben Armstrong's logging camp. It's really early, but all the logging are already up and working, and there is holding everywhere. It doesn't make good sense that Micah Anderson would hang around here committing such a horrible crime that started up the path of no leads the way to the valley and the other side of the mountain. Us children are forbidden to go on the other side of the mountain, but it seems plain silly. It's not as if there's going to be anything on the side that's not already on this side. It takes me until noon to get to the top of the mountain, and the view from the top makes my heart pound really fast. Why, my body can see anything from anywhere. Nasal, our farm, the Peterson farm, the Jacob Claytons too. While I say to myself, if Micah Anderson, I would surely hide on the other side with this here mountain. On the other side is thick woods, dark and looking scary even, exactly the sort of place murdering a scoundrel would hide. I start down the slippery slope, and there, beyond the big old pine tree, are two small baby cub bears. They are as cute as can be, all roly-poly. I go over to the cubs. They see me coming, and they flop down on their backs for me, all playful-like. The smaller one muzzles my head and give it a good scratch on his belly. You are sure the cutest animal I ever did see, I say. The cub goes a little flip, and I laugh. And you're just full of tricks. Why, I bet you could be in the circus, I say. All of a sudden, I hear loud growling, and it's not coming for the cubs. I turn around, and I hear a roar. It's a mama bear, and the boy is she ever accused. Mad. The little cubs run over to her, but she doesn't pay any mind. She's got her sights fixed on me, May Amelia Jackson. She takes off a chair toward me as well. I'm just so scared that I drop Wilbert's gun and scramble up that old tree as fast as I can. The mama bear is trying to get the tree after me, and I'm a real good climber, and I go higher and higher, and finally she lets out a roar and falls back down to the ground. I have heard that bears are real good climbers too, but this one doesn't seem much inclined to doing it, and now I can stuck in this tree and I cannot get down on account of the mama bear and her cubs sleeping at the bottom. I suspect she is waiting for me to come down so she can eat me. I have no luck at all, it seems. It is really dark. The stars have been out for a long time. I'm so cold that my teeth are chattering. I cannot tell what time it is, and I'm getting awful tired and sitting in this tree. I cannot fall asleep, or else I will surely fall off this branch and into the mama bear's big teeth. I wonder if anyone is missing me, or if they even noticed I'm gone. I bet they don't miss me one bit. Why would they care? But no good girl's disappeared, one that's always getting into trouble. I'm sure it is spooky in the woods late at night. There are all sorts of weird sounds. Jane is always saying that bad spirits walk around at night and make animal noises to trick people. I'm sure I'd listened to Wilbert and wasn't sticking this tree waiting to be eaten by a bear. I must have fallen asleep in that hard old tree, 'cause I wake up and nearly fall off the branch I'm on. I can see spooky-looking lights in the distance, and they are just dancing through the woods. I hope it is not old Eno's ghost tracking me down, 'cause I cannot escape from the tree, that's for certain sure. They get closer and closer, and they're heading right at me. It is not enough that the bear's gonna get me, but do the mean old spirits have to also? The mama bear starts growling low in her throat, and then I hear a shot, and a mama bear and her cubs turn around, tail, and run. It's not the spirits at all, it's a whole posse. May Amelia Jackson, you get down out of that tree right this minute, Papa hollers. He is holding a torch, and Jacob Clayton's next to him with a smoking gun. I slip slide down the tree as fast as I can. I've never been so happy to see Papa in my whole life, and he's got everyone with him, all my brothers, and Uncle Arno, and Mr. Peterson, and Ben Armstrong, and the sheriff, and the even crazy old Olaf Kula. Why, he's practically got the whole valley with him. How'd you find me? One of the men saw you sneaking by the camp earlier today. Ben Armstrong says he suspected you were headed up the mountain. I was trying to find Micah Anderson, I say. All the men start laughing. Girl, we've been searching for you half the night, Papa hollers. What were you thinking of, scaring us all like that with your foolishness? Why, I've half a mind to send you to Our Lady. Papa's real mad. His eyebrows are twitching and his lips are all tight together. A storm is brewing. I'm gonna get moved for sure. I want to run, but the sheriff is standing behind me, and he has his hand on my shoulder to keep me from bolting, I suspect. Well, Chalmer, now that your girl here is safe, why don't we head on home? It's nearly sunrise, the sheriff says. Sure enough, the sun is peeping over the mountain. Papa looks hard at me, and there is gleam in his eye. I wonder if I'm gonna get my backside tan in front of all these folks. There's a moment of silence while Papa scratches his beard thoughtfully, and he says, Everyone come back to the farm. May Amelia is cooking a breakfast for all of you. The men let out a cheer, and Wilbert turns to me and shakes his head. He knows I hate cooking more than anything in the whole world. It is a fitting punishment indeed. You sure you got your work cut out for you, May Amelia, he says. I guess, but they haven't had my cooking before, Wilbert, I say. We both laugh and set down the mountain. We are nearly back at the house when all of a sudden I hear barking. Bosie! Bosie comes running over, yelping and jumping around and licking my face. He sure is glad to see me. His cuts are all bandaged. Get down, Bosie, I say. Jane's coming down the trail. He's better now, Jane says, smiling. Come on, Bosie, I say, and run over to the nasal with him. I toss the stick into the water, and Bosie just sits there and stares at me. Same old Bosie, says Wilbert, and we all laugh. After breakfast, I sneak out and give Bosie some scraps of bacon. He is so happy that his tail is just a wagging. He rolls around in the dirt at my feet, and his bandages get all dusty. I think my luck has finally turned around. You sure are a dumb dog, Bosie, I say. Bosie barks at me and wags his tail, but you're the only Bosie we've got. Chapter 8. Mothers grow up young here. We are on our way home from Sunday service at the Ricochet, the nasal prayer house. Old Man Winter has arrived in the valley. He is in a bad mood indeed. It is freezing cold. The nasal is frozen over in parts, and the air is icy. Everyone keeps saying that it is the coldest winter anyone can remember. We are near May's snag when Mama's hand flutters to her belly. She says, Jalmer, you best get me home. This baby has decided it wants to be born this very minute. Papa goes all pale and says, right now? Mama says it isn't just like a Jackson baby to want to get born on a boat on a nasal. I can hardly believe that the baby is finally here. It has taken just about forever for it to decide to get born. You're going to have the baby right here, I say, in this boat. The baby doesn't know we're in a boat, May Amelia, Mama says with a weak smile. All of a sudden, there's a pool of water at Mama's feet. The baby's coming fast, Mama gasps. Wendell and Wilbert and Ivan and Alvin and Isaiah grab all the oars there are. They row and row as fast as they can. They almost resemble the kittens who saved me in the canoe. Faster, Carlo hollers, acting like the skipper. We're going as fast as we can, Wilbert shouts back. But he's not mad at Carlo. He's just worried about Mama, who is not looking too good. Mama's breathing is hard now, huffing and puffing and moaning. Our house is nearly 2 miles away. I'll never make it home, Chalmer. Mama cries. Papa, I say, let's go to Lonnie's sauna. It's closest and it will be warm. Good thinking, May, Mama says, patting my hand. I know I could count on my May. When the boat reaches the shore, Carlo jumps off and ties it, and Papa carries Mama to the bank. May Amelia, Mama says in a moan. Go and fetch Miss Peterson. My clever brother Wendell, who wants to be a doctor, has turned pale. Wendell Jackson, you stay here with me, Mama says, if you want to learn doctoring. How's a good time as any? Wendell looks real shaky but nods. So Papa runs Mama with her big belly heaving all the way to the sauna. Wilbert and Ivan and Alvin and me run ahead of him to the Peterson house, while Carlo and Isaiah tie up the boat. Peterson places ways back and we reach it. We don't bother knocking on the door, we just run right in. Mr. and Miss Peterson and Lonnie are sitting down to a nice dinner of roast duck and it looks mighty tasty. Hi, May, Lonnie says. Mama's having her baby. I say, where? Miss Peterson asks. In your sauna. Peterson stands up, calm as can be, and says, Lonnie, run out and fetch me some water. Miss Peterson and me run down to the nasal to the sauna. Alma, Miss Peterson calls in through the sauna door. She's right here, hollers my papa, banging open the sauna door. A waft of cedar smoke hits my face. Ida, Mama wails at Mr. Peterson. Chalmer, why don't you go on to the house and set with Orrin? We'll be a while out here, I think, Miss Peterson says, nodding at my papa. Go on. Papa comes out looking gray. May, take your pa on to the house, Miss Peterson says, closing the door. Make sure Lonnie brings me that water right away. Oh, and send Wilbert down with some towels, too, behind the door. Mama is groaning. Come on, Papa, I say, grabbing his hand and pulling up the slope. I have never seen Papa like this before. You walk to the house where Mr. Peterson is waiting for us. Orrin, Papa says, nodding at Mr. Peterson. Sorry to disturb your dinner. Pull up a chair and have something to eat, Mr. Peterson says, and I think some vodka, too. Never can tell how long it's going to take for a baby to come. Thank you kindly, Orrin, Papa says, taking a glass of vodka. Papa takes a big gulp and some of the color returns to his cheeks. Well, Chalmer, Mr. Peterson says with a hearty laugh. The old-time Finn doctors always said the best babies were born in the sauna, so there you go. Baby Amy is the prettiest little baby I ever did see, with her duck feather, blonde hair, and bright blue eyes. Mama says it was only right that I got to name her on account of me being her only sister and all. I ended up naming her Amy because it's May all mixed up. I named her second name after Aunt Alice just like I said I would, so her full name is Amy Alice Jackson. Mama has been a real bad way since having the baby, and Aunt Alice has come up from Astoria to lend a hand. She says it is because Mama was too old to be making babies. Mama took a fever after Amy was born and has been left up to me to take care of the baby while Aunt Alice takes care of Mama. I'm staying home from school to help with the new baby. It is a lot of work taking care of baby Amy, but I don't care at all because I have a sister. I will never be alone again. She is a real live miracle come true. Baby Amy is crying so bad I fear she will split right open like Nora. She sucks so hard on my thumb that it is as wrinkled as an old widow crone. I am beside myself. I don't know what to do. The baby won't stop crying, I say, and Papa says, don't bother your mama. She needs rest. But she's crying. The baby's only hungry, that's all. Papa says, your mama isn't strong enough to give the baby any milk, so we'll have to get some help with old Liz the cow. Papa takes a piece of oilskin and hangs it in a cone, straps on a teat to it like I've never seen before. It is an amazing teat, like a real woman's, and I ask him where he got it. Why, he says with a laugh, we got it when you were born. Don't you remember feeding at it? No, I surely do not remember such a thing. I believe him. Papa puts warm milk from the cow into the oilskin. I hold the teat to Amy's mouth, and right away the babe latches on and sucks and sucks. Ivan and Alvin and Wilbert and Wendell and Isaiah and even Carla come around and watch me feed Amy with the milk teat, and they say, my, May Amelia, you sure are a good little mother. Why, look how that babe is drinking away. You sure do have a way with babies, Wendell says. I believe I do have a way, at least with this baby. Baby Amy is the most perfect baby I ever did see. I'm making a record of her growings because Mama says that's what she did when Maddie and Isaiah were born. What about Wilbert and Wendell and Ivan and Alvin and May Amelia? I asked her. Didn't you keep all records of us? No, she smiles weakly. Any amount of children after 2 doesn't leave you any time to remember your own name, let alone when they took their first step. Mama is not feeling any better and still in bed, so it is up to me to keep record for baby Amy. Well, I'm going to keep a perfect record so that when baby Amy is grown up, she will say, well, I had the very best sister, May Amelia, and she kept a record for me and everything. This is the record of May Alice Jackson, born on November 23rd, 1899, on the nasal like May Amelia, blue eyes like a boy's, 10 fingers, 10 toes, drinks from Papa's milk teat, enjoys sleeping all day and crying and fussing when hungry for the milk, no teeth to speak of. This is all I can think of to say. Babies are not very exciting, but they sure are a whole lot of work. This one likes to eat all the time and always needs changing, and other boys will change her, but I wouldn't let them anyway. Amy likes to sit with me in the rocking chair, which Papa has brought home me from Wilbert's bedroom, and be rocked, and look out the window at the nasal going by real slowly. I tell her stories, and she listens, looking up at me with her big blue eyes blinking away. I say, baby Amy, when you are grown up, you and me are going to have such a wonderful time. You will be best friends with Wilbert like I am, and he is the best brother. You will be my very best sister, and I know you will be so very pretty. I can already see you in a blue robin dress like Alice wears with the shell buttons down the front. Oh, baby Amy, I wish you would hurry up and grow so that we can tell secrets and play hide and seek with Bosie and catch fishies on the baby island and everything. You must hurry up and grow, baby Amy, for there's so much to do. I am not the only girl around here anymore. I am in the kitchen with Aunt Alice helping her fix biscuits for supper. She is wearing a pretty calico dress and has not grease and flour all down the front of it, and she even has a speck of grease on her face. Mama still has the fever. It's strange to see Aunt Alice in our kitchen. I know she is a fine cook, but she doesn't look like a lady who spends a lot of her time in the kitchen. I don't know why my sister does it, Aunt Alice says, wiping her brow. Taking care of this big house, feeding all those brothers of yours, managing the farm, and now a baby on top of it. Baby Amy's no trouble at all, I say. No trouble at all, she laughs with amazement. May Amelia Jackson. That is a fib if I ever heard one. That child is nothing but work. Why, I don't think you've let her out of your sight since it was born, and now she keeps you up half the night with her crying. Just look at those circles under your eyes. She's my sister, I say. I have to look out for her, and you're doing a very good job. You're a real help. Grandmother Patience stomps into the kitchen. Her face goes all dark when she sees me standing there. How are you feeling, Mother Patience? And Alice says carefully. And Alice knows all about Grandmother Patience for me and Mama. My leg is acting up, Grandmother Patience snaps. I will pulse this. You can put on it, Aunt Alice says soothingly. Grandmother Patience stares at me. It's acting up on account of the lack of sleep I'm getting with the babe up all night crying her heart out. May Amelia, you must be neglecting that child. All it does is cry. Now, Mother Patience, you know very well that May Amelia is doing a fine job with the baby. If she's doing such a fine job, then why does it cry all the time? No good's going to come of her looking after the babe. This girl doesn't have a sense of God to hate her. Look at her. Mother Patience, you aren't helping here, Aunt Alice says, her voice going up a notch. Grandmother Patience hits the floor with her twisted cane eye flinch. This girl is not taking care of the babe, she shouts. All is sick, and I have my hands full with her and the boys. Aunt Alice hollers back. Then I shall care for the baby, Grandmother Patience says. There's no way I'm letting baby Amy anywhere near the old witch. She'd think nothing of taking the cane to her when she cried, I bet. Mama told me to take care of baby Amy, not you, I say. Almost not in her right mind, Grandmother Patience says, dismissing me. Papa walks into the kitchen. What's all the hollering about? Aunt Alice folds her arm across her chest and says, Jelmer, your mother here wants to care for the baby. She doesn't think May's doing a good job looking after her. Papa sighs. You know I'm right, Jelmer. Grandmother Patience says. That child will meet her end by May Amelia's neglect. She's my sister, I say. I know Grandmother Patience is so wrong. I never do anything to hurt Amy. You're the most irresponsible child in this valley, Grandmother Patience shouts. Mother, Papa says, May Amelia is doing a fine job with the baby, and it's what Alma wants. As soon as Alma's better, she'll take care of the baby herself. But, Grandmother Patience says, enough, Mother, this is what I want to hear of it. I cannot believe Papa has stuck up for me, a no-good girl. I meet Papa's eyes across the room and smile, and with real thanks, he nods curtly and leaves. The night, baby and me, and I wake up to a real racket. Everybody in the house is sleeping when Wilbert says to me, Wake up, May. I hear something by the barn. Go get Papa and wake him up. But before I even got out of bed and fetched Papa, there was a horrible roar. Then all of our cows are mooing. Wilbert jumps up and grabs his gun and says, You stay right here, May Amelia. You understand, tell the boys to get to the barn quick. I'm coming, I say. You gotta stay with the baby, he says, and run out of the room. I stand in the kitchen and look out the window. I cannot believe my eyes. There's a big black bear in our barn. And as our old milking cow Liz in his straws and is dragging her out, I learned how to be a real good milker on old Liz. She's lame and can't stand on her leg to kick out, so she's a safe one to milk. She went lame on account of breaking her leg running when she had the steamboat whistle late one night. She got scared and ran across the field and fell in a hole. Now this mean old bear is trying to eat her up. Old Liz is struggling to get away from the bear. She can't on account of her lame leg. All my brothers fire their guns in the air, but they don't get close because everybody knows that bears are real mean, especially when they're hungry. And this one surely is bold enough to break into our barn. I wonder if the same bear has chased me up the tree. The boys fire again, and the big bear growls and stands on its hind feet, and is real big. I cannot tell you how big, bigger than anything I've ever seen. Then Grandpapa goes running out of the house in his birches and takes aim and shoots the bear in the paw. The bear roars because Papa hit it. He's a real good shot, and then it drops down all fours and runs off into the night. Papa comes in and sees me and Amy in the kitchen. You gotta watch out for wild animals, May Amelia. Gotta mind the baby, Papa says. You saw how that bear killed old Liz. She's dead? I say, yeah, Wilbert says. That bear drew about ripped off her head. Papa and Isaiah must mend the barn with latches on the door so that no bear can get at our cows again. Baby Amy walks left after everybody's back in the bed. She's coughing something fierce, coughing like she can't catch her breath. Wilbert is sound asleep, snoring away. I slip out of the bed and light a candle. Amy is rolled onto her belly and she is coughing away, and when she sees me bending over the cradle, she gives a wheeze. I pick her up and pat her on the back, and she gurgles and her breathing comes slow and steady. I think of the bear getting near baby Amy, and it gives me a real chill. I hug her tight to my chest, and she snuffles a little and looks up at me, blinking. It's just me and her in the light of the flickering candle. Don't worry, Amy Alice, I'll take good care of you. After all, you're the only Amy we've got. Chapter 9, What Happened on the Smith Island. Wilbert says I'm grief crazy and sad, and the only way to get rid of the sadness is to sleep it away, but I know that the sadness will never go away. It will tug me down with it into the box with the lavender velvet wedding dress, and I don't care none at all, because that is where I want to be, far away from anything that remembers me. Remembers my name is May Amelia Jackson, the sister of Amy Alice Jackson, for now even my very own hands remind me of it all. I know everyone is worried about me, even Papa, but I cannot help feeling this way. I want to disappear so bad, sink into the woods where no one can ever find me, not even Indians. And I am afraid at all of going away. If they would only just leave me on the baby island, that is all I would want. To be left on the baby island in the nasal, so that I can hear the leaves falling on the water and the crickets chirping and know the passing of the times. That is all I would want, and it is not so very much. Wilbur is right, and I am grief mad, but this hurt is so deep I do not think I've had a place inside me for it. I can't eat or sleep. It keeps calling on me, on and on, never stopping, like Grandmother Patience and her nagging and scolding. I know it will never change, and it will never stop, like her gnarled cane, evil and bent the way it is, and leaving dark blue bruises and blood everywhere. This is what happened. I loved little baby Amy like she was my baby, and truth be told, she was my baby. Mama so sick and all. She looked at me like I was her mouse. She slept when I sang to her, smiled, and I fed her from the milk teat. Our poor Mama, too sick to feed her. She looked fine, really pretty in the blanket I made for her, even though it was cold and bitter, being winter and all. Wilbert found 3 snowflowers and put them on the dresser. Ivan and Alvin and Isaiah made her a cradle, and I put it right next to me in Wilbert's bed so I could be near her at night when she woke hungry, and I had to feed her the milk. She was the most beautiful baby. Everyone said she was so sweet-natured. Even Carlos said so. At night I would wake up sometimes and just look at her sleeping in the cradle in the fine dress Wendell made her, like a real live angel come down from heaven. Mama was feeling better by and by, but I still was the baby's mama, caring and feeding and changing her and all. Wilbert helped me sometimes, although most of the time he was afraid of dropping the little baby, and I had to say, "Look, Wilbert, just hold the back of her head up like this. You got to hold up the back of the baby's head. They're real tender there." Christmas Eve morning I woke up all excited on account of Jolapukki, St. Nicholas, coming to visit us children and bring us gifts. I was feeling like a new minted penny, all fresh and fine, because baby Amy hadn't cried once all night. "Come on, little button," I said. "Time to get up and eat." So I picked her up, but something was wrong. She was all stuck to the corner of the cradle, hard-like, and cold, oh so cold. When I put my ear to her heart, I couldn't hear nothing. Not the little pitter-pat, not the whispery breaths, nothing. And when I started screaming, "Wilbert, Wilbert, Wilbert," and everybody came running, Isaiah, Ivan, Papa, Wendell, Carlo too, but I kept saying, "Wilbert, Wilbert, Wilbert," and finally he came in from the barn, I guess, and said, "May, what's the matter?" I screamed so loud my voice broke. Even God could hear me, I swear. My words were clear to my mouth, and the angels in heaven, "My baby's dead," I said. I cannot remember ever in my life being colder than on the day we buried baby Amy in the graveyard, out on the Smith Island across from the schoolhouse where my Uncle Henry first homesteaded, years ago, high on the hill overlooking the nasal. Even the birds refused to chirp. Wilbert said it was too cold for the birds, but I know it was because baby Amy was dead, and God tells every living thing when babies die and they mourn with us people. No preacher told me this, but I know it is the truth. We put Amy in the dress Wendell had made her. It was real fine, so pretty looking, and Mama used her lavender velvet wedding dress to line the little casket Isaiah made. The box was a small one, so much smaller than Nora's, and I thought the velvet would keep baby Amy warm. There were no flowers to put on the grave, it would be winter, and only tired geraniums. Everyone came from all around to see the Smith Island for the burying. Wilbert said it was on account of Mama having helped birth all the babes in the valley. Our poor sick Mama, with the faraway look in her eyes, who kept saying that Amy was the loveliest baby of them all. Grandmother Patience came to the Smith Island too after the preacher finished his piece, and it was silent enough to hear clear across the nasal. She said, "Poor baby Amy, too bad her Mama never got to care for her, and only May Amelia. She might be alive today and not lying there beneath a pile of geraniums if May Amelia hadn't dealt with her." Papa's mouth dropped open and Mama went all pale, and the boys looked at her with wide, shocked eyes. Wilbert said, "That's a terrible thing to say, Grandmother. There ain't a lick of truth to it." "It's true as my name is Patience Jackson," she said. "The babe would be alive if this evil girl of yours hadn't handled her so." And that is when I ran. I ran so fast that Wilbert could barely catch up with me. I ran all the way to the nasal, tossing off my coat. It made me so slow. I ran and ran and ran to the little boat tied on the river bank, and jumped in with Wilbert shouting, "May, May, wait for me. Don't go out by yourself, May, May. Come out, May." But I couldn't hear him. I was far away already, far away from everything, so deep in my own memories and playing with baby Amy that I barely knew I was in the middle of the nasal in the little boat. When Wilbert reached the bank, he took another boat off the tie-up. I didn't know whose boat, and paddled after me, yelling and hollering, "May, May, come back, stop," and then caught up, pulling his boat beside of mine, and jumped in, but I couldn't see him. All I could see was baby Amy wrapped in Mama's wedding dress, the lavender velvet faded and so worn already, only threads and places moth-eaten too, and I was wondering if she would be warm enough with only that tired old dress to keep her warm with that sharp wind blowing on the nasal, And Wilbert started slapping me hard, saying, May, come back. May, she's wicked old woman, May. It wasn't your fault baby Amy died, because she just did. Babies die like that sometimes. It's not your fault. I had not cried, not one tear since baby Amy had died. And all of a sudden I couldn't stop them, cried and cried until Wilbert's neck. I cried and cried until my throat was sore and it hurt so bad, and I said, Wilbert, I ain't going back there. Take me away, take me away. And he did. He brought me to where Uncle Henry and Aunt Feeney's house in Astoria. They had not come to the funeral on account of not getting the bad news in time. I cannot remember how we got there, only that it was cold enough to my very bones, cold as the ground where baby Amy lay. Wilbert says he thought he'd lost me, that he'd watched the light go out of my eyes with the horrible words left Grandmother Patience's mouth. Somehow Wilbert convinced a Gilnetter to take us across the Columbia in his bateau. The tide against us, the river so full of ice and the wind blowing so hard that he could barely see. Later they told us it was a miracle we even made it across. I imagine we must be quite the sight on that cold winter day, us two children showing up in the dark, half frozen to death, me wearing Wilbert's coat, having thrown mine off me, he frozen straight through from not having his coat to wear, seeing as it was supposed to be warming me, but not doing a very good job of it at all. Uncle Henry answered the door when Wilbert knocked, and he didn't blink twice to see two frozen children standing on his porch as if they had a right to be there. I swear I did not think anything shocked my uncle. He just said, Feeny, I believe we have got some children here for supper, and we best set out the extra plates. Aunt Feeny came to the door, took one look at me and Wilbert with a sight we must have made, and said, Dear Lord, children, what on earth has happened? And then I guess I fainted. When I woke up, I thought, I am in heaven. It was so warm, and there was such a beautiful, sweet voice talking to me. I was certain I was in paradise after all, but when I opened my eyes, I saw that it was Aunt Feeny, and I was in the most glorious bed, and she was bathing me off with warm water and rose soap, and she said, Child, don't you try to speak to me now, you just rest. Just close your eyes and rest. After a time, I did just that. The second time I woke up, I heard someone screaming as if they had been killed or worse, and I said to myself, who is that poor soul screaming like that, and if their skin is being ripped off or something horrible, I cannot imagine what. And then all of a sudden, I was being shook, and I heard Wilbert say, Wake up, May, wake up, May, wake up, May. And I realized it was me who was screaming. It was me. After that, Wilbert spent the night with me, burying us both beneath a nest of quilts, holding me tight, rocking me as if I was baby Amy, and saying over and over, May, Amelia Jackson, don't give up on me. You hear me, May. I am not about to stand for it. You come back to yourself. And me. Do you understand me? And then he rubbed my back, rubbed it warm and soft like he used to when we were small children, and learning our alphabets, wrote my name on my back, a long swirly cursive M, a floppy A, a show-off hook of a Y. And finally, after a long time, I said, I did not kill baby Amy. I did not. She just fell asleep and didn't wake up. I didn't kill her, Wilbert. He just said, I know, May, I know. I'm not going back, I say. It is the first time I have spoken to Aunt Feeny since us children showed up on their porch. Uncle Henry and Aunt Feeny exchange a glance. Wilbert has told them what happened on Smith Island. But May, Aunt Feeny says in a gentle voice, my kind, gentle aunt. I'm not, I say, and that's that. Papa shows up on the porch, and Aunt Feeny answers the door when he knocks. We have been there 1 week. He says, Morning, Feeny. I came for my children. Papa doesn't look so good. He is real pale and looks older than I ever remember him, but maybe that is because I feel so old now myself. I remember Papa saying he hoped that Mama didn't have another girl on account of me. I knew no good would come of Mother living with you, Jalmer, Aunt Feeny says, shaking her head. The child doesn't want to go with you. She says she wants to stay here. I discussed it with Henry, and we'll be happy to keep her on for a spell. Feeny, I don't think Alma's going to be none too pleased about this, Papa says. Aunt Feeny puts her hand on my shoulder and says, the girl needs to mend. Let her stay, Jalmer. Wilbert says it must have been Mother shine to my eyes that made Papa give in so easily. He says I had the look of the young widows of drowned Gilnetters. Papa doesn't say anything. He just stares at me like he doesn't know what to do with a good-for-nothing girl like me. Finally, he says, well, if that's what you want, May Amelia. Come on, Wilbert. We've got work waiting for us on the farm. Wilbert looks at me and says, Please, Pa, I'd like to stay here with May and look after her. She'll be so lonesome without me. Let me stay. Papa sighs real heavy, as if his own heart is breaking or something, and I don't know, maybe it is. I never knew how to figure Papa none too good. He just looks between Wilbert and me and says, Well, fine then. You keep an eye on May Amelia for me and your Ma. Then Papa turns to my uncle and says, Henry, I'd be much obliged if you could find my boy here some work in town so he can earn his keep. You can help on my ship, Uncle Henry says. We're shorthand. Thank you kindly, Henry. I'll have Ivan and Alvin bring up your things, children, Papa says. Be sure to come home and see your Mama by and by. She'll be missing you, but I suspect your Aunt Feeny is right and it won't be doing any harm to ride out the winter here. He leans forward as if to give me a hug, but I back away until I am pressed up against Aunt Feeny's skirt. He sighs sadly and gives me and Wilbert a pat on the head and walks back downhill to the docks. I say, Wilbert, I will never go home. I will never forget what happened on Smith Island. Never. Chapter 10. The things I have seen. The things I have seen since I have been in Astoria could fill a book or a dream. Every morning me and Wilbert go exploring all over town looking for adventures. We take shortcuts through back alleys and all, keep an eye out for smugglers and no good Chinamen. Shanghaiers, Uncle Henry always says. The smugglers and Shanghaiers are exactly the reason we go looking and exploring around Astoria, because there are smugglers and dens everywhere. It's just a question of finding them and finding their treasure. Black Jake, the sailor, is rumored to have hidden out in a den somewhere in the basement hideaways of Astoria's taverns. Uncle Henry says that Astoria has the most saloons and taverns of any town in Oregon. It is the most decadent town between San Francisco and Seattle. There are honky-tonk theaters and scandalous dance halls, and Wilbert tells me that you can pay with salmon to get into them if you show that you have no money. There are lots of taverns in town. 3 of them set on the same row near the docks. All the boys who work on the docks go and sit a spell in them after they get off the boats. It's where the Gilnetters and oystermen's wives go to find them. Uncle Henry says it's a darn fool thing to spend time drinking with stinking sailors when you have a woman waiting at home for you. There are not so many women here in Astoria, and not even many Chinook women. Some of the boys send advertisements back east to Boston and Nova Scotia, too, because there's plenty of Finns up that way. They write things like, "Bride wanted on frontier. They will pay for travel, send picture." Aunt Feeney says the poor men are desperate for a good woman to look after them, and who can blame them? Wilbert tells me that Astoria is filled with nothing but hopeful bachelors. Wilbert works on Uncle Henry's ship only a few days a week and has plenty of time to spend with me. I love living with Uncle Henry and Aunt Feeney here at Astoria. Aunt Feeney's cookie jar is always full, and for once I don't have to worry about a herd of brothers and disappointing everyone because I'm a no-good girl always getting into trouble. It is only Wilbert and me, and it's just fine. In the afternoons we go down to the docks and get fritters from Mariah's tavern. Sometimes I help out in the kitchen with the cooking, and Mariah's shorthand, just cutting up vegetables and whatnot. She's a good cook, Mariah. Uncle Henry buys her all sorts of spices on his voyages, so when she gets to cooking, things have a lot of flavor. She can cook oysters 12 different ways: fried, baked, fricasseed, poached, stew, soup, pies, you name it. I get mine sick of all the oysters after I've worked with her, but the corn fritters are so very good, all hot and fresh and greasy. Why, just thinking about them makes me hungry. She gives Wilbert and me a basket, and we sat into the big hot kitchen to eat. Mariah's white hair is in its long, slender braid, with a red ribbon, and looks real pretty. I don't think she looks scandalous at all. "Do you keep your money on your leg?" Wilbert asks, "'cause that's what everybody says." Mariah kicks out her leg and gives it a good shake. "Hear any coins rattling?" Mariah asks, jiggling her leg. "No, we surely do not." "Well, then I guess everybody's wrong," she says. "I've had something on my mind for a long time. Did you Shanghai my brother Matty to the Orient?" I say. Mariah just shakes her head at me and laughs and says, "Why, Miss May, I've been on real good behavior these days. I don't fancy the law coming after me. I'm not in the Shanghaiing business anymore." Wilbert says, "Well, you should give the sheriff some of these here fritters and he won't bother you none." Mariah laughs and says, "The sheriff does have a taste for my fritters." A mangy dog smells the fritters and starts howling in hunger at the back door of the kitchen. Mariah walks over and tosses it a fritter. "Hush now, puppy," she says. Mariah's not a bit like any of the stories. She's laughing and happy to help out someone who is down on his luck, and she's always beating us children. I know that she was supposed to have killed her husband by now, but I think it's just a tall tale. Mariah couldn't have killed anybody. "What's it like being a widow?" I say. "Being a widow has its advantages, May, with not having to look after some man all the time and cook his meals and tend to his mending." "Yeah," I say, "since we've been with Uncle Henry, I don't have to take care of the farm and mind my brothers, or cook for all the boys every night or anything. We've had similar experiences, I think, then. My husband's been gone 10 years now." I say, "My sister's dead." "Yes, I heard your sister died. Henry told me. I'm terribly sorry." "Her name was Amy," I say. "Amy Alice Jackson." "That's a lovely name." I picked it out myself. "Well then," Mariah says, "that's certainly something." Mariah puts her elbow into the stirring. "But I don't miss her," I say. "You don't?" says Mariah. "Not really. She was just a baby." "Oh, I see." Wilbert doesn't say anything. He's too busy eating the fritters. He's got a grease dripping down his chin. "You know," Mariah says casually, "my husband's been dead for a long time, but I still miss him." "You do?" "Sure I do. He was a good man. I loved him. I remember how sweet baby Amy smelled and how she used to gurgle up at me. I guess I sort of miss Amy," I say. "You know what, May?" Mariah says, "it's okay to miss someone you love after they're dead." "I won't go back home," I say. "Why is that?" "Because Grandmother Patience says I'm the one who killed baby Amy." "Well, May, both of you and I know what the real truth is, don't we? I remember baby Amy's soft, silky hair and how she would blink up at me with her wide, trusting eyes." I shake my head because I don't know any truth at all. Only that Amy's dead and buried in the cold ground, Mariah says, "and you know what? I bet anything Amy knows too, and that's all that counts." But my heart feels so sad it near about breaks. Baby Amy is gone forever, and all because of me. Without any warning at all, Ivan and Alvin come to visit. They brought my things in a small trunk with leather straps. Mom has packed my warm winter sweater inside, and Susanna. Lying next to Susanna is the new outfit the Wendell has sewn for her, a pirate suit. Wilbert says Susanna will look very fierce indeed in the pirate outfit. I expect she will, Wilbert, I say. She is a very fierce doll, you know, and I will braid her hair in the chinook way, and then she will be even fiercer. And you gonna flatten her head like the chinooks do, May Amelia? I'll fix you up a plank board to tie to her head, Wilbert teases. The chinooks flatten their heads because of their babies when they are small. They put the infant between two planks, and the baby's head grows all pointy-like. Uncle Henry said Old Man Wyland told him only the royal chinooks flatten the heads. It's a mark of royalty. It seems mighty strange to me. I would never have let anyone try to flatten baby Amy's head. I say, but Uncle Henry, doesn't the baby's head get all mushed up? That may be, May Amelia, but they seem like mighty smart folks to me. I expect they wouldn't go mushing up their heads if there wasn't a darn good reason. Ivan and Alvin stay the night, and Aunt Phoebe cooks a good supper. All sorts of treats. It's odd indeed to see Ivan and Alvin sitting here at the table with Wilbert and me and Uncle Henry and Aunt Phoebe. So how have you been, May? Alvin asks. Me and Wilbert have been fine. Astoria is a real exciting place to live, I say. There's all sorts of things to see here. There's things to see in Nasal, Ivan says. Astoria is nothing like the farm, I say. That's for sure, says Wilbert. Do you miss Nasal? Alvin asks. Is Mama better? I say, changing the subject. Yeah, says Ivan. That's good. Why don't you come home, May? Alvin says. 'Cause we like it here fine. Don't you miss Mama and Papa? Ivan says. No, I lie. Why is he nagging me? Don't you even miss me and Ivan? Alvin says. No, I lie again. May, Wilbert says and shakes his head. Well, I don't. I say I don't miss anything. I got plenty of things to do right here in Astoria, plenty of folks to see, and there's nothing to see in Nasal. Nothing but cows and farms and logs and a herd of useless boys. I was never happy to be there. Alvin grits his teeth and glares at me. He doesn't speak to me for the rest of the night, and neither does Ivan. After supper, Uncle Henry brings us children into his study, opens a camphor wood chest decorated with carvings, takes out his navigating maps and charts. He spreads them out on the table and shows us how he sailed around the world to China and around Cape Horn and near about everywhere, so far as I can see. Ivan and Alvin don't pay attention to Uncle Henry. They're too busy glowering at me. Aunt Phoebe comes in and laughs at us, saying, Henry, are you telling his children tales or truths? Ever the truth, Phoebe, he says, and goes and gives her a kiss on the forehead. I cannot remember Papa kissing Mama like that. When I think of Papa, all I remember is a scowl. You children listen to what your Uncle Henry says, but only believe half of it. He is a teller of tall tales. Now that is simply an exaggeration, a real slur, Phoebe, Uncle Henry says. Aunt Phoebe wags her finger at Henry and says, Now, my fine Neil McNeil, did you tell them how you carried me off when I was but a girl of 16 and a bony lass your aunt was, children? Full of fire, while I took one look at her and I knew she was the one for me. I tell you, May Amelia, beware of men with silver tongues, Aunt Phoebe says. This devil here swept me clear away from all my friends and family in Finland and brought me to the wilderness, left me to go crazy on Smith Island. Napton was the closest town and was full of only bachelors and vagabonds, not a woman to be found. I tell you, I was the lonesomest person on earth, even when Henry was in port. I'm trying to ignore the twins, but these no good brothers of mine are doing a pretty good job of staring me down. But your aunt had a fine hand with the knitting gillnets, didn't you, darling? Uncle Henry says. When I was out at sea, your sweet aunt here would take pity on the poor bachelor gillnetters and take in some of their nets to knit and mend since they had no wives of their own. Those gillnetters worked hard. They would go out on a Sunday night, come back on a Wednesday morning, leave again in the evening, and not be back home till Saturday night. Wilbert yawns widely. All right, Henry, enough of your tales. These children need to be in bed. Ivan and Alvin have got to be up early to catch the boat back to Napton. Ivan and Alvin don't even look at me. They don't even say good night. When Wilbert and I are in bed, Wilbert says, Ivan and Alvin are pretty upset at you, May. I suspect they are, I say, but I don't want to go home, Wilbert. Wilbert nods his head. He knows my heart. But the next morning there's no boat to be caught back to Napton. The temperature dropped, and the Columbia has risen up like a sheet of glass. Me and Wilbert go ice skating for hours on end, skating around the big ships moored on the docks frozen to the rails. The ice is thicker than a child's fist. It is quite a sight to see all the ships frozen in the water. Ivan and Alvin just sit and stare at us from the docks. They're only speaking to Wilbert now, not to me. Ivan and Alvin are lucky indeed. They have relations to stay with Astoria, because many of the homesteaders who have taken to the boat into Astoria have gotten provisions and trapped and cannot get back home. And worse, Uncle Henry says, trapped knowing that their kin might be getting very hungry. After 4 days of solid ice, folks are getting plain on desperate, it seems, what with worrying about their kin, so Captain Jordan, who runs one of the boats, the Gleaner, announces that the ice has thawed enough to make the trip to the various homesteads, and that all the folks who want to passage are to show up at the docks at dawn. Alvin says, May, don't you want to come home with us? I had almost forgotten that his voice sounded like, no, I say. Alvin grits his teeth and stomps away. August Olson, an old sailing maid of Uncle Henry's, comes to supper the night before the Gleaner's leaving. August Olson was a captain in the Finnish Navy, and he has a mighty fierce look to him, a real blackbeard and bright blue eyes, and a big old scar on his cheek where the blade of crosscut saw, sliced it open during a bad storm. The Captain Jordan is a greedy fool. Any seaman can tell there's a storm brewing, Uncle Henry says. What's the point of risking the lives of folks? I have a mighty bad feeling about the Gleaner, Henry, Mr. Olson says. I won't let these nephews of mine on that ship. There's a storm rolling in. Believe me, Uncle Henry says nothing. Sir, it says, nodding at Ivan and Alvin. August Olson shakes his head and says, my only son Eric is going to set on it, and even though I wanted him not to, he's anxious to get home to his wife and new baby. The boat will never even make it to Nutton between snags, ice blows, and coming storm. It's sailing straight to the devil, and if I end up burying my son, there'll be a killing because I, August Olson, will lynch Captain Jordan and fillet him like a salmon. After supper, Alvin, who is again not talking to me, says, we're going on the boat. We're not staying a minute longer. You can't go, Wilbert says. You heard Uncle Henry. It's too dangerous. I don't care, Alvin says, stubborn. You and May don't miss us none. You should be happy to see us go. You got so much to see here in Astoria, he says. Wilbert tries to convince him to stay, but no matter what he says, those twin brothers of ours don't listen. They're like dumb cows who won't come in during a snowstorm, who just stand there till they're dead from the cold. They won't go, I say. You're just trying to scare us, Wilbert. I hope so, says May, he says. Wilbert and me get up early next morning, intending to go down to the docks to get some breakfast at Mariah's. I'm lacing my shoes when I hear Wilbert. Ivan and Alvin are gone, Wilbert shouts, and sure enough, none of their things are in the bedroom. They must have left very early indeed. I get a bad feeling in the pit of my belly. A feeling that says maybe I was wrong. Wilbert says, come on, May, we gotta do something. We can't let them get on that boat. As we run down the streets, my heart breaks faster and faster. I think it will explode. It will be all my fault if something happens to Ivan and Alvin, and I cannot bear the thought of a world without them in it. Hurry, Wilbert, I says. I'm praying for a real miracle. Down at the docks, there's a real big crowd. Everyone's jostling to get on the Gleaner, but the twins are nowhere in sight. Let's split up, Wilbert says. I run around the crowd and try to push my way, and the people just push me right on back. We gotta find them, I say to myself. And then near the front of the line, I can see two shiny blonde heads bobbing in the mess of people. There they are, I hollered to Wilbert, pushing through the crush. Alvin has a ticket out, and he's handing it to a deckhand when I grab him by the arm. Don't go, I say. Why? Alvin says glumly, his face set. It's real dangerous. Uncle Henry said so himself, I say. Ivan glares at me. We're not scared of anything, he says. Come on, Alvin, Ivan says. Let's get on board. I tug hard on Alvin's arm. I won't let him go. Don't, I plead. Why shouldn't we? Alvin says. He has a hard look in his eyes, a look that is pure stubbornness. I know what I have to do, because I won't want to lose anyone else, not even a pair of stubborn brothers I've missed every day, I say. Alvin stares at me like he's not expecting me to say that I've missed him and Ivan. Well, I say. Ivan smiles and snatches his ticket back, and Ivan grabs me up and gives me a hug. Don't get all mushy, I say, but even still, I hug him back tight. We walk home for breakfast. The Gleaner leaves, and neither of my brothers is sitting on his deck. August Olson, terrible prediction comes true. The Gleaner was near kidnapped when a sudden wind blew against the boat's broadside and capsized it. Nobody knows yet who has lived and who has died, only that the ferry is now on the bottom of the Columbia. But Ivan and Alvin, my stubborn twin brothers, are not on the river bottom with it. The sight of them safe and sound in Uncle Henry and Feeney's house is the best thing I've seen here in Astoria. Chapter 11. A Sorry Girl Indeed. Eventually, the ice melts and Ivan and Alvin get back to the farm, but not before we have some fun together. I am sad that they leave, but not too sad, because for the first time ever, I have a friend who is a girl. Her name is Emma Sorry. She is finished like me and has long blonde hair, which her mother braids every morning. She is a proper young lady. Emma is my age, 12 years only, but sometimes she sounds all grown up like Miss McEwing, especially when I tell her my dreams about wanting to have adventures and sail the world with Wilbert. You've been playing with boys too long, May Amelia. She says you're starting to think like one. That may be, but it seems to me, I say, that it's the boys who get to do all the exciting things while the girls get left behind. I don't want to be left behind. She is so much fun to be with, even though she says I am a sorry girl. Emmy says you're supposed to put your charm to get out a difficult situation. I told her about the time the bear chased me up the tree and said the bear didn't care one bit, indeed, if I was charming or not. She said she couldn't see my point. I've noticed that Wilbert always looks especially clean when Emma is coming to play with us. I suspect that he likes her. I tell this to Emma, and she laughs, her high, sweet laugh, and says, Wilbert, why, I like that Ed Grady. He's so tall and handsome, don't you think? Ed Grady is a sailing hand on Uncle Henry's ship, so Emma always wants to come along when Wilbert and I go to the shipyard. I don't know about that Ed Grady. I can't imagine ever liking a boy the way Emmy does. Not Emma, though. How fine it will be when I get to kiss Ed, she says. Emma closes her eyes and twirls around. I say, Emma, you must be crazy as a lunatic if you're thinking of kissing a boy. I'd sooner kiss one of Isaiah's sheeps. Emma says, May Amelia, I swear, don't you have any romantic notions of that head of yours? I guess I don't. I tell Emma everything, what it's like to live in Nazle and how I am happy to be in Astoria, happy to just be another girl. Not the only no-good girl around. Even though Wilbur is still my best friend, telling things to another girl feels good in a way I can't explain. She has a different way of looking at things. My, Emma says, your papa sounds very hard indeed, but it does seem like you get into a lot of mischief. If I did those things, my father would whip me for sure. Your papa just yells at you. I had never thought of it like that. And really, Emma says, it must be nice to have so many handsome brothers. Handsome and charming, Emma says, like that Ed Grady. But they're always teasing me. What about your Aunt Alice? She sounds interesting. You're sorta like Aunt Alice, I say. Like how? She says, twinkling her nose, just like Aunt Alice. All pretty like she is, and always wearing dresses, and looking like a real proper young lady. That's what girls are supposed to do, Amelia. You're supposed to wear dresses and comb your hair. Didn't anyone ever tell you that? Emma shakes her head, straight curls broadly. She is wearing a fine white dress with lacy edging, and it hasn't a mark on it. Mama won't sew me a white dress on account of me climbing trees. I suspect Emma has never climbed a tree in her life. I hate dresses, I say. You can't run or play or climb a tree in them. May Amelia Jackson, Emma says, you are hopeless. We go to see Aunt Alice. She is having her afternoon tea. May Amelia, she says, how are you doing? Hi, Aunt Alice. This is Emma. I am delighted to make your acquaintance, Emma. Why, what a lovely dress. May Amelia, we have got to get you into a dress like that one of these days. Would you girls like some tea? Yes, please, Emma says. She's so polite. She really is like a miniature Aunt Alice. We are in the sitting room, and Aunt Alice pours tea and passes around a plate of ginger cookies. Now, May, how is that mischievous brother of yours? Aunt Alice asks. Which one, I say. Aunt Alice laughs. Emma, she says, did you know that my niece here has got herself 7 brothers, and each and every one a real gentleman? I sure don't know about gentleman part. Emma is busy looking around Aunt Alice's fine house, admiring her pretty curtains and china. I only got 6 now, and Maddie's been shanghaied. I say, your brother Maddie shanghaied? What a lot of nonsense, Aunt Alice says. It's true, I say. Uncle Arno says he was drinking at Mariah's and got himself shanghaied. We haven't seen him since. Aunt Alice shakes her head like I've got it all wrong. May Amelia, your brother Maddie has not been shanghaied. He is living in San Francisco and doing fine. I don't understand. Why, he married the O'Casey girl, she says. The Irish girl? The one everyone thinks is drowned? They eloped, Aunt Alice says simply. But how do you know? Uncle Arno doesn't even know what happened. Because I helped them. I always was a softie for romance, Aunt Alice says, with a gleam in her eye. I sit back and shake my head. I cannot believe this. Aunt Alice, why, she never does anything sneaky. She's a proper young lady. I try to imagine Maddie with this Irish girl. Imagine that they are happy, living in an exciting, faraway place. Does Mama know? I asked. Yes, I told her a little while back. And Papa? No, May, your Papa has no idea at all. He's the very reason they had to run away. Because Mary's Irish? Yes, May Amelia, Aunt Alice says. You must promise me that you will tell no one. This is a very great secret, just among us ladies, and I don't think your father would ever forgive me if he found out. I don't think Papa would either. I actually feel sorry for Papa. His favorite son ran away because of him. I suspect your brother Maddie will write to your folks and tell them the truth after a little time has passed, Aunt Alice says. Until then, we have to keep our lips sealed. You can count on me, I say. I look at Emma and Aunt Alice, and it feels special that us 3 have a secret. How daring, says Emma. I want to elope someday. Aunt Alice sits back and smiles at her. Well, maybe when you're old enough, I'll help you too. Wilbur and I have made another new friend in Astoria, and he is a Chinaman. Otto is only 11, younger than me even, but he is ever so clever. He can speak Chinese and Finnish and English and some Chinook too, because he learned it from some Chinook children. Otto's father is Joe Cheng, who is the foreman at the Seaboard Cannery here in Astoria and is responsible for all the Chinamen who work there. All the Chinamen have to work in the cannery. Otto says they're not allowed to fish. The men who live in China House, and Otto and his parents have their own house next door. Otto knows near just about everybody in Astoria, and he knows all the good haunts on account of he's lived here for so long. Otto wears pajama pants like the Chinamen I've seen down at the docks. It's hard to believe that we are friends with a real-life Chinaman. Today Otto runs up to us and says, your Uncle Henry's down at the jail. What, says Wilbur. He's trying to get August Olson out. Let's go, I say. Otto leads the way through the streets to the Astoria jailhouse. There is a real crowd outside, and Uncle Henry is at the front of it, raising a ruckus. The sheriff is trying to calm Uncle Henry. Look, Henry, Ungress just plain hunted down Captain Jordan and beat him until he couldn't move. I had to put him in the jail. I have to keep the peace, says the sheriff. The sheriff is a nice man, but he's the 4th sheriff Astoria has had this year. No one seems to like the job very much. The fact that Astoria is the most lawless town around these parts might have something to do with it. That darn Jordan's the one that should be in jail, not August. Uncle Henry hollers, his red mustache twitching fiercely. Calm down, Henry, the sheriff says, holding up his hands beseechingly. But Uncle Henry's all steamed up. Jordan's the reason August's son is in the bottom of the Columbia, and all those other folks with him. You know he should never have taken the boat out, Uncle Henry shouts. But Henry, let him out of that jail. Do you hear me? That's an innocent young man. Sorry, innocent man you got there. That's not justice. The crowd roars and the sheriff shakes his head sadly but goes into the jail. Your Uncle Henry is quite a fellow, says Otto. That's for sure, says Wilbur. A moment later the sheriff walks out, escorting August Olson, who shakes his fist in the air. The crowd starts cheering. To Mariah's, shouts Uncle Henry, wrapping an arm around August, and everybody heads down to the tavern. Well, I'll be, says Otto. They never let a Chinaman out of jail. What do you mean, I say. We're nothing but workers, May Amelia. Nobody would ever stand up for this. That's why they ship us back to the Orient. I wonder if Otto is maybe exaggerating, but his eyes are steady. I don't know that they could do that here in America. That's just terrible, I say. Otto shrugs insensibly, but it's the truth. It gets me thinking. Maybe they'd ship me to Finland if I got into some real trouble because I'm a Finn. That sure would be exciting. It's one way to trouble the world. Emma and I visit Uncle Henry's ship on account of Emma wanting to spy on Ed Grady. Uncle Henry's ship is a 168-foot-long, 2-deck, 3-masted bark called the Coloma. It is a carved figure of a mermaid at the head of it and carries lumber from Astoria all the way to the Orient. I've noticed that the mermaid's face bears a resemblance to Aunt Feeney's. Uncle Henry has a crew of 25 men when he goes out to sea, but when he is in port there are only 5 men on board. Wilbur has been helping repair the rigging that had got damaged in the storm the last time Uncle Henry was out to sea. He gets to climb the high mast, and Ed Grady says Wilbur moves faster than the monkeys he's seen climbing the trees in the jungles of Africa. Ed Grady has such wonderful stories from all his travels. He has been near about everywhere. He is tall and his face real brown from being out in the sun all the time, and he's real old, why he's nearly 30. He says, hello, Emma. Hello, May Amelia. Hi, Ed, Emma says with a big smile. What are you lovely ladies up to today? Just visiting Wilbur, I lie. Must get back to work, ladies, Ed says with a wink and walks away. Wilbur comes up and says, hi, Emma, but Emma only has eyes for Ed. She is watching him order some sailors about. Emma, I say, Ed's too old for you. But he's not married. Why would you go on want to get married? I say. Just because, she says, and stomps off, following Ed Grady like a puppy. I sure do like Emma, but I don't understand her one bit. And now Emma is all excited because there is to be a dance on Friday. She is making a new dress to wear. What will you wear, May Amelia? She says, I can't go, I'm too young, my ma and pa won't let me, but Emma is real clever. She says, well, May Amelia, you aren't exactly living with your ma and pa now, are you? I suspect your Aunt Feeny would let you go. I haven't got a thread to wear, I say, adding my overalls. We don't make you a little visit to your Aunt Alice. She has fine hand with sewing, and if anyone has extra fabric lying around, it's her. Emma is clever for sure, and besides, this is something only girls can do together. Even though I'm not fond of dresses, Emma makes it sound real exciting, so maybe it is. We go over and visit Aunt Alice, who is real pleased to see me, and my charming friend Emma. Emma wastes no time explaining the situation to her, and the next thing I know, I am standing on a stool in my drawers, while 2 of them tack calico fabric around me. I'm so full of pins that I can hardly breathe, let alone wriggle. They leave me standing there like a porcupine while they walk around me and adjust this hem and that tuck and knit the waist in just a bit tighter here and there. I can't take it anymore. Get me out of these darn pins, I say. Emma is right shocked at my language. She says, May Amelia, you curse like a boy. You should mind your language. You'll never get a fella if he hears you talking like that. I say, I don't care about getting a fella. I got 7 brothers already. Why would I need another boy anyways? They say I'd be happier if I was more like a proper young lady, but I suspect they're the ones that'd be happier, not me. Aunt Alice and Emma just shake their heads at me. They both agree that I am a sorry girl indeed. Finally, Friday comes, and not a moment too soon. I am so darn sick of pinning and poking and trying on petticoats and discussing how to put a ribbon in my hair that I don't care if I go to the dance after all. They have got me so stuffed into this dress so tight I can barely sneeze. I thought a dance would perhaps be more fun than this. After Aunt Alice finishes fixing me in the dress, Wilbert and me go to Emma's house to fetch her. Wilbert's eyes just about fall out of their head when he sees her walking downstairs in her fine yellow dress. She looks like a picture, to be sure. Me and Wilbert and Emma get to the hall, but nobody's really dancing. Just all the girls are sitting on this side of the room looking like dressed-up dolls, and all the boys are sitting on the other side, scratching at their stiff shirt collars. I get a handful of cookies and sit down in a corner to watch the proceedings. There's a lively fiddle player, and soon enough folks get to dancing, but I can't be bothered. I swear it's so boring being a girl sometimes. Some boy with big ears comes up to me and says, Do you want to dance? I'm just plain shocked. I cannot imagine having to dance with this boy. Thanks, but I do not feel too well, I say, and run outside. There is no way I'm going back inside. I decide to go and visit Otto. I knock on the door to his home, and his mama answers. She smiles at me and calls back into the room. Otto comes running to the door. I thought you went to the dance, he says. It was boring. Otto nods. He's not much interested in dances either. I have to do something. You want to come with me? He asks. Sure, I say. He leads me down to the bay. There is full moon, so it's easy to see the clear water. What's going on? I say. Look, Otto says, and he points his finger out of the water. A bateau is sailing toward where we are standing on the craggy rocks. It's just a gillnetter, I say. No, Otto says, they're smugglers. Real live smugglers right here in Astoria? Smuggling what? Maybe treasure, maybe gold, ingots, maybe silk from the Orient? What are they smuggling? I say. Gold? People, he says. What do you mean, like Shanghai slaves or something? No, the gillnetter works for the seaboard cannery and they need more workers. So they sent for Chinamen from the Orient. But they can't bring them during the day because it's illegal on account of them not having proper names, so they smuggle him at night, and I bring them over to the factory. Why don't they have papers, I say. It takes too long to get them, but won't they get caught? Otto rolls his eyes and says, nobody can seem to tell any Chinamen apart. They think we all look alike. So how can you get caught? Otto surely does have a point. The smuggling bateau pulls up to the beach, and Otto steps out with a lantern, and about 6 Chinamen get out and walk over to us. Otto gestures to them and says something in Chinese, and then we're off running through the tideland weeds, staying low all the way to the China house. Then we get to the China house, and an old Chinese woman lets us through a basement, which is a big table set with all sorts of food and bowls, and it smells awful good. Me and Otto have a little midnight snack with the new Chinaman. I speak Finnish with Otto, and Otto speaks Chinese with the Chinaman. It's a very confusing night. Indeed, everyone's laughing and chattering. Why, it's like a real party. And Otto's mama is just like my own mama, the way that she is wearing a big apron and dishing out food to everybody and scolding Otto when he forgets his table manners. It's just like a normal family, even though they are all Chinamen. I don't see what Otto meant about people looking the same. They all look different to me. Why, one of them's got a real skinny face. And the fella sitting across from me has round cheeks that look like apples. The food is real tasty, too. All sorts of soups with seaweed and salmon and all these things that Otto says are called noodles. It's not at all like the way that Finns cook. It's much nicer than fish head stew. I wouldn't mind living here one bit. This is heaps more fun than that stuffy old dance, I say. That's for sure, says Otto. You're not very good at being a girl. That's what Emma says, too. She says I'm a sorry girl. She's right, but you sure are heaps more fun than a real girl, she says. I suspect that I should take offense by this grin. I know that he intends it to be a compliment. I'm having a hard time using the sticks to pick up the food. Otto says that they're called chopsticks, and they're very tricky indeed. More of the food is ending up on my dress than in my belly. Finally, Otto says something in his mama, and she brings over a big spoon. By the time I'm ready to go home, I have a full stomach. Thank you kindly, I say, and start walking down the quiet street. When I look back, Otto and his kind mama with the big smile are standing at the door, her hand on his shoulder, and for a moment I miss every own mama. So much it hurts. Aunt Feeny is waiting on the porch for me. She eyes my dress, which has got mud on it from mucking about, and food all down the front. She smiles wryly and says, You look real pretty in that dress. Did you have a nice time at the dance, dear? I guess she's just happy that I'm in proper dress for a change. I say, Had a real fine time. She says, Where's your brother Wilbert? I say, I don't rightly know, but I suspect that he is with Emma. Wilbert gets home real late, and he has one big smile. Even his eyes are sparkling, so I say, Did you catch a kiss from Emma? And he says, May Amelia, gentlemen don't talk of such things. I say, Wilbert, you're surely no gentleman. But he wouldn't say a word, so I suspect that he did get a kiss after all. Chapter 12, A Lucky Doll. It is the first day of March, and Papa appears on the front porch of Aunt Feeny at Uncle Henry's house. Aunt Feeny says, Your grandmother Patience has died, God rest her soul, and we must go to Nasel for the funeral. I expect your mother will want you and Wilbert back with her, so pack up your trunk and we'll take it when we go. Me and Wilbert look at each other. Grandmother Patience is dead? I cannot believe my ears. How'd she die? Wilbert says. The scarlet fever's come to the valley, and many folk are real sick, Papa says. Papa doesn't look too good himself. He's thinner than I remember. Papa shakes his head and says, Your brother Whittle has been sick nigh on 3 weeks, and your poor mother is plumb worn out between nursing him and every other soul who comes to our door in the middle of the night for her medicines. It's real bad, May Amelia. And I'm out of a mind not to bring you children home and risk you getting sick too, but we're drowning and your ma needs another hand to help her. Wilbert says, Has anybody else died? Well, so far your grandmother Patience and Lottie's mom, Mr. Peterson, are the only ones. They have closed the schoolhouses. They don't want the sick children infecting the healthy ones. Now get on and pack your things. Time's a-wasting. I truly thought I would never want to see Nasel or our homestead again, but as we row up the Nasel, the familiar sight of our house nestled in the valley with the great mountains rising around it makes my heart beat faster. All the boys are waiting to see me. Alvin, Ivan, Carlo, and even Isaiah, who has left the sheeps to come and welcome me and Wilbert back. I look around. Where's Wendell? I say. Mama looks worn out, but she is real glad to see me and Wilbert. He's sick in bed, she says. Bosie comes charging and yipping and barking at me. He jumps all over me and near about knocks me down. I guess he missed me too. Get down, Bosie, I say. Me and Mama, we sit in the kitchen at the table. Everything is the same, even the smells. Mama tells me everything that has passed since we've been gone. How she worried after us and how sad a mother could be about losing Amy, but that God works in strange ways and that she was a lucky woman to have only lost one of her children with so many folks lose all theirs. and my, what a shame it was that Grandmother Patience was called to God, but she had a full life, she was an old woman, and there's no reason to cry when an old person passes on. It's the way it's supposed to be. I say, I'm not sad, Mama. Grandmother hated me. And Mama, why, she just reaches over and pulls me tight against her faded gunny sack dress, and smelling of flour, and gives me a squeeze. She says, I'm not sad either, May Amelia. Your Grandmother Patience had near about every living thing. Hated near about every living thing. I stay home with Wendell while everyone else goes to Grandmother Patience's funeral. Wendell is pretty weak and has a real sore throat, and he spends a lot of time complaining and saying, May, can you bring me some soup? And May, can you bring me some water? And May, can you bring me some bread? Now I know that Mama is a strong woman. She can put up with nonsense like this all the time. Wendell says she is happy that I am back, and Bosie has not barked once since we left, and that the kittens were crying for me all the time. I brought back Susanna, I say. Wendell coughs and gives me a weak smile. I'm glad, he says. I miss Susanna, too. All the folks who attended the funeral come back around to our house afterward and bring all sorts of nice food. There's a cobbler, roast duck, venison stew, squeaky cheese, and my very favorite fresh pula, which is fish bread, flavored with cardamom, topped with sugar icing. Uncle Arno has even brought his last bit of smoked salmon. They said a service for Grandmother in the Rokashon. Wilbert tells me that Grandmother Patience needs all the prayers she can get, and he doubts she's in heaven on account of her meanness. Just about everybody in the valley has come to our house, and it seems like more of a party than a funeral, the men drinking and singing old Finnish sailing tunes, and women all gossiping in the kitchen about this and that. I am kept very busy indeed, making sure there is plenty of food on the table and that Wendell is comfortable in his sickbed. Papa has banished Bosie and Buttons to the barn, but there are quite a few children here, and Wilbert is talking with Lonnie. Lonnie, I'm real sorry to hear about your mama dying like she did, I say, but Lonnie just shakes his head. Wilbert says, let's steal a pie and go to the barn and play with Bosie, just us three. I take a mince pie made of venison and apples and raisins when we sneak out of the back and run into the barn. It's all snug and warm and cozy, and we climb up the ladder in the hayloft, and Wilbert spreads his horse blanket down on the hay, and we sit there and eat the mince. Buttons sidles up and mews for a scrap. Lonnie's a big boy, and he goes at the mince pie like he hasn't eaten in years. Between mouthfuls, Lonnie explains how quickly his ma died, how he still expects to hear her hollering for him to fetch some wood or build out the fire, but that she's well and truly dead, and that our brother Isaiah went over and built a box for her because his pa was too drowned in the bottle so much as to lift a hat of her. He seems so calm about it all that he cannot help himself. I say, do you miss her, Lonnie? Do you miss your ma? And he has just taken a bite of mince, and then his face sort of screws up, and he spits out the mince into the hay and starts crying, bawling big great tears. Wilbert and I put our arms around him and hug him tight, let him cry into my apron until he's soaked clear through. Why isn't she coming back? He wails. Why can't I go to heaven and visit her? I miss my ma. Shh, I say, it's going to be all right, and my eyes meet Wilbert's. We've got Wilbert and me, I say. You still got us. I get no sleep at all between thinking of Lonnie's ma and nursing Wendell. It is the first time I have been back in me and Wilbert's bedroom since baby Amy died. Somebody has taken away the cradle, is nowhere in sight, and for no reason at all that I can figure, I keep thinking of baby, waiting to hear her wake up and cry. Across the room, Wendell is up all night feverish. I stay up with him as Mama is just too tired after nursing Grandmother into the grave. Poor Wendell mutters a lot about Wildcat Clark and Susanna, and I cannot understand what at all. He is burning up, but keeps saying that he's freezing, which makes no sense. I cool him off with water for the nasal that Wilbert fetches for me. All the boys lend a hand. Ivan and Alvin sit by the stove and keep an eye on the broth that's simmering there, and Isaiah helps build up the fire. I can tell that even Carlo is worried by the way he keeps sticking his head in the door and asking if Wendell's any better. Wilbert comes in and sits with me for a time. I say, do you think Wendell's going to die like Lonnie's mom? Wilbert looks at me real shocked like, surprised that I would suggest such a thing, and says there is no way Wendell is going to die. Do you understand me, May Amelia? I say, yes, I understand you, Wilbert. I am not an idiot. I am not slow like Lonnie. Well then, May, why did you ask such a foolish question? Do you want to put the hex on him with your talk? For the first time ever, I think that Wilbert does not understand me, so I try to explain. But Wilbert, baby, Amy died, and now Wendell could too. You know he could. We've got the bad Jackson luck again. The bad luck's not back, he shouts. I think Wilbert is scared of Wendell dying, and he doesn't understand that I'm scared too. The next morning, Wendell is still very bad. He is burning up, his skin is hot to touch, and nothing will bring down the fever, not even Mama's willow bark tea. He is throwing up, he can't keep anything in his stomach, not even water, and he's covered with red bumps everywhere, a scarlet rash. When Mama sees the red bumps, she starts crying. It's a bad sign. I can't bear to lose another child, Jalmer, she says, weeping into my father's chest. When I hear that, I am so angry I cannot say a word. I just grab Wilbert and run out of the house. We have to do something, I shout. We can't just let Wendell die. Wilbert shakes his head. We is stuck. We have never known our Mama to give up like this. I think hard. Bosie has followed us out into the yard and nips at my leg. He wags his tail and gives a yelp. What about Chinook medicine, I say. Yes, says Wilbert. After all, Jane mended Bosie. Let's go, I tell Wilbert, and we run down to the front path. Wait, I say, and run back inside for Susanna. We need all the help we can get. Old Man Wyland and Wildcat Clark are sitting at the porch smoking pipes when we come running up. "What do you rapscallions want?" Old Man Wyland says, blowing smoke out in rings. "Wendell's sick. He's got the fever," I say. "We need to get some medicine. Bad luck," Wildcat says. The old man nods his head. "Go on around back," he says. "That wife of mine should have some tonic." We knocked on the door of the cedar house, and Jane opens it. "Wendell's sick and Mama thinks he's going to die," I say. "He's got the fever and we have to save him." Jane nods her head and disappears into the back room. She returns carrying a small jar. "It's you sweat," she says. "Very good for fever." "Thanks," Wilbert says, taking the jar from Jane and tucking into his shirt. "I see you brought Susanna," Jane says. "There's something I've been meaning to give you." Jane has made Susanna a chinook dress just like hers. It is made of young cedar bark that has been beaten soft and then woven into a long tunic with a fringe. Susanna looks like a real Indian princess. "She looks fine," I say. "We gotta go," says Wilbert. We are almost out the door of the lodge when Jane says, "Wait." Jane sticks a long black feather inside Susanna's dress. "From Tawawanis, the guardian spirit, for good luck," she says and smiles. Windus is still tossing and turning when we get home, and the skin is hot to the touch. Mama gives him Jane's tonic and says, "Cross your fingers, children." I put Susanna on the table next to Wendell's bed and sit in the rocking chair, the same chair I rocked baby Amy in. I mop his head with a wet cloth. His skin is still red and bumpy like fleas have been at him, but I know the bumps aren't from fleas, but from the fever. "Please don't die, Wendell. I can't lose you too." When I wake up, Bosie is licking my hand and my neck is a crick in it, on account of me falling asleep in the rocking chair. "Stop it, Bosie," I say grumpily. I hear a sigh and look over at the bed. Wendell is squinting at me in the early morning light. His glasses are on the table next to the bed. He reaches a hand out and slides them on. "That's a fine dress Susanna has on her, May," Wendell says weakly. I put my hand on his head and it's cool as can be. "Yes," I say. "Jane made it for her, for luck." Wendell smiles. "Susanna is a lucky doll indeed." Chapter 13. Happy to be here. It is finally spring, but I am feeling sad even though the yellow daffodils are pushing their heads out of the ground and the crocuses too. Now that Wendell is better, I have time to think, and it seems that every little thing reminds me of baby Amy, and not even Buttons the cat or Bosie and his tricks can cheer me up. I'm feeling low, I say. Wilbur says, "I bet Lonnie's feeling a whole lot worse than you, May, alone in that house like he is with no mama. Let's go and visit him." Lonnie is just sitting on his porch mending an old net of paws when he walks up. We look sort of mangy, like his clothes haven't been washed in a long time. There is a long streak of dirt in his cheek. His face lights up when he sees us. "Hi, Lonnie," Wilbert says. I peek inside the front door of his house. It's a real mess. It looks as if a woman has not been in this house for the whole winter. I don't ask Lonnie where his pa is, because from what Carla heard, it seems that Mr. Peterson has taken to working at the lime quarry out near Napton. Lonnie's left by himself all day, what anyone can tell. Doesn't go to the schoolhouse anymore since his ma's not there to tell him to, and has near about forgotten any of the English that we learned. I tug Wilbert aside. "Wilbert," I say, "we gotta clean this place. It's not fit for Bosie in the state it is now. Lonnie can't do it on his own, and Pa's sure not been paying any mind." Wilbert and I set about helping Lonnie clean his house. It smells awful bad, and there is washing needing to be done everywhere. I send Wilbert and Lonnie off to our house to fetch and lie. I sort things out, put all the washing to be done in a big basket by the door, open the windows to air out the rooms, and scrub the floors downstairs. After I've done the upstairs, I will polish all the floors with skim milk so that they have a shine. In the kitchen there is no food, just baskets of old rotting vegetables, mostly tideland grasses from the looks of it. I suspect that Lonnie has not got his proper meal since his ma died, and probably has been eating only goose ground greens, which are stewed tideland grass roots. They are nasty tasting. When the boys get back, I send them out to Fresh Bay for the barn for the mattress sticks and pick daffodils through. Wilbert puts up a bit of a fuss about having to pick flowers. "You could always do the washing," I say, setting a big copper pot to boil on the stove. He thinks better of it and grabs Lonnie's hand and leaves. I put the cotton sheets in the boiling water and hope they come out looking better than they did going on. I clean the house slowly, room by room, and have the boys take out the old hay, which is full of bugs and Lord knows what else. When I get to Lonnie's ma and pa's bedroom, I stop and wonder if I should go in and decide that it probably needs to be cleaned. But it's clean as a whistle, the cleanest room in the house. There's truly not a speck of dirt in the room, not a cobweb, nothing. Maybe Lonnie's ma is hunting this room, coming back and cleaning it herself. It's a very nice room, actually, with a fine pine sleigh bed, and a big wardrobe, and a small ladylike dresser, which I suspect was hers. I imagine Miss Peterson, with her wide hips and white hair, smoothing the top of the dresser clean with the hem of her apron, the same apron she used to wipe the corner of Lottie's mouth when he was a baby. Whenever I think of her, I picture her in that same white starched apron, and I wonder if they buried her in it, or maybe Lottie's pa simply burned it in the fireplace. burned it away so he wouldn't be reminded of how soft her cheeks were and how she never got the hang of speaking English. After I looked through all the cupboards in the kitchen, it is clear there is not a bite of food in the house, so I decided to invite Lonnie and his pa over for supper. Supper is a festive occasion, and I, for one, am a sorry child indeed that not one of us thought to invite Lonnie and his pa over sooner. Mr. Peterson is just bursting with things to say. He's practically babbling, and he devours every bite of food that's put in front of him, and Lonnie does too. Come to think of it, the two of them are looking a little thinner than I remember. Lonnie's pa seems particularly happy to see Mama. He says, "My Alma, how fine you are looking." Mama just blushes like a girl, really, like one of those girls who used to chase after Maddie. "Thank you, Orion," she says. Papa tugs at his beard, a sure sign that storm is brewed. "And Ivan and Alvin and Wendell and Carlo and Isaiah and Wilbur to me? Why, we know better than to say anything at all." Mama sends Lonnie and his pa home with bowls full of venison stew and bread and eggs from our hens and cream, even a blackberry pie. They will not be eating tideland grasses for a while, for the looks of it. Papa is in an ornery mood when I ask him if I can take the little boat out to the Nasal. He says, "May, Amelia, can't you stay out of trouble for 2 seconds? Girl, I swear you are more work than all your brothers put together. You're more trouble than you're worth." "But Papa," I say, he's getting all worked up, "you can't take the boat out unless one of the boys is with you. How many times do I have to tell you, May Amelia? I should have just left you in Astoria," he hollers. I just stand there looking at him, and I can see Papa thinking I'm going to run away and hide like I usually do. But he's wrong. I'm never going to hide again, no matter what. I just stare right back at him, and finally he turns in disgust and slam. He's gone out the door. Nothing's changed, I say. "He's just in a mood," says Wilbur. "He's always in a mood. He hates me. I wish we were back in Astoria." Wilbur doesn't say anything. I say, "Wilbur, take me to Smith Island. I want to see baby Amy's marker." Papa couldn't afford a fancy marker, May. There's only the small cross Isaiah carved, Wilbur says. I cannot bear the thought of it. "Let's pick some flowers," Wilbur says, but I just shake my head and my heart is too sad for words. Wilbur picks some daffodils, and we row down the Nasals to the Smith Island and walk to the cemetery. It's a fine day, and the wind is blowing right off the water, all warm and sweet, not like the day we buried her. When we get to the grave, I feel so sad that she is lying beneath all that dirt that my heart nearly breaks. I say, "Wilbur, I am the saddest girl that ever lived." He says, "Cheer up, May Amelia. Baby Amy is most likely smiling down at us from heaven, and she is not sad. Why, I reckon she has a pair of wings and all sorts of nice things to eat like we had at Aunt Alice's house. I am still a very sad girl." He says, "Come on, May. The only cure for sadness is a swim in the Nasal." We decide to head back home and swim up river from the house, and Bosie comes with us. Bosie's more excited than us children. He loves to swim. He's barking at my feet, and so I undress down to my drawers and dive into the river. I say, "Come on, Bosie, jump in, boy." Old Bosie looks at me once or twice. Who can tell what he's thinking? And then without a lick of warning, it just jumps right in and starts paddling around. "Well, I'll be," says Wilbur. "That dog actually minded you." I say, "Come on, Wilbur, the water's fine. I forgot my sailing boat," Wilbur says. "I'll run to the house to get it." Me and Bosie swim way out to the center of the Nasal and paddle around. Bosie's biting at the water, trying to catch the little fishies. "Bosie, all you're catching is water," I say. I float on my back and look up at the sky. It's blue as can be, and the Nasal water smells so fresh and sweet like my beautiful baby Amy. The water tugs and pulls and swirls around me, and I think about how I'll never get to teach her to swim or catch fishies on the baby island or go to Astoria or have adventures. She is gone forever, deep in the ground. I will always be the only Jackson girl out here. I'll always be alone. And then all of a sudden I hear Wilbert screaming, and he's running toward us from downriver, running as fast as Maddie and Carlo even. Wilbert's hollering and yelling at me, screaming, May, get out of the Nasal. They're sending logs downriver. The dam is open. Get out, May." Bosie's yapping beside me, yapping like mad, and when I look upriver, sure enough, there is something coming downriver in the distance. Huge round logs are rushing down the Nasal from Mid Armstrong's logging camp, rushing straight at us, straight at me and Bosie. It seems that time slows down to a crawl, and that the wind blowing over the Nasal has never been as sweet, and that the valley has never looked as bright and yellow and crowded as daffodils, and that if I look hard with my heart, I can see down the Nasal to Baby Island, and around the bend to my very own snag, and farther down to Smith Island, and remember a time not so long ago when I wished myself gone far away like baby Amy, far away in heaven with the angels. And then I'd look at the bank, at Wilbert, waving at me and yelling, May, what are you waiting for? Hurry up, I know that I'd be very sad indeed if I wasn't around anymore. I grab Bosie by the piece of rope around his neck and swim as hard as I can to the bank, but the logs are coming fast as salmon. The water is pulling at me, and the river is dragging, and I can't seem to make my arms move quick enough. I hear the loud rush of the logs banging each other, and I think, I'm not going to make it after all. I'm going to be dead and buried with baby Amy on Smith Island, and it will say on marker, May Amelia was not paying attention to us as usual. Then all of a sudden, I see that Wilbert has climbed the tree branch as fast as a monkey, and he swings down from a branch and hoists me and Bosie too. And when I look down, I can't see any water at all, only logs crashing down the Nasal. Wilbert pulls me up, and we climb down the tree to the ground, but I can't catch my breath. I just sit there, dripping wet, Bosie yapping away and shaking and shaking. and Wilbert's standing over me, gasping too, and he grabs my shoulder and shakes me hard like he can't believe I am sitting with him on the bank, all covered with mud and whatnot. I say, Wilbert, the nasal almost got me that time. He doesn't say anything, he just shakes his head. A real good Lord, may Amelia, look on his face, and I look over his shoulder at the nasal raging by full of logs crashing down the water like an angry waterfall, and I imagine me, May Amelia, lost in that fearsome rush of water, and then I hear Bosie yapping, and there's Mama and Carlo, and Ivan and Alvin and Isaiah and Wendell, and even Papa running up the bank. Papa reaches us first, but his face is dark as thunder. I know I'm going to get whooping for sure, but instead he just pulls me into himself, right into a big bear hug. He squeezes the breath right out of me, and when he lets me loose, his eyes are all watery. Oh, May, Mama says. Wendell, who is still looking frail on account of getting over his fever, is holding Susanna, and he says, May Amelia, we thought you were dead. We thought you were drowned right there in the nasal with all those logs. Didn't you see the boy running by to warn you they were opening the splash jam? I shake my head. I did not see any child run by. He throws Susanna at me. I just hold Susanna tight like a baby and look down at the river, down at the nasal, to the Smith Island, and I look at Mama and Papa and Carlo and Wendell and Ivan and Alvin and Isaiah and Wilbert and think of Maddie so far away, starting a new life with his Irish bride, Mary O'Casey. And I think maybe I am a lucky girl after all, to live here, live on the nasal, even though it is in the middle of nowhere. Bosie shakes his fur and barks at me. I look at Wilbert and say, I am happy to be here, Wilbert. May Amelia, he says on a sigh. I believe we are all quite happy that you are here. After all, you're the only May we've got. And he was right. I was the only May Amelia Jackson they had. And it says, the first page from the diary of the author's grand aunt, Alice Amelia Holm. Author's note, 6 years ago, the diary of my great aunt, Alice Amelia Holm, was discovered in an old suitcase in my grandmother's house. As a Christmas present to my aunt, Elizabeth Holm transcribed the diary and gave copies to family members. It was the best gifts I ever received. The entries began in 1900, and Aunt Alice was 12 years old and ended 6 years later when she became a teacher. She wrote about everything from playing tricks on her brothers to visiting cousins along the river going fishing, although Aunt Alice died before I was born. The diary made me feel as if I knew her, or at least identified with her. I had always been intrigued by my father's stories about growing up on the Nasal River, but suddenly I wanted to know more about my heritage. As I began to delve into the family history, I kept imagining what Aunt Alice's life might have been like, and I started writing what would become our only May Amelia. My great-grandfather, Charles Holm, immigrated from Finland in the early 1870s, and was one of the first settlers on the Nasal River Valley. The Washington Territory was one of the last stretches of the unsettled frontier at the turn of the century. Unlike Oregon, immigration to Washington did not begin in earnest until the late 17th century, with the boom of lumber industry in the 1880s, and the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad in 1893. The settlers who came to the southwest coast of Washington along the Columbia River were not Americans from the east, who settled in the other western states such as California and Oregon. For the most part, they came from Sweden, Norway, and Finland, immigrants lured by the promise of good fishing, timber, and land. Nasal was settled primarily by Finnish immigrants and was known locally as Little Finland. However, the Chinook Indians were the first true residents of the Nasal River Valley. Nasal comes from the Chinook word nasil, which means sheltered and hidden. A small Indian tribe and their chief were named Nasil, which is now the river came to bear that name. The spelling changed around the end of the 19th century to Nasal, and today the river is known as the Nasal. The Finnish settlers carved out new lives on this harsh wilderness where everything from chopping down the mighty trees to transporting an iron cook stove required sweat and ingenuity. The river and swinging bridges were the primary means of transportation until the 1920s, when roads and cars finally became dominant, and like the Jacksons, nearly everyone, including non-Finns, spoke Finnish well into the 1930s. Children typically did not learn English until they began their schooling, which was often sporadic because everyone was needed to help with the framework. In writing this book, I relied heavily upon oral histories from family members as well as local historical societies. I learned that people really did polish the floor with skim milk, eat black soda, which I still eat, and use bear grease to spruce gum pitch as ointments. The Gleaner did sink in the Columbia River during a terrible storm in 1888. The Smith Island, a tideland with a raised knoll on the Nasal River, is named after my grand-uncles Isaiah Smith and Henry Smith, who homesteaded there in the 1870s, and the May Snag incident really did happen. Lucy May, a cousin of my grandfather's, was a notoriously chatty girl, and one of her brothers threatened that she would be left on the snag of the river if she didn't stop talking. If you look closely at a detailed map of the Nasal River today, you'll find May Snag, though for the purposes of this story I had to move it closer to the Jackson farm. And whatever happened to Aunt Alice, my inspiration for May Amelia? She grew up to become a much beloved teacher in the Nasal area. Her first teaching post, for which she earned $40 a month, was in 1905 on the Smith Island. The last entry in her diary reads, February 28, 1906. I am a teacher. I studied real hard and passed the exam, although I think it is nice work. There is much responsibility about it. I am to begin another term in the Fen country in 2 weeks, and will take this book along, so I think I will write some in it. There. Goodbye, Alice Holm. And then it lists resources. Okay. Thank you for listening to Our Only May Amelia by Jennifer L. Holm. Let me know if there are any parts that you particularly liked or that were your favorite in this book. I like that it's really more detailed, and you can really visualize it very well, the way that it's written. It's a really fascinating book. Thank you for listening.